Alright, so now we're gonna call her out. Tell her that the whole point of this is to fucking do something. Something about a monster. Oh. Or we're just gonna do all of them. You're desperate, you need an alibi, you're a thirsty perv, you feel guilty if you let me die, and all of them. At that moment, my head was flooded with information. Felt like my mind was crushed by 1,000,000 sheep. That's how we died last time. Crap, why'd I forget? Did my memories carry over in a weird way because the method from back then was weird? Well, then again, this wouldn't be the first time my memories didn't carry over properly. Maybe I should have counted myself lucky for remembering it all. I had tons of things to think about. About the beast in the village. The giant monster. The dream enveloping Fujiyoshi, as well as the looping the sheep had told me about. But this wasn't the time to worry about that. Haraki-san, what's wrong? This girl. One time she, fearful of God, faced the wolves with me and eventually met an awful end in Saranaga. Another time she was a cold-blooded wolf that silenced one of her own, then when cornered tried to kill everyone. And last time, she interfered with us wolves by, for whatever reason, killing herself on the first day of the feast. Her smile that night had been burned into my mind, continuing to torment me. Chiemi Serizawa. Hold on. I knew the reason why she'd done that. It was simple. She'd been dropping hints ever since the very start. They were more like slips of the tongue, small and almost impossible to notice. Hey, you not feeling too good? Do you hate this sort of stuff? Sorry, I guess I got carried away. All of them. Huh? All the options you named are correct. Yeah, there were wolves here in Fujiyoshi. Yeah, you were a real murderer. And correct me if I'm wrong, but before I came to Saranaga, you were about the soft, chocolate girls. Preparing to kill people is something you'd want to hide, so you needed an alibi. Huh? Why? You remember the previous lives. You should hurry before I change my mind. Hey, that might have been our final farewell in this life, so I wanted to make it nice. That was weird. You said you agreed to go on a road trip with me because you were going to die anyway, but the mist hadn't even shown up yet when I invited you. That means you knew the mist was about to arrive. She lost track of what she was supposed to know and not know. It happened to me, too. You ran away because of trouble with women, right? I thought you figured out that I was dumb just because you were sharp. But if you have memories of the previous lives, it's only natural for you to know that I was dumb. I told you that myself. Play with me, hold my hand, take me on a bike ride far away, let me spend all day sleeping in your arms. The moment that confirmed it was when you came to me as a wolf and told me about your feelings. Back then I wasn't a bike rider, but a suicidal guy who'd arrived here. Oh my god, dude, I never even caught that. You have no reason to think that you could just hitch a bike ride with me. You know that the real abnormality here is in the face but the looping. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. Suddenly screamed. In her hand, she held a familiar hunting knife. It didn't work. Dropping it all on her so suddenly was too much for her to handle. The regret dulled my mind, my vision sharpened, and I saw her slowly charge at me. I might have been used to death by now, but I didn't want it to be slow and painful. I used the time I was given to just close my eyes. An impact. I collapsed on my back. A sharp pain assaulted me. At least I thought it was going to, but it didn't. There was just a warm weight against my body. I slowly opened my eyes. Her face was brimming with intense emotion. As her eyes filled with tears, the hand with the knife went limp. The blade fell free. No way. There's no way I wasn't the only one. This is just a dream, isn't it? I'm about to wake up and start the feast again, right? Don't give me false hope. Not with his face, at least.
嘘とか
This isn't a dream.
いや
Well, to be clear, though it might be
正確に言えば
reduced to a dream
い
eventually,
ずれ
this
夢
moment
に
is
なる
real
として
right
も
now.
そ
And
して
since we share the memories the
夢
dreams
でや
give
り合った
us,
僕と
the
君と
moments
の
we
間
share
の
will
やりと
never
り
be
は
merely dreams.
いつまでも
Hello, Aki.
も
I
う
don't have any
完
weapons on
全
me
に
right now.
首絞めた
I
り
won't strangle
し
you
ないし
either.
何にもし
I
な
won't
い
do
から
anything at all, so can I cling to you?
あ
Yeah. So we're back on Chiami.
春秋さん
She clung to my chest and wailed. Emotions, tears, none of it was restrained.
分かっ
I was so scared.
た寂しかっ
I was so lonely. I was the other one going back again and again and again and
た
again.
いっぱい
I killed and got killed by them all so many times, and their deaths, their words,
そればっ
it
か
all
り
just kept piling up.
何度
How many loops have you had?
巻き
100
I
回超
stopped
えてから
counting after 100.
辛かったね
Must have been hard.
辛か
It
った
was. As I embraced her, crying without end, I felt something myself as well. This was a hell from which not even death could save you. Wandering through it all alone, one couldn't help feeling frail and helpless. I spent most of my time here chasing after the mystery behind it all. As long as I still had ideas to try, the mystery is both my greatest fear and fascination. But what if I ran out of ideas? What if I tried everything I could think of, only to discover there was no escape from this loop, and that I was a prisoner of it for eternity? My worst fear was a mystery without an answer. As one faced with that very possibility, I could really relate to her. The alcohol must have made her more emotional too. She was crying unceasingly, and as someone who cared about appearances, I had to hold back from getting emotional myself. It took her almost an hour to calm down. She began talking. I wouldn't have minded it if she just went to sleep, but the joy and excitement from finally finding someone who shared her experience probably wouldn't have let her. It was time to check some answers.
さっきのよくわかったね
I'm surprised that you knew.
確
Yeah,
か
I
に
was
さっ
actually
き
sawing off
バレルを
girls.
この流
In
れ
this
のまま
timeline, I'm an outsider who
僕が
ended
部
up
外
not
者として
participating
宴
in
が
the
進
feast
行
and
し
you
ていっ
didn't
た
have your
時
guns, right?
あれは
Is that because I
僕が
interrupted
邪
you
魔を
and
して
made you leave the shrine
作業
to
が中断して
Saranaga?
なんだよ
Seriously? You
もう
really are a detective,
やっぱ
aren't you?
探偵だったら
If I was, I wouldn't
こ
be
んな予
relying
想
on
や
theories
憶
and
測ばっかで
assumptions like
喋っちゃ
this.
ダメ
It's an
さ あれは
evidence-based
証拠書
profession.
うん
だから
That's why I need to ask.
次の
Are
答
you
え
a
合わせ
murderer?
違うよ
No.
今回は
Not
ま
yet.
だ
This time, anyway.
少なくと
At
も
least I hadn't
休
killed
みずに
anyone
帰
before
省する
coming
まで
back
に
to
人は殺
Yasamizu.
でも
But you had
銃
two
を2
guns,
丁も
right?
も
それは純
I
粋
just
に
wanted to go hunting
肝
with
臓じいちゃんの
Kanzo-ji-chan.
最初
At
は
first, anyway.
ね
She continued to talk. It was May of her third year in college, time to go job hunting. With the job market in the state it was, most of the leads she found on work sounded more like horror stories. Some couldn't find a job despite checking 100 places. Some went straight to exploitative businesses. Some had all the credit in the world yet ended up working at the docks or something. Chiemi had no particular profession in mind, nor did she find any ideas at her seminars, as she was at a loss. Her situation was made even worse when her boyfriend left her.
は
Huh?
じゃあ
So you're
僕
like
と同
me.
じよ
うる
Shut
さい
up.
なんで別
He
れた
was
の
your second boyfriend, right? Why did he break up with you?
細かいとこ
You
覚
remember all
え
the
てるし
details, huh? Anyway,
なん
except
か
that girls with
猟
guns
銃
creep
持って
them
る
out.
女子とか引く
That might have been weird from a normal man's perspective, but personally, that just intrigued me.
付き合った期間
How
は
long had you been dating?
ゴールデンウ
We
ィ
got
ーク
together
頭
to
に
start
付
a
き合い
Golden
だして
Week, and
終
he
わった
left me
直
right
後く
after
ら
it
い
was
に
over.
別れた
Jesus.
かわいそう
Ouch.
やっぱ
Should I
殺
just
そっ
kill
か
you?
な
Anyway, failed relationship and life in the city in general was starting to get to her, so she started to consider moving back here after graduation. Back to Fujiyoshi, a place she supposedly hated.
嫌なこと
I'd
は
forgotten most of the bad
し
things
ばら
that
く
were
離れて
taken
る
away
間
from me.
は忘れてたから
She used job hunting as a pretext to take a short vacation. And she returned here 2 days ago on Friday. She figured that refreshing her mind and body here would help her with the job search. The locals neither celebrated nor disliked the fact that she came back. They just gave her a normal welcome. They hadn't changed. She, however, had.
昔は
In
5
the
時に
past,
起
I
きて
used to
勉強
study
して
after
たんだけ
waking
ど
up
さ
at 5, but now I'm so
大学
used
で
to
ぐう
the
たら
busy
生活
college
にす
life
っ
that
かり慣
my
れて
circadian
みん
rhythm
なと
was
生活
completely
に
off.
MD のアダプター
I'd
忘れ
even
てさ
forgotten my MD player, and I
借りように
couldn't
も
borrow
誰
from
も持
anyone
ってな
here
く
since
て
someone had one.
はあ
Man,
田
did I
舎って
think that
不便
rural
だよ
life
な
was comfortable.
お菓子買おうにも
Convenience
コン
stores
ビニ
too
どこ
are
ろか
either.
店もないし
Since everyone
み
else
んな
is
質
so
素にし
frugal,
て
they
る
don't
から
even
お
feel like
酒飲むの
drinking
も
with
気
me.
がなんか
I
期
expected
待して
something
たんだろ
different,
う
to
ね
be honest. This is where I
やっぱ
belong
自
and
分の
all
居場
that.
所ないよね
Yeah, no, this
半
place
分
is
捨て
half
たような
abandoned.
故
Why'd
郷
I
に
ever
自分の
expect
都合
something
で
like that?
なんか
I realized
やっ
that
ぱ
this
ここ
isn't
も
a
居場
place
所
for
じ
me
ゃない
either.
か
I
なっ
slept
て
and
思い
woke
な
up
が
on
ら
May 10th,
寝
yesterday
て
morning.
最初は
That was the point
そ
I
こに
moved
戻っ
back
てき
to
て
at
たんだ
first. That was unexpected. I asked and found out something more. The point to which she looped back to had changed twice so far. The first time was the morning of May 10th. This return point stayed consistent for 57 times.
もちろん最初
Of
は
course, it was just
た
a
だの
normal
日
day
常
for
と
me
し
the
て流
first
して
time. I spent 2 days
そ
doing
のまま
nothing
ダラ
and
ダ
then
ラ
missed
2日
me.
間私
I was hanged on the
初
first
日に
day.
く
They
くら
said
れたん
something
だ
about me bringing corruption from
外
the
から
outside.
汚れを持
Horrible,
って
right?
最初の
I
息
can
が
still
止ま
remember
る
the
感
first
覚だ
time
け
my
は
breathing stopped.
その後
Then I looped back.
い
At
きなり
first, I
巻き
thought it
戻っ
was all
て
just a long
で
nightmare.
も
But then the
同
mist
じよ
came
うに
again.
その
I
後
looped back many
何
times.
度
No
巻き
matter
戻
what
っ
I
て
said or
試し
did,
て
I
も
couldn't make it past
何
the
を言
fourth
おうが
day.
へこんだよ
I was really sad about it.
私
I
はど
thought
う
it
やっても
showed
そ
just
の
how
くらいし
worthless
か
I
大
was
事
to
じゃない
them. Yeah,
ごめん
sorry, I know it's
分か
not
っ
that
てるよ
simple.
でも
But on my
57
57th
回
death,
死んだ
I
頃
just
には
figured that's how it
も
was.
うまあ
Not like it
実
was,
際
that was
み
a
んな
big
にと
deal
っ
to
ては
them.
それで
Not
問題
like
は
it
な
was
か
a
ったん
big
だ
deal
け
to
ど
them.
さ
I was a wolf after all.
何せ私が狼だったし
The wolves back then were Chiemi and Tei Yamawaki-san. With Chiemi being easy to suspect and Tei-san not handling herself well, they just couldn't win the feast. Still, they'd successfully brutalized a few people before both of them got hanged. In the end, Chiemi took the initiative and committed murders with her own 2 hands. It hadn't taken long for her to just try and kill everyone while breaking the rules. Wait, it hadn't taken long for her to try and just kill everyone while breaking the rules. Her trial and error became a matter of who'd I kill and how.
その後
After that,
変
there
化
was a
が
change. Mako-chan wandered
メ
in.
イコちゃんが迷い
It
込んで
happened
き
a
た
day
の
after the first restart point. It was already 2 a.m. now, so that would be the morning of yesterday, May 11th. The boring, meaningless day suddenly became a big deal. The reason for that was the lost girl who wandered in from upstream Saranaga. Takumi-san had told me it wasn't uncommon for Saranaga to bring corpses, but this was the first time it brought a living human. Not just any living human, a lost girl with unknown origins. According to Chiemi, there was some trouble in Yasumizu. They couldn't just call someone to inform them about it. If there was some trouble in Yasumizu, they couldn't just call someone. Instead, there was an unspoken agreement that they would just bring it up while chatting with the driver of the truck that brought food and supplies here once a week. They'd mentioned the lost girl, and since the driver was in touch with the Higuchis, the village heads would know about it too. If something was done about a problem they were told about, that was great, but if it wasn't, it meant that Kabi Fujiyoshi didn't plan to get involved. They had tried to get help by phone once, but that got the truck driver to just not bring the supplies for a week, which is pretty messed up. The next supply run would be Thursday, some time away, so they didn't know what to do with the girl. Tei-san screeched about chasing her out, but in the end, Rikako-san agreed to take her in. The problem was solved for anyone but Chiemi anyway.
58回目に
I
し
mean,
て
she
い
just
きなり
appeared
現
out
れ
of
た
nowhere
登
on the
場人物だ
50th
ったから
time. I
ね
wondered what that was all
なんだ
about.
繰り返し
It
続
was
け
a
る夢
change
に
just
変
big
化が
enough
生
to
まれ
make me
た
wonder if there was hope
も
in
しか
this
したら
nightmare.
やがて始まっ
The
た
feast
宴
soon
では
started and the guardian
過去
assignments
の振り分
changed
け
a
も
lot.
匠兄ちゃんがヘビで
Takumi-chan was a
最
snake
初に
and
明か
revealed
そ
it
う
on
と
the
する
first
流れ
day.
が
You
一緒
probably
だか
know
ら
this timeline.
多分春明さんが知ってる流
So
れと
basically,
一
the
緒
timeline where I was alive but didn't participate was similar to the one where I just wasn't there at all. Still, she was a human in the new timeline, and that change gave her hope, so she started experimenting again. It didn't take long for her to despair again.
匠兄ちゃんは大体早死にした
Takumi-chan
し
died early, and I either
私は
got
大
hanged or
体
killed by
早めに
wolves
来て
early.
一度だけ
One time,
おか
Kaori-san
しくなっ
went
た
crazy
香織
with
さんが
poisoned
料理
food.
の
The
毒を
ones
入
who
れて
died happened to be the
たま
wolves
たま
and
狼
only
が
one.
死んで勝って休み
I
図を出
left
て
Yasumizu
帰
then,
る
but
深
the
夜バス
late
が
night
霧に
bus
巻
got
かれて
engulfed in mist, and I don't
あ
know
ん
what
ま覚え
happened,
て
but
な
it
いけ
probably
ど
crashed and I got
多
sent
分
back.
戻り先は
The
日曜
return
の
point was now Sunday morning,
メ
the
イコ
moment
ちゃんが迷っ
Mako-chan
てくる
wanders
ところ
in.
が新
Had
たな
become
ル
a
ーチ
new
ンになっただ
routine. I still didn't see a
け
way out.
結局糸口
The
も見え
morning
な
of
かっ
May
た
11th, it was the restarting point that she went back to more often than any other. Overcome by despair, she started trying to challenge the feast rules. She tried escaping the mist, surviving the corruption after killing more than one in a day, etc. After dozens of tries, she concluded there was no way to escape these laws. By that point, she killed each of the locals dozens of times.
もうさ
Whenever I saw
みんな
their
の顔
faces,
見
I
るたび
began
に
thinking of their corpses
あの
and
時
dying
どんな
screams
死体
from
に
this
なっ
time
た
for
と
that
か
time.
そんな映像が
These
バン
memories
バン
began just
脳内
popping
に
up
出
in
て
my
きて
mind.
別に
It wasn't like it
く
hurt or
むし
anything.
ろ
I
平気す
actually
ぎた
got too okay with
む
it.
しろ
I
それが
actually began
現
to
実なん
think
じゃ
that
ない
that
か
might
っ
have
て
been
思う
the
よう
true
になって
reality.
もうとっくに
That
みんな
everyone
死ん
had
で
already
て
died and
世に
become
人なんだっ
Imibito,
て
and the story I heard as a
狼
wolf
の
was right.
そこから
That's
は
when I just started doing
投
whatever
げやりプレイ
seemed
だっ
and
た
stuck.
の宴が始ま
I
った
even
直
tried
後
killing
に
everyone before the
全員
feast
を撃ち殺して
began,
みると
even
か
though I knew there was
そう
no
い
way
う
it
絶
could
対
lead me
に
to
クリアに
victory.
まあダメだっ
And,
た
well,
ね
it didn't. No matter
ど
how
んな
hard
に
I
頑
tried,
張
I
って
was
も
either
く
hanged,
られる
killed,
か
or
殺
got
さ
caught
れ
in the
るか
mist and
キリ
died.
そうなると
At that
もう
point,
死
I
に
was
飽きち
already
ゃって
tired of
さ
dying. It hurt, of course,
死
but
ぬ
more
のは
than
も
that, it
ちろん
just
苦
became
しいけど
boring.
退屈しの
The
げって
only way
言
to
っ
beat
た
the
ら
boredom now is to
もう
find
ど
new
んな
ways to
新
kill
しい
people.
殺し方や死 死に方ができ
Many
るかって
impossible
ことく
deaths
らいになっ
happening
ちゃっ
under
て
Pete had warped her heart and mind.
そんなわけで
So yeah,
私はもう
I'm a real
立
murderer
派な
now.
殺人鬼だよ
That wasn't a thing to say with such a smile.
春明さん
Don't become I finally realized what that meant.
私みたいに
Don't
は
become like me.
君は
That's what you wanted to say,
そう言
right?
いた
うん
Yeah. It was a well-placed warning indeed. Unfortunately, back then, I not only missed it, but went on to become the absolute worst murderer I could think of.
春明さんが来た
Your
のは
arrival was the third
メイコ
change
ちゃんに
since
次いで
Mako-chan
二度目の
came.
変
The
化だった
starting point moved about 12 hours, too.
振り出しも
The night of May
12時間
11th,
く
the
ら
day
い
before
進ん
the
だし
feast, as well as the day I got lost on my bike ride, Chami went out to prepare to kill. That was the newest starting point, and the one she and I actually shared.
初めは何の
At
期待
first,
も
I
して
didn't
なかっ
expect
た
much. You were just a funny guy who'd probably die like
面白い人来たけど、
Mamiya-san and Hashimoto-san.
けど
But after you
な
came,
ぜ か
for some
春明
reason,
さん
more
が
and more
来てから
changes started
変化
happening.
ずっと死ぬばかりだった
Mamiya-san
野宮
survived
さん
for
が生き
once.
残
I
ったり
became a wolf
それ
again.
に
And,
何
what?
うん
Nothing.
とにかく
Anyway, then
そうこうしてた
Hashimoto-san
ら
survived
橋
and the
本さんが
rules
生き
changed
残って
again.
春ちゃんが
I understood
狼の
everything
格
once
好
I
し
saw
て工
Haru-chan
事
go
現場
to
に
the
行くので
construction
大
site.
体分かった
Oh yeah, since the wolves did their jobs and everyone was sheltering, anyone who stayed outside and watched would quickly know who they were.
春明さ
You
ん
were
は
human
そ
until
れま
then,
で
but
ずっ
when
と
you
人
became
だ
a
ったけ
wolf,
ど
I was worried that you'd go
狼にな
insane
った
like
ら
I did.
だから
That's why I
あん
said
なこと
that.
言ったんだ
I didn't really want to remember that. Once I'd become a wolf, I'd intended not to be bound by Yasumi's rules, but in the end, I'd become an utter madman. And to make it worse, I ended up dancing on the palm of God's hand. Chami's words might have become a subconscious break for the madness racing within me. That was why her face came to mind whenever I was participating in something really messed up. Anyway, this reminded me of another mystery.
待ってくれ
Wait, how did you
あ
go
の時
outside
どう
back
して
then?
君は
I just stood on the second floor of the dorm and
寮の
shot
2
at
階で
dogs
張りな
going
がら
up.
は
Wait, what?
So
You can beat the
そんなやり
night
方で
just like
夜
that?
が
Like,
攻略できる
gun is all you need?
いや
No, it just
ただ
buys
の
you
時
some
間稼ぎ
time.
だそうやってる
Eventually,
と
the real deal
その
comes.
本
Real
物
deal?
狼の頭と
Think with the wolf head
人
and
間
human
の
body.
体の
あれは
That has to be a
人間
human
のは
wearing
ずだ
clothes like the ones given to the
狼
あ
wolves.
の人狼
That werewolf,
人狼
man
は
wolf works for Shinai-san, a servant of the
狼
Okami-sama.
狼やっ
You
た
were
ならあ
a
った
wolf,
で
so you
しょ
saw the figures in the
首吊り
hanging
松の
pines
御所でさ
graveyard, right? That was
あれが
Shinai-san, and
新内さん
those who met up his punishments are
あい
werewolves.
つらは
And there are lots of them.
人狼はいっぱいいる
Shinai was Okami. Great Lord Shinai and Okami-sama were the same thing. Mamiya-san told us that. Those creatures who came to you in a dream. 3 creatures who came to you in a dream. Besides them, there were lots of monsters who carried out their will. God had implied that the dogs, the bringers of corruption, were the servants of the badger, Mujina-sama. Using those werewolves as underlings might have been the power of Great Lord Shinai as Okami-sama.
あの汚
So
れの
even
運
if
び
you
手
got
を
rid
し
of
の
the
いでも
bringers of corruption,
そ
you'll
いつ
always
が
die
出て
with
きて
face
確実に
testing.
殺されると
Shammy nodded. It didn't look like I can go anywhere from here, so I would just leave it at that.
話を戻
Back
すけ
to
ど
what we were talking about. Why
じゃ
did
あど
you
うし
decide
て
to wait for us
外で
outside?
狼を待とうなんて
もう
I thought I
や
just
めよう
went
と
there.
思って
Huh?
私
I was all alone in the
宴で
feast.
ある人
But
に
there
は
was this person who
何度
helped
も
me out a lot.
僕だな
Me.
ど
Honestly,
っち
you
かって
just
い
made
う
it a
とい
bigger
ろいろ
mess.
かき
Hell,
乱
I
され
died
て
a lot of times thanks to
い
you.
や
Sorry.
ごめん
Oh, don't worry, I killed you tons of times too.
そうか
Really? Then I guess we're even. It's like the weirdest date.
春明さん
You're quick to
大
bounce
概
back,
切り替
aren't
え
you?
早い
You
よ
weren't that
ね
upset, were you?
君
I
が
don't
気
really
に
care
してた
about
ら
it if you did.
僕も気に
Anyways,
する
who's
さ
the person?
リカ子さんだよ
Rikako-san.
上松リ
Kaku
カ子さん
Umatsu.
彼女
She
に
helped you?
あの人は
She's a
本
Fujiyoshi.
当に
Fujiyoshi
心の
person
底
to
か
the
ら
core.
藤吉村
But
で
I'm sure
一
she's
番
the
いい
best
人だ
person
よ
here.
迷信に
Sure,
忠実
she's
で
rampantly
保守的で
superstitious and super
でも
conservative,
奥
but
ゆ
also
かしくて
refined, devoted,
そして
and she treats
よそ者
outsiders
や
as well as
私
outcasts
み
like
たい
me
な
that
外れ
people
者とも
she isn't
対
disgusted
等
by
に接
us.
してくれる
The bedroom woman servant who
剣
took
を
in
せず
anything,
に
huh?
藤吉の古き良きも
If
のなん
Fujiyoshi
て
had
の
a
があった
good
ら
old ex about
多
it,
分
it's
彼
probably
女です
her.
よ
She's like a huge pile of all
過去
things
のい
good
いこ
about
と
the past.
春明さんも
You fell for
惚
her
れた
too,
でしょ
didn't you?
と
No, not really.
嘘ばっかり
Well, I can see the appeal
まあ
though.
魅力的
Anyway,
な
she's
のは
an
わかるけ
anomaly
ど
here,
ね
Fujiyoshi.
神藤吉で
Even
も
in Kami Fujiyoshi?
で
Yeah, the
上
Uematsu
松家は
are on
落ち目だっ
decline,
た
and
し
well, it's a family of
昔からその
circumstances, and everyone knows it.
ちょっと
Oh.
特殊な家見た目だって
She's
美
pretty,
人
but
だけ
also
ど変
too
わってる
weird
し
for most to deal
性
with.
格も
The
一見
Nosato
とっつき
blockhead
に
is
くいから
probably her
な
only fan. She
野
rarely
里
even
の
gives
どん
him
く
the
らく
time
ら
of
いよ
day though.
彼女のファン
Shimmy grinned cruelly. She was pretty hard on him, huh?
なるほど
I see, so why are you indebted to her?
いろいろ
For
だ
many
よ
things. She defended me
宴の
during the
時に
feast,
かばって
became
く
my
れた
shield
り
when someone went
誰か
wild
が
and
暴
tried
れ
to
て
kill me,
汚れを
and took in the
引き取って
corruption
くれ
among
た
other
り
things.
どういうこと
What do you mean?
覚えてるか
Do you
な
remember how in this
このまま
timeline,
の
the
流れ
local
で
old man and
そのうち
Mochi
安
both
水
die
の
at
お
the
じい
same
ちゃんと
time?
もそれで次の
And
日
how she becomes
彼女が
Yomibito
闇
the
人
next
になる
day? Yeah, Yeah, I do. You know something
覚え
about
てる
it?
モ
The
ッ
old
チー
man
を殺
killed
したのは
Mochi.
お
I
じい
killed
ちゃ
the
ん。
old man.
おじいちゃんを殺し
君が
I'm
殺
not
したって
surprised
のは
that you
今
killed
更
him,
驚
but
か
the
ない
old
とし
wolf guy
て
killed Mochi? That pisses me off. I was pretty surprised too. We
私も驚いたんだよ。
split up and searched for them. I found Mochi already dead.
お
The
じい
old
ちゃん
man
は
laughed and attacked me,
笑いな
so
がら私にも
reflexively,
襲ってこよう
you
とした
know, I need time.
彼は投票で負けた場合
So he was planning on
最初
getting
から
away
逃
if
げ
he
るか
lost
ら
the
だ
vote,
な
even if it meant killing
人を殺
someone.
うん
Yeah, Kanzo
感
Ji-chan
動
probably
じいちゃん
suspects
は
that too,
そう
so
なることを
timelines where
恐れ
he's
てたの
alive.
かも
He just hangs them by
だから
force.
しかし
That's
妙だ
weird.
な
Killing more than one per day or
宴
trying
の
to
一
run
人
away
以
from
外
his
を
death.
そうだね
Yeah, I know that better than
私
anyone.
彼
How
は
did
どう
he
やっ
plan
て
to
死を
avoid
回
dying?
避す
Did
る
he
つも
just
りだ
not
ったんだ
thinking
ろう
about it?
私
I
はだ
think he
か
was
ら
just too senile to
ボ
think
ケて
that
てさ
far ahead.
その可能性もあるのか
Honestly, I couldn't help but feel like he'd chosen to kill out of malice. I really had to find a way to get some information out of him.
いや
Wait, more
それよ
importantly,
り
how did
何
you
よりだ
survive in this
君が
squash
狼
field
じじいを
wolf
ブッ
guy?
シュ
だから言
I
ったじゃ
told
ん
you,
リ
Rikako-san
カコ
took
さ
in
ん
the
が汚れ
corruption
を
for
引き
me.
取ったって
は
You mean she passed
それ
the
って
face penalty to
宴の
herself?
うん
Yeah.
あの時
After splash splashing the old man, I was like, oh man, did I mess up? Guess this is
ああ
it for
やっ
this
ちゃった
time.
霧の中
That's
か
when
ら
Rikako-san
リ
came
カ
out
コ
of
さ
the
んが
mist.
出
She
て
was
きてね
surprised, but then said,
あなた
you
は
will
死
not
んだ
die, I will take in your sin and corruption.
似てる
You sound just like her. I
で
know,
しょ
right? Should we really talk about this like casually?
こんなノリでい
The
いの
sullen mood had
この
vanished,
話
and we were now talking about this stuff over a few beers.
いいんじゃな
I
い
think
の
it's fine. We're not murderers
僕らはまだ
yet.
この
Let the
時の
past
人
loops
殺し
get
じ
to
ゃ
you
な
and
い
you'll go nuts in no
過去の
time.
ちえみが死ぬ
This
ほ
was
ど悩んだ
bothering
こ
me
と
so
を
much,
めっ
and
ちゃ
you
さらっ
took
と
care
片
of it
付
like
け
it
た
was
よ
nothing. Oh well, I
ま
guess
あ
I'll
オッ
take
ケ
it
ー
easy.
とにかく
Anyway,
その時は
Rikako-san
リカコさ
protected
ん
me,
が
so
か
I
ば
went
って
back
く
to
れた
change
か
my
ら
clothes.
そこで
We
春明
talked
さん
later,
と話した
remember?
よね
Who's that?
春
ま
Wow,
た知恵み
Jimmy
落ちか
again. What a twist.
明何それ
What's that supposed to
悪い
mean?
けど今
Sorry,
じ
but
っ
you
と
should
して
stay
て
there
ひょ
right
っと
now.
したらやばい
This
か
might
も
be really bad. Oh, hold on, open up.
開けてよあ
Oh yeah, so you're
あの
changing
時
out
の
of your bloody clothing back then?
そうそう
Yep, I like that get
あ
up,
の
so I
制
have a
服を機に
spare.
なんで替え
Now
はあ
that
る
you
しね
mentioned it, I did feel like she said that.
ともあれ
Anyway, you went against the
君は
one per
確か
day
に
rule.
うん
Yeah, from my
私の
experience,
経
you
験
only
じゃ
slept
例
in
外な
corruption
く
that night
そ
after
の日を
breaking
か
it.
その流れ以
That
外だ
timeline was the only exception.
しかし
Since
その時だ
Rikako-san
け
had
は
taken it in, like
リ
she
カコ
said,
さ
the
んが引き
corruption
取
went
ると
to
言
her,
った通
huh?
りしかしそうなると
Wasn't she supposed to be torn
彼女は
apart?
例の
あれは
That's Yomi's corruption.
よ
黄泉の汚れ
Yomi's corruption. The
最強の
strongest, worst corruption.
最悪の
Touching it
汚れ
makes you a Yomi Bito.
触れれば
Chami was now
闇
acting
人に
afraid
な
of
ってし
something.
まう
君がリカコ
Okay,
さ
I
んに
get
恩
why
義
you
を
feel
感じて
indebted to Rikako-san,
宴を放棄
why
した
you
経
wanted
緯
to
は
give
分
up
か
on
っ
the
た
feast and how you got here.
今から
Now for a more
本
serious
質的なこ
question.
とを君にとっ
You
て
probably
嫌かも
won't
し
like
れない
this,
こ
but
とを
it's
聞くが
necessary to get to the heart of the
全ての
matter.
確
Can
信
you
に
help
迫
me
るた
out?
めにはもちろん
Of course, if it's
君が
something
我
you
慢
can't
できな
handle,
く
you
な
can
る
just
ような
stop.
話になったらやめてくれ
Chami
ていい
lightly nodded.
君は
You're
何か
invested in something
超常
supernatural
的
that
な
the
もの
other
に対
that
して
the others here aren't.
その
One of
一
them
つ
is
が
the
汚れ
corruption and the other is
も
God.
うどっちも
Tell me about both.
春明さ
You
んは
remember
さ
everything when you die,
だから
so I don't wanna.
これから先
You'll hate me and be disgusted by me forever.
ようやく見つか
I
った
don't
理
want
解
that.
者
You're
な
the
のに
only one who can understand me.
大丈夫
It's fine. I didn't feel much
君が
about you
殺
being a
人鬼だってのを
murderer, right?
でも
But
大丈夫
it's fine.
絶対
You
に
promise you won't hate me?
嫌う
約
I
束する
promise. After a few seconds of hesitation, she finally gathered her resolve. She then put her hand inside the collar and took something out. A metallic trinket on a metal chain, showing three symbols. A whirl and a diamond. It was a sign of the Yomatsu Ukami. I remember the time I picked it up at Saranaga after I'd won against Chiami as the snake. So it belonged to her, huh?
これは
This is... Don't look. Serizawa-sama. I'm so
そ
sorry.
の汚
That
れ
is a corruption not even I can take in.
私にも
Came back to me.
引き取れない
Rikako-san had discovered something pendant-like that Chami was wearing. After that, Chami went nuts and ran off into the mist. That meant that what I'd found in Saranaga on the other timeline had been dropped by her after she jumped off the cliff. And I finally realized another thing. Here, the talisman was a sign of the Yomatsu Okami. Yomi itself was the worst of the omens, and actually wearing it couldn't have been a good thing. It could only represent the worst, most fearful, and maddening of things.
これは
This is
私
something
が
I've been
小
wearing
さい
since I
頃
was
から
little.
も
You know what this means,
こ
right?
の
A
意味は
whirl
知
and
って
a
るよ
claw.
ね
The sign of the Yomatsu
いつと
Okami,
つ
the lord of the corrupted hunting grounds.
君が
Why do you have that?
なぜ
私が汚れているから私の
My old name
身車
was
ちえみ
Chiami
って言うん
Miguruma.
だ
Dang! Miguruma. The tower lookouts, the top of the four-head families in Kami Fujiyoshi. The snake.
身車ちえみは
Chiami Miguruma was the daughter of the snake. She didn't have any siblings, so she was supposed to become the wife of the man who'd
だ
beat
から
who'd be
養子を
adopted
迎
and become the
え
head of the
て
family,
5つになっ
at least
た
until she was
あの
5.
時まで
Chiami's eyes turned dry and
あ
empty.
の日
That day,
私はいた
I
ずら
playfully
心で
opened the iron door to the
3
basement,
の
third
蔵の
lookout.
決して入っちゃ
I
いけ
was
ない
told
と言わ
never
れ
to
て
go there, and the door had that symbol on it. And
落ち着く
calm
んだ
down, Chiami-chan.
ちえみ 君
You
が見
saw
たのは
dogs, didn't you?
犬だな。
She came back to her senses and light returned to her eyes. I knew it. I could see part of the conspiracy.
噛まれたん
The
だな。
dogs bit you, right? Yeah. And it became harder for her to speak. As it became harder for her to speak, she pulled up her sleeve and showed me her wrists. They were old but clearly visible scars on them. Anyone who takes in Yomi's corruption will eventually go mad and die.
私は
We Migurumas had that drilled into our heads since we were little.
なぜそんなも
Why
の
do
を
the Miguruma have them? Saranaga isn't the only entrance to Yomi.
海の
It
入り
has its
口は
mouth open in many places. The Yomatsu family used to protect us against it, but they couldn't do it anymore, so
代わりに
the
身
Miguruma
車
took it
が
upon themselves.
黄泉の汚れを
A
受けた
daughter
外
who
じゃなんて
received
だ
Yomi's corruption wasn't
Miguruma
suitable
には
for the Miguruma.
から
That's why, just like Mochi, I was
モチと同じ
disowned. Sorry, I've calmed down now.
無理は
Don't
しない
force
で
yourself.
大丈夫
It's fine. I had my surname
私
changed
は
to that of a branch
会ったこと
family
も
and
ない
was sent to
分家に縁組され
Yasumizu.
て
Again, just like
休み水
Mochi.
送りになった
Huh, so they changed
モ
surnames
チ
because of the
と同じ
disowning.
パターンだね
Oribe was probably Kaori-san's maiden name, but yeah, I could see how they worked around this.
身車の
No one
息女
seemed
だ
to
っ
know
たっ
that
て
you were a
話は
Miguruma, though.
ミ
The
グルマ
Miguruma
は
are a very
す
secretive
ごい秘
family.
密主義の
They
家で
hide
ね
any births and deaths in
子
the
供が
family
生
for
まれ
about
たと
10
か
years.
人の口に
You
と
can't
は
shut out gossip, can you?
立てられ
The
る
Miguruma
ミグル
can.
マなら
The people who do the reports and
Date,
everyone at the funeral
届け出
are
をする役
Miguruma.
なるほ
I
ど
see, but why are they so
でも
secretive?
そ
I
れは
left when I was little, so I can't
小
be
さい
sure.
秘密が
But they
力を
probably
持つこ
think
とを
that secrets have
知って
power.
るからじゃないかな
Secrets, mysteries could mobilize people, huh? Intelligence management was extremely important when keeping a group in line. Especially for the Miguruma who are doing something dangerous.
この首
This
飾りは
pendant is proof of the
汚れ
corruption.
の証
I'm corrupted, so I'm fated to become part of
私が
Yomi.
汚れしかしそれまで
But I was told
黄泉
that it
の
would
汚れを
hold
抑
the
える
corruption back and keep
御
it
するも
under
のだ
control
と
until
も
the
言
time
われ
came.
世持狼は
Yomatsu
恐ろし
Ukami
い
would
読
scare
み人
Yomibito, which I believe
それを
controlled
読
other
み人を滑る
Yomibitos,
者
so
と
I
汚れを受け
thought
た
this
読
would
み
keep
人が
me, a corrupted
暴れ
Yomibito,
出す
from
のを
going
抑えて
wild.
私は
I
それが
was really scared of that
とても
happening.
怖か
That
っ
was
た
nothing more than her earnest beliefs. That was why I understood just how pure and profound her feelings were. She'd come to know immense despair at an extremely young age.
それ
So
で
you went to Yasumizu
休
and
みず
then
に
what?
来て
ま
Well, I
ああ
went
れだ
nuts.
よ
I
ね
was young, but I knew that I
自
was
分が
corrupted
汚
and
れ
sent
て
to a
汚
corrupted
れた場
place.
所一番の被害者
Teba-chan
は
was
タ
my
エばあちゃん
primary
だな
victim. She was the one in charge of
当
the
時は
dining
食
hall,
堂は
and
ば
I
あ
was
ちゃんがやっ
refused
て
the
て
food.
私がご
Oh,
飯
so
拒
that's
否し
why
ま
they
く
were
ってた
still
か
so
ら
distant.
芹沢として小
I
学
went
校
to
に入った
elementary
けど
school as a
ちょうど
Serizawa,
その頃
and I was
休
the
み
only
ずの
student
学生
from
は私だ
Yasumizu
けだっ
back
たか
then.
ら
It was pretty hard.
いじめ
I
られ
got
たし
bullied, and if I fought
やり
back,
返
they'd
した
team
ら
up and
口
make
裏合
me
わ
out
せ
to
ら
be
れ
the
るか
bad
ら
guy.
その時の
Kinda
先生
worked
が
out
分かっ
because
て
the
くれた
teacher
か
knew
ら
what was going on.
その先
But
生
then
が
the
転
teacher
任してか
transferred
ら
to
は
another
肩身
school.
狭
My
くて
situation got really bad.
そのうち
Then Oribe
オリベ
saw
さん
it.
家が
His
引っ越して
family
きて
moved in.
ヤス
And
く
then
んやハルちゃ
Yasukun,
んヨシ
Haruchan,
くん
and
も入
Yoshi-kun
学して
started going to school.
したらほらお
I
姉さん
became
じ
the
ゃん
big sister character,
頑
so
張
I
らな
had
きゃ
to
じ
do
ゃ
my
ん
best.
それで
And
ちょ
then,
っと
well, you know,
ボッコボッ
you
コに
kicked
しちゃ
the
った
crap out
か
of someone.
ボッコボッ
I
コにし
kicked
ち
the
ゃった
crap
ね
out of someone.
ま
Well, I got
す
chewed
ごい
out and
謹慎
punished
とか
pretty
説教と
harshly.
か食らったし
It might have made the
休みずへ
situation
の
even
風当
worse
た
for
りが一時お
Yasumizu.
かげで
But all the
学校で
bullying
のちょっ
stopped,
かい
so
が
I'm
ピ
proud
タ
of
リ
what
と
I
やんだ
did.
と自負
なるほどね
I see. Fuck, man. So that was why the children here adored her, but she felt awkward around the adults.
それ
So was it a
下の
conscious
子た
sense
ちへ
of
の義
duty
務
that
感
made
と
you do
作
it?
戦
9割
I
ブ
was
チ切れ
mostly
ただ
just
けでした
pissed.
気に
I
し
don't
ない
mind, I
気に
don't
しない
mind. It's cool,
生か
it's
す
cool.
生かす
ぶっちゃけ荒れて
I
た
was a
んで
pretty rough girl.
で
But
も
at the
その
core
根
of it
底に
all,
は
there was the fear of the
常に
corruption,
汚
right?
れいつか自
Deep
分が
down, you
本
were
当に
scared
狂
by
っ
the
てし
thought
まう
you'd
と
go
いう
insane
恐怖の
eventually.
裏
I
返
was
し
just desperate.
春明さんは
You know
何でも
everything,
知って
don't
る
you?
な
Sorry, I didn't
Oh,
mean to seem
Nakata
like a
Funa.
know-it-all.
いいのいいの
It's fine. I'm
分か
glad
ろ
to
うと
have
してく
someone
れ
who
る
at
人も
least
これ
tries
ま
to
でいなかったわ
understand
け
me.
だしさ
Chiami giggled. She could laugh at it now, but probably only because she'd grown up and realized a few things.
外に出て
Did you look
いろい
into
ろ
a
調べ
lot
た
when you left for college?
その
Like about the
犬
dogs
の
and
ことと
stuff?
か
そりゃね
Well, yeah.
ということは
Should you really still be
君は
afraid
も
of
うそ
them?
っち
私が
I'm scared
怖
of
いの
God
は
and his
神様で
corruption.
それが科学的にどういう病気かとかはあんまり関係ない
The science behind the disease doesn't change much.
じゃあそれについて
Yeah, then
話そう
let's talk about that. that.
僕は
In one of the
巻き
timelines
戻り
I
を
was
繰
in,
り
I
返す
met
中で
God.
え
Huh?
今
I'm
は
pretty sure I know what kind
神
of
様
thing
というも
God
のの
is.
それに
But
し
I
ても
feel like it's a bit
君が
different
恐
from
れ
the
てい
image
る
of God
神
you
様
gave me.
ちえみちゃん
Jamie, can you see
君
God
には
as in visually?
神様が目に見えたり
みんな
Everyone has
神様に
met
は会っ
God.
てるよ
Maybe they just can't
見
see
え
it.
ていないのかもしれない狂ってる
You
っ
think it's
て
insane, right? The looping in God
そ
itself
れ
are
言ったら
pretty,
死に
already
戻
pretty
ると
insane.
か
To be
神
honest,
様
I'm
その
ready
も
to
のが
accept
すでに
anything at
口
this
頭無形
point.
だから。
柔軟すぎる。
How flexible? Are you an
あなたは
octopus?
タコか。
Why did everything like comparing me to weird stuff so much?
そうだね。
Yeah, I can see it.
あの、
Is it different than the
狼
three
の
you
加
see
護を
when
受
you
け
get
た時の3人組のあれとは、
神様は
God is
ほ
on
とんどの
everyone?
人、
メイコみたいな小さい子にも、
メイコ
It's
ちゃ
not
ん
really
の
clear
は
on her. It seems
よ
big
く見
though,
えない
whatever
な。
it is.
休みず
I
に
was
は
told
神
that there
様
are
が
three
3
gods
種
in
類いるっ
Yasumizu.
て、
Huh? Who
ど
told
こ
you
の
that?
誰から
それは秘密。
私
The only
は
Yasumizu gods I know are
休みずの神様は
Shinai-sama and
新
God.
内様と神、
新内さんは
Shinai-san is a
神様だ
god,
ろ。
no? Wait, isn't that what you said?
新内さんは神様だけど、
Shinai-san is a god, but not the god I have in mind. The god on Haru-chan is the
ハ
one
ル
you're
ちゃんに
thinking
つい
of,
てる
right?
の。
うん、
Yeah,
多
I
分
think I get it.
本当に
Really? Tell me
教え
more.
それ
Not
は
right now.
もったい
Hey,
な
don't
い
be
子
like
で
that.
いいから。
No. At this point, I was now able to split up and think about the problems I was involved in right now. Wait. At this point, I was now able to split up and think about the problems I was involved with right now individually. One problem was the prevention of the Feast of the Yomi Purge. Another problem was the prevention of the giant monster's resurrection. And the third problem was the ending of the loop. They were all related, but they'd all need different solutions. To fix the first one, the feast, I'd have to use the looping to do something about God. Specifically, the God that had Chiemi, as well as everyone else in Yasumizu, completely imprisoned. Weak, powerless God, my ass. This one was a pain to deal with because they were powerless. I had to be careful about how I dealt with it, as well as Chiemi, God's prisoner.
もう少し
I'll keep it a secret for a
秘密だ。
while longer.
なんで
Why?
秘密が
Because I
力
know
を
that
持つこと
secrets
を
have power.
知ってるからさ。
We continued exchanging info. I couldn't keep the sheep hidden, so I started with that.
僕は巻き
When I
戻る
look
瞬
back,
間
I
に
always see a
羊
sheep,
さん
but
の
that's
姿
probably
を
the
見てい
reason
て、
why I keep my memories.
多
What
分
about
そのお
you?
かげで、
い
I
や
don't、remember anything like that.
全然覚えがない。
That meant that the reason she kept the memories was different from mine. Also, her memory retention was less consistent than mine. Some memories actually felt like a dream for her and often lacked clarity. When she said that, for all she knew, she might have looped a lot more times than she realized. I was curious why she kept her memories, but I set that aside for now. Anyway, according to the sheep, the loops were happening because of the dream. I thought over, in my own way, the things quickly shared with me. Something had absorbed Fujiyoshi and its general area into a dream. It was absurd, but I had to accept it. An area of some square kilometers had been detached from the real world, meaning that this is like a virtual reality. This space could be restarted and it probably had a different flow of time. I'd spent a lot of loops here, but I bet not even a second had passed in reality. This dream could happen over and over without wasting any time. I gave the mastermind behind it countless chances to create the ending they wanted, and once that happened, the dream would stop being a dream. It would become prophetic, basically, or rather, stop being reset as just a dream and turn everything that happened into reality. That meant that I could be going about my business, still thinking that I could retry it all, and the master of the dream could just yank the rug out from under me. Be like, nope. This is as if reality had an intrusive editor who told the author to turn anything he didn't like into a dream. Man, that was messed up. According to the sheep and Chiami's info, the range of the dreams had changed. At first, the dream just looped around, but when some outsider came in, it started going all weird and shit. It made a huge mess of things, and that right there is the result.
僕
The
が
dream
動い
changed
た
because
せい
of
で
me?
夢が
その後、
After that,
変
there
化
was
が
a change. Meiko-chan wondered in.
春秋さん
The
が来た
arrival
の
of
は
the third change as
メイコちゃんに
Meiko-chan
次い
came
で
in.
2度目の変化だっ
The
た。
starting point moved about 12 hours,
振
too.
り出しも12時
I
間
had
く
no
らい
idea how
進ん
many
だ
loops
し
the sheep had been through since starting. My god. But it did mention that things didn't change much at the start. That meant that the result was the same no matter how much the dream repeated, far from the ending the dream's architect desired. That was when they brought in the first outsider, probably Chiami. The method was most likely moving the dream's start time some further. When Chiami had returned to Fujiyoshi, she had already entered the dream, unwittingly becoming trapped in the loop. Because the start of the loop, the starting point, was pushed a bit later, Chiami became a character in the dream. Chiami was the first one who had memories of the previous loops. With her joining, the dream began to change. However, these changes didn't satisfy the mastermind, especially with Chiemi not really doing anything constructive. Thus, they moved the start a bit later again, and this time taking in Mako, who, from what it seemed, didn't have memories of the previous loops. It wasn't hard to guess that nothing was changed by her joining. The third one to enter was me, and I, unaware of the mastermind's plot, tried out various things and ended up fulfilling their wishes. The sheep said that the mastermind still didn't know about its involvement. However, they must have known that Chiemi and I often did unexpected things, though I wasn't sure if they were aware that we had our memories. They either didn't know about it or just didn't know the cause.
だとすると
So I guess we shouldn't
これ
reveal
か
that
ら
we
も
remember
気づいて
stuff,
る
huh?
そうだね。
Yeah, especially around the people of Yasamizu.
Yes.
Huh? What?
嘘
You're saying that one of them is the
みんなの中に
mastermind?
そう考え
That's
るべきだ
likely.
と
At
思
the
う。
very least, I'm pretty sure the
少なく
bigger
とも
room may have nothing to do
巻き
with
戻りに
moving.
なんで
Why?
信頼明神の
Because
目
their
的
goal
と
is
違う
different
から。
than Great Lord Shinai's.
し
But
か
who
し
could it be? Who's hiding
誰
another
なんだ
god?
自分が
Is
持
it
ってる
possible
神
for a
様を
person to hide their god
知恵
in
耳
their
に
sight?
私
I can't really see
よ
the
く知ら
gods
ない
of
人の
people I
神
don't
様
know.
を
I see.
なるほど。
Basically, her ability was like an eye for reading people. Even though you couldn't know for sure based on just faces, some people could intuitively figure out certain things about others by just finding out more about them. In her case, such info was just more visual. It might have been a kind of synesthesia? That's right. There were people in the world who perceived numbers as colors. With that in mind, I couldn't have expected her supernatural power to be the solution to the supernatural problem. Instead, I should rely on her ability to retain memories.
これからどうする
What do we do now?
うーん。条件分
I'd
けの
like
た
to
め
see
に
more
は、
endings so I can
もうちょっといろんな
set
結
some,
末を
help
見たい
set
ん
some
だ。
conditions.
僕が
The
知っ
only
てるのは、
outcomes I know are the
宴
ones
が
where wolves
狼の
achieve
完
a
全勝
flawless
利に終わっ
victory,
たパターン
the
と、
one where humans
人
achieve a
勝利、
normal victory, and one where
狼
wolves
新勝の
achieved
3パター
a
ン。
Pyrrhic victory.
狼新勝が
The Pyrrhic
怪
victory
物
ended
復
up
活アウト
summoning
の
the
パターンだっ
monster,
た
so
わけ
that's
だけ
no
ど、
good, but I don't
そ
actually
の
know
時
the
の何
exact
がアウ
cause
トだ
of
った
the
のか、
summoning.
宴が
Was it
関係
related
して
to
る
the
のか、
feast, or did I step on some
そ
other
れとも、
landmine? I have no
実は
idea.
そのため
That's
に、
why I think we have to try
もう
challenging
何
the
週か
feast a
宴
whole
に
bunch
挑
more
戦し、
times.
マジですか
Seriously?
うん、
Yeah.
チ
What
ーム
about
と
running
森
off
の
into the
中に逃
forest
げ
and
て
having a good
ひっ
time
そり
there?
まったり
死ぬ
We'll
んでしょ
die, right?
まだどこか
There
に
might
抜
be
け
a way
道
out
はあるのかも
somewhere.
ま
Oh,
あ、
that's true.
じゃあ決まり
Then let's search for
探
one.
索しよ
Honestly, I didn't think that it would get us any closer to the truth. But I didn't put much effort into protesting either. She'd been in so many feasts that it became traumatic for her. She wanted to avoid going through it again. She didn't want to be more aware of what kind of murderer she was becoming.
わかった。
Alright. I would do this with her until she was satisfied. Even if this was a challenge without a real end, it was worth it as long as she could find peace. We tried using our memories to quickly fix the bike and leave. We tried going out through Saranaga before the mist came. We waited until the mist came and tried to leave through the forest in full hiking gear I got from the convenience store. No idea why they were selling that. In the end, we either were engulfed in the mist and died before even realizing it, or were engulfed in the mist and died without getting anywhere. In the latter cases, Chiemi either died by breaking apart again, or we were caught by those monsters. After trying it enough times, we both became used to it. "Oh, I'm crumbling again," she'd say. "Then let's stop." I'd reply as we aimed our guns at each other and killed one another. Jesus Christ. Taking advantage of shortcuts like that, we came back over and over and tried again. Nothing seemed to work, so we tried spending a night outside after the mist came. We got rid of the dogs with water and guns. I quickly found out that this was a mistake since Chiemi couldn't keep her presence of mind. Unable to bear the tension and fear, she would mumble something about God and either run off or kill herself. Then no matter what happened afterwards, I ended up killed by the monster-looking thing. Whether the monster was actually real or not wasn't a problem anymore. I had already known that any rule breakers would be punished. The problem here was that Chiemi still wanted to continue these pointless loops. Let's go there this time. Let's hide here this time. I patiently played along. Being certain that there was no point in this, I played along with her attempts to escape about 50 times. We continued to do this for a while before I told her to let me try something, and somewhat forcefully took the lead. What I wanted to try was a feast victory with minimal casualties, and how many days could we pass without murder. For that, we had to figure out what sort of rules govern the Guardian assignments. I actually had an idea for how it worked. The first time, the time I was the snake, the time I was the wolf, time Chiemi had first become a wolf. Over the mall, I noticed that there were trends, such as Chiemi's tendency to become a wolf, or Mochi's tendency to be a monkey. To find out the nature of these trends, I wrote down the guardian distributions I knew on a table. First, I tried putting the names in order, then writing down their guardians, but didn't find any patterns there. Then I had the idea to try basing it on their dwelling locations, and bingo. The monkey was obviously dependent on where the people lived, and they didn't change much across loops. It was clear that Takumi-san tended to get the snake, and I'd gotten it instead of him that time because our houses are close together. The same could be said about Kaori-san and Yoshitsugu getting the crow. Basically, the guardians were given out to the houses rather than people. I was familiar with the way of allocating data that changed slightly, but not by a lot. I knew a means to bring about such results, a ghost-like lottery. It wasn't a completely random method. Even if you used tons of lines, the results wouldn't split up properly without intent. And even if there were new possible options, the results wouldn't change without removing or adding new lines. Even if you added 2 or 3 new options to the ghost-like lottery, you would add them to the right and add a few branches, and that would leave the left side mostly unaffected. 2 or 3 lines would just shift the result a bit to the side, but not much further than that. That had to be it, right? As in, someone held the ghost-like lottery to decide who got which guardian. That theory in mind, I sought out a particular person. Hey, Mochi. Whoa, why do you know my nickname?
いいからちょっと見
Ignore
てく
that
れ
and just look at this. It's a
今流行
popular
りのパズ
puzzle.
ルこういう
Can you
結
write
果が
down
出
a
る網だ
ghost-like
くじを
lottery with these results?
ちなみに
I
こ
want
の
you to
枝を
make
減
it
ら
so
すと
that
こんな
moving this
感じ
line
にな
does
って
this, adding a line
こ
here
こに
does
枝を
this.
なんだと
What? I have no
そん
idea
な
how
ん
to
全
do
然
that.
むしろ
Just
カン
whatever
ト乗り
feels
でい
right
い
to
よ
you.
おー こん
Like
な感じじゃない
He actually met the conditions perfectly. How like him. Like hell, a puzzle like this could be popular. His talent for getting the answer right without proof actually scared me. It was a talent that could turn society on its head, but that wasn't important at the moment. To see whether the ghost-like lottery was usable, I attacked an Osato mansion once. Specifically, I broke the windows the day before the mist came, and he was so scared that he just returned to Kami Fujiyoshi the next morning. My theory was that the lottery began with the settlement's upper region. That was why adding new people to the empty houses affected the guardian assignments, while Kiyonosuke continued to be human. Thus, without him, the roads would have to change drastically. With those conditions, I tried a change in which Mamiya-san and Hashimoto-san both died while I took the Gen-san dude's place. I ended up being the snake while Chiemi was the badger. The wolves ended up being Yoshitsugu and Mochi, as the ghost-like lottery was completely accurate. I also tried looking into how the distribution worked before Mako came, and apparently there was a human missing in the middle. That confirmed that the guardians were handed out by a supernatural force, but through this ghost-like lottery. Using this, I could create lots of patterns. By changing my residence, I could get whatever guardian I wanted. A good one would allow me to get through it without any problem. At that moment, I excitedly told Chiemi that the feast was as good as ours. I never forgot the dead eyes she looked at me with.
で、
So,
いつ終わ
when
る
will
の
it end? I finally realized that I'd made a huge oversight. Chiemi had passed her limit long ago, and I'd forgotten that my sense for such things was a bit different than a normal person's. I wanted to clear the feast with a minimal number of deaths and find out how many days could go by without a murder. It required the agreement of all participants. It wasn't something I could do by myself, and I needed Chiemi to try with me. I didn't mind looping 100 times more. She, however, didn't want to loop ever again. She tried weird things before because she wanted to try a method that could let her win quickly and easily, even if it was absurd. In her eyes, my plan to loop hundreds upon hundreds of times in a case of trial and error was simply unacceptable. I was killed. She wanted to kill me, and so she shot me right up front.
春明さんさ、
Haruaki-san,
春
what
明
if
さ
the
んを
winning
100
move is
回
to
殺
kill
し
you
たらク
100
リア
times?
とか、ないかな
I realized that I never considered what a threat Chiemi with memories could be. I was killed over and over again, over and over. Sometimes she killed me right upon seeing me in the darkness of Saranaga or the dining hall. This is so damn fun. Your expression is so new to me. I love
楽
it.
しいよ死に顔が斬新新鮮
Sometimes she
嬉
acted
し
out
い
events like I'd remember them, then grinned and killed me when I was completely defenseless.
忘れて
Did
る
you
と思っ
forget?
た
Too bad. Chiemi-chan Dark Edition is
村
still
口
alive.
千恵美ちゃんは未だ健在でした
Apparently, she didn't remember things until I provoked it somehow. That must have been because the number of loops she spent alone was way lower than the number of loops spent. Way lower than the number of loops since we'd started sharing memories. Her loop count was probably way over 100. She was a whole lot more damaged than I first thought. Oh, but After she killed me 63 times, it finally got to me. I'd been attacked with Saranaga about 20 times now. Half of those times she was blasting and bull shotguns at the same time, just like this time. Otherwise she used traps or feints to corner me and then finish me off. So, she had no idea how to handle the situation in which I survived her first shotgun blast. No, why?
いや
No, what?
僕
How do you think I feel about getting killed over and over and over? Honestly, not even I expected to find a bulletproof vest in that convenience store. It didn't protect me completely, though. It just kept my torso from being blown to pieces. My
殺され
ribcage
て
was
さ
shattered and the internal injuries were undoubtedly fatal. Still, I had enough life in me to catch her off guard and fight back.
チミちゃん
Chami-chan, how do you want to die?
死にたい
Oh man, this is so satisfying. What'll I do next time, though? What would she do to me after this? Would this just continue forever? This might have been an actual dead end. Man,
邪
such
魔
a
くさ
damn
いな
pain in the ass. End of the line for me this time. Sorry. She can still breathe? My consciousness faded out about the same moment as I delivered the final attack. The next loop came. I heard your dust of music to Saranaga and encountered Chami just like always. This time was different though, she didn't have any weapons. Chami didn't attack me or run, she just vacantly looked at nothing in particular.
はじめまして
Nice to meet you,
Serizawa
Serizawa-san.
Chimi-san.
I sat down next to her.
はじめまして
Nice to meet you, Haruaki Kusaishi-san. What a mechanical response. Saying each other's names on our first encounter had become common practice until we started sharing memories of the loops. However, neither of us said anything more this time. It was awkward. I felt like we just had a fight. Well, not like we hadn't.
何怒って
What
る
is it?
の
Are you mad?
怒る筋合い
I
な
don't
ん
have a
て
reason to be.
だよね
Yeah, but you are mad.
でも怒ってる
邪魔
The pain in the ass hurt a bit to hear.
そっ
Hey,
ちこ
don't
そ
get teary-eyed on me
こ
now.
こで涙目
I
はず
fought
るい
back only once.
殺し方
There
に
was no love in the way you
愛が
killed
な
me.
すごいこと言う
Now
な
that's a quote. Well, I didn't mean for there to be any love in it, and I
愛
don't
を
know
込
how
め
I'd
て
feel
殺し
if I
たつも
told
り
you
はな
that
い
your
し
kills did.
分かっ
I
て
know.
分かって
I know
る
what
け
you
どさ
mean.
私
I got so carried away.
あなたを
Killing you
殺し
helped
て
me
る
forget
間
the feeling of isolation.
何度だ
I
って
can kill you countless times and do whatever to
何度だ
you,
っ
so I
て
thought you'd
何で
forgive
も
me
できる
always.
それは
And that's just awful.
ごめん
Sorry.
前の
Last loop I realized
私は確かに
that I really was being a pain in the ass for
春
you.
明さんは
But you only saw this whole thing in terms of your own goal.
どういうこと
What?
私たち
It
の目的
wasn't
じ
our
ゃ
goal to you.
春
I'm
明
just
さ
a
んの
side
中で
character to you, and all that matters to you is whether I'm useful or not. I only said that because I was
あれは
just
ちょっ
pissed,
と
that's all.
嘘だ
That's a lie.
春明さん
You
は
lie so much.
よう
I
やく
finally realized you
私は
scare me.
神様
Even
よ
more
り
than God.
あなたに傷
Being
つけら
hurt,
れる
killed, or simply glared at by you
殺され
scares
る
me
のが
more than anything.
それくらい
That's how much I love you.
好きだから
You're scary because I love you, and I love you because you're
Why can't I-
scary. I want to kill you because I love you, and I love you so much I want to kill you.
私が
I
お
know
か
that's
しいのが
weird,
分かっ
but
て
that's
る
what I realized. I really do
そ
love
の
you.
でも
But it's a feeling that's
その
not
思いが
mutual
き
at
っ
all.
と殺しがな
That
くて
wouldn't
も
have changed even
それ
if
は
I
同じ
wasn't
だった
killing you, right?
とはやめ
Stop
て
with the
あなたは
You
嘘を
always say that before telling a
必
lie.
ずをつける
召し上が
You're
ら
not
な
going
い
to
の
eat? I have a bunch of
結
allergies.
構アレルギーあるんで
僕が
What
も
do you
う
mean by I
やっ
already
たから
tried it? 'It's just something random I
口
thought
から
up
出
on the
任せで
spot.
す
You'd
よ
be surprised how
不思
convincing
議
mysterious
系の物言い
words
っ
can
て
be.
結構
How do I get
名前は
Kusaishi, a
ふさいし
graduate student in a Tokyo college?
東京で大学
Hey, who are you really?
あ
A
学生
student, a doctor, a detective, or just a murderer?
もう
I don't know anything
何も
anymore.
あなたを好き
I
だし
love you, want to kill you, you scare me, I want to be closer to you, run away from you,
も
become
っと
one
近
with
づき
you.
あなた
I
の
want
全てが
everything
欲
you
し
are,
い
but
け
I
ど
can't tell you don't. But I can tell you don't
あな
want
た
that.
でも
But I don't know what'll
その
happen
先
after
もわ
that.
からない
I figured that maybe just killing you over and
た
over
だあ
would
な
keep
た
me
と
happy
殺し合っ
even
て
if
れ
it
ば
scared me.
ここが地獄
I
だと
always
思
thought
って
this
た
was
けど
hell.
本当
But
は
maybe it's actually heaven.
天国なのかな
I pushed her into the river. What are you doing? What are you doing?
キスですな
You.
そ
I
の
mean
前
the
に
pushing. Well, I
Yeah.
thought, what the
とり
hell
あえ
is this
ず
girl who killed me does
僕
the
を数
time
十
saying?
回
I
ぶち
figured I
殺
had
し
to
てお
get
い
back
て
at you
何言っ
somehow.
て
Okay, repeat after me. I won't do
と
what
りあえ
people
ず
don't
復
want me to
唱
do.
人の
I
嫌がる
won't
こ
do what
とを
people
し
don't
ない
want me to do.
とりあえ
Just
ず
so you
僕
know, I don't
は
like being
死
killed
に
over
ま
and
くる
over.
趣
So
味は
find a
ない
better
の
way
で
to express your
愛情
love.
表
ごめんなさい
Sorry. Now I'll look back at all that as an expression of love.
一応
And I
僕
don't
も
hate
君
you.
のことは
I
嫌い
like
じゃ
how
ない
insane you are.
そ
Really? I mean, no, I won't let you fool me. If that's true, why have you been calling me just Chiemi after we started sharing our memories?
気づいてたか
Noticed? I did!
好きな
Because
の
like
と
someone and dating them are two
男女
different
として
things.
付き合うかどうかは
I
僕らは
do
お
like
互い
you,
に
but
好
I'd
き
say
だ
our
と思うけど
compatibility is the worst.
多分
Maybe two.
相性僕と
If we're
君が
together
一緒
for
になれ
long,
ば
we'll just become more and
二
more
人でど
insane
んどん
even
狂
after
ってい
we
け
get
て
out
し
of
まう
here.
まあ
Well, there are
多
societies
少
where
お
you
かしくても
get
生きて
by
いけ
being
る
a
社
bit
会は
weird,
存
but I
在す
think
る
that
け
we
ど
should both look for someone
僕
more.
も君も多分それ
And
に
I
僕
kinda got
は
close to someone else.
君
Rikako-san.
あ
Yeah, and Haru-chan.
いつ
When did that happen?
君が自
After you
殺した
killed
後だよ
yourself? Huh? Oh well.
要は
Basically, you
私
want
以
to
外
choose
のど
someone
っちか
other
を選
than
ぼう
me,
って言うんだ
even though neither of them even
今は
know
二
about
人と
you
も春
now.
そうじゃない
That's not it. It's just
た
that
だ
I ended up providing
二人
them
には
really
結
awful
局
deaths.
そんな彼女
After
た
that,
ちに
I've been
対し
left
て
with feelings of guilt
僕
and
が一
desire
方
to
的
at
に
least
罪
make
悪
them
感
happy
やら
next time around.
そんな状
And
態
if
で
being
君を
sincere
彼
is
女に
true
す
to
る
you,
の
will I
は
still feel that
不
way,
誠
right?
実
そんな状態
About
で
as
水中
sincere
に
as
押し
pushing
倒
me
して
down
キ
and
スす
kissing
る
me.
の
今ので
That
これ
kiss
ま
is
での
payback
殺
for
人
all
は
the
全部
murders.
じゃあ
Then,
いい
okay, fine. But really, my lips are enough for
私
that?
実にい
Taste
い
is
お味で
great.
した
Jesus Christ.
あ
I remembered something.
Oh,
It's
yes,
about the
sir.
quiz you gave me.
エロエロだっ
You being
て
a
のだけ
thirsty
不
for
正
love
解
is a
だ
bad answer.
この
You
生
innocent
娘
girl.
赤
Dummy.
やっぱ
I'll
殺
kill
す
you. I won't kill you. Date me already. Be my darling. Yeah, become my first. Whoa. This is it. This is exactly what I wanted. I love this mix of happiness and embarrassment. It sustains me.
だったら
Then,
ダメだよ
no.
出ないと
If I
君
do
が
that, you'll find happiness in this loop of hell and stop wanting to
See
do
ya.
it.
私はそれ
I
で
don't
もい
mind
い
that.
いいもんか
Like hell, that's not how you were at the
君は最
start,
初
right?
巻き戻りの
The
連続
looping
は
warps people.
人
Even
間
I
を
was
歪
no
める
exception a couple times.
必要のため
Even
に
if
我
you
慢
can
はで
tough
き
it
ても
out, dying hurts and it's
死ぬ
something
の
no
は
one wants.
これから永
Imagine if
遠
this
にこ
goes
こを
on
回
forever
り
and we
続
keep
けて
dying over and over.
僕らは
Maybe
永
even
遠
at
に
each
死に
other's hands.
いつまでも
I'm not confident I
君
can
へ
keep
の好きっ
liking
て
you in
気持
that
ちを持
scenario.
ち続けら
You
れる
can't
自
deny
信
that
はない
either,
よ
can you?
ループが続く限
As
り
long as the loop continues,
僕
we
ら
won't
は寿命
expire
で死ぬ
until
こと
old
も
age
ない
and just pile memory upon
記
memory
憶
as
だ
we go.
そこでお
Imagine if
互い
we
が
end
憎
up
み合って
hating
ご
each
らん
other. This would become a
ここ
true hell.
そんなの
I don't want that.
やだ
I really, really don't.
ちえみ
What
ち
a
ゃんは泣き
crybaby.
うるさい
Shut up,
サイ
psychopath.
コパス
A murderer just called me a psychopath. Anyway, I try to stay honest from now on.
だから
I can't date you while
ま
counting
だ
on
見
an
えない
escape
出口
until
を
I
当
get
てにして
inside.
君と付き
Thus,
合う
I
こと
said
は
it.
これって
Is this what it means to be
失恋かな？
heartbroken?
うん
Yeah.
と
No. Uh-huh.
つかない
ああれは
Sorry for killing you so many times.
もうチャラだ
I
よ
got my payback.
ちえみ
Sorry
ちゃ
for
んを
killing
一
you
回
last time. It was just one
も
time
のす
and
ご
it
く
was
残
really
虐
cruel.
怖かっ
I was so scared.
ごめん
Sorry.
た邪魔で
Sorry I've been a pain in the ass.
言い方
Sorry for not being more
悪かっ
considerate.
もうしないか
I
ら
won't do that again.
構っ
I
てく
do
れるこ
enjoy
と
the
自体
attention
は
you give me though. Really?
本当だ
Really?
よ
You should really think about whether
君
you
は
want to
本
kill
当
me or date me.
そうだよね
I had so many dreams of murder that I forgot what's what.
全部
I want to forget everything.
忘れたいな
二人し
Let's go
て
to the hanging pine
首
and
吊
jump
り
in the
松のところ
Saranaga
から
head first
さら
like
なる
this.
なぜそんな
Why?
頭打っ
Maybe the
て
head trauma will
嫌
help
な
us
ことを
forget
全部忘れられ
what
る
we
か
don't
も
want to remember.
いいかも
I like that. It's a couple
信じようみたい。
suicide. We really might have been insane. Or maybe that could be said about anyone who is in love.
下
You can't see the bottom from here.
そうだ
Yeah.
ね
落ちた
Can we
ら
really die if we fall?
さすがに
I'm
死ねるんじゃ
pretty
ないか
sure
な
we
映
will.
画のテンパった
What if
と
we
こ
fall
ろ
apart on a flat part of the cliff, survive and suffer? What if we fall on a flat part of the cliff, survive and suffer? You
じゃ
got
あ
any
どうすれ
other
ばいいと
ideas,
思いますか
Chami-san?
ちえみさんは
その
Well, maybe we'll fall in the same spot if we hug each other.
ロマンチシス
Oh,
ト
what's
め
romantic?
あれ
Huh?
どうした
What's
の
wrong? At this inappropriate moment, I realized something.
いや
I just had a thought that I should be the one at the
今こう思ったん
bottom
だ。
and take the brunt of the impact.
わお
Wow, you're gonna
かばって
protect
くれ
me,
るっ
but
て
then it won't hit my head and forget, right?
いや
That's not what I
そうじゃ
mean.
なく
そうじゃ
It's
ない
not.
僕が死
I
ねば
just figured
巻き
since I
戻
can
るから
look
っ
back
て
if I die.
そう
いやいや
That's
それ
not
はお
right.
か
I
しい
mean, I'm the one who's gonna
私
look back.
そう
Exactly.
それ
I've been going through
僕
this
らは
while
ちょっと
ignoring one of the main
す
issues
ごく
here.
僕視点で
From
見
my
れば
perspective, I
僕
obviously
が
don't
死ん
remember
だ
what
後の
happened
記
after
憶は
I
当然ない
died,
し
and I always go back to
振
the
り出し
start
に
after
戻る
just
の
a
はいいし
moment.
でも考
But
え
now
てみ
that I
れば
think about it, the same is true for
君
you,
の視
right?
点でだっ
Because we
て
don't have consciousness
死んだら
after we're dead. Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, you told me about things that happened after I
私が
died,
死ん
so
だ
I
後
was
の
like,
こと
huh?
とか普通に語ってる
Exactly.
か
We
ら
talked about
大
loops
丈
in
夫
which either of us weren't present, but we still don't know the condition that actually causes the loops to reset.
僕は
I thought that everything after mind jet just wouldn't happen.
私も
Same here, but we proved that's not how it works.
じゃあ
Then when
世
does the
界は
world
いつ
loop
まで
back?
私たちの
It has to be
振り
some
出し
sort
に
of day.
特定の
Like
日
our
が
starting
分
point,
解
right?
なんじゃ
What's the longest you survived?
4日で宴
Feast
が終
back
わっ
then
て
ended in
数
4
日
days,
だ
so
か
it's
ら
probably 10 days or 2
10日
weeks.
とかいや
Wait, hold on. I feel like I survived way longer than that.
私
My longest is a week, but now that I think about it, it could happen a while after we die, like a year.
あ
Yeah, no matter how
僕らが
much
死ん
time
だ
passes
後は
after we die, we
い
won't
く
be
ら
able to
時が
perceive
そ
it.
うそう
Yet, for all we know, the world could be looping after billions of years like the end of the universe.
可能性
That's
は
not
ゼロじゃ
impossible,
ない
but I
が
don't think this is quite that
そんな
ridiculous.
この事件には
We know that someone is
黒
behind
幕が
all
いる
this,
と分かって
and
る
that they're creating a loop to bring
黒
back the
幕は
monster.
そうなると
That's why it's best to
失
believe
敗
the
した
loop
ら
happens once they
即
fail
座
to
に
do that. That's true.
そうなると
That means
僕ら
that
が
if
生き
they
ていた
failed,
と
they
して
would
も
loop back even if we
黒
were
幕が
alive.
失敗したらそういうことは
You ever had
な
that
かった
happen? You didn't even know if
死
you
ん
were
だ
dead
か
or
ど
not
う
for
か
some
もわから
reason
ないの
looking
に
back.
あった
I did when Kari-san went out of control and I happened to survive. I left by bus and same here. It happened when I tried to move to
富
Fujiyoshi
士吉
after
に
the
移住
officer
しよう
chased
と
me
して
out.
駐在の
というか
Hell,
ちょっ
the
と
same
前
happened
に
when
2
we
人
tried
で
to
バイク
escape
に
by
直した
bike
そう
recently.
忘れてた
I forgot about that. Not me.
もちろん
Of course, it could be that
霧
we
の
just
中
crashed
で
in
事
the
故
mist.
っただけかもしれないが
Memories aren't clear
それ
yet.
にしちゃ
And it's
記
weird
憶
that we
が曖昧
remember
だ
just this one thing.
巻き戻り
There
を起
must
こ
be
す
another
国
trigger
が
to activate a loop.
他にある
これ
This is a dream, right?
誰の夢なの
Who's this? The sheep had told me that the opponent was a dream wielder.
黒幕が
The culprit tries to make it their plot come to fruition in the dream.
失敗して死ん
And
じゃ
if
っ
they
た
fail
ら
or die, they
また
restart
最
the
初
dream.
手がかりだ
That's a clue.
出られる
Can we get out?
そう
It
甘
won't be
くは
that easy, huh?
ないよね
I fell silent. And after looking at the void before me,
どうする
what do you want to do?
頑張ってみ
Keep
る
trying? Yeah.
でもやっぱ
But I do want to try falling here at least once.
このマ
You
ゾ
masochist.
やっ
The
ぱ
memories of all the murders I committed are heavy, and I don't want to keep repeating this.
忘れられなく
Even
て
if I can't forget it
ちょ
all,
っ
I
と
need
く
a
らい
bit of
気
change
分
of
転
pace.
気分転換で
Crushing
脳
your
み
skull
そを
for
フラッ
a
シュ
change
だ
of pace, huh?
大事
What
な
if
記
you lose
憶
some
を振り落
important
とすかも
memories?
それはきっと
I'm
大
sure
丈
it'll
夫
be fine. The Haruaki-san and Chiami, I know, can find out things like your sudden realization, which is fine.
互いが記憶を
What if
共
we
有してい
forget
る
that
こ
we
とも
know each other?
そこまで
That'd be
忘れ
good,
ちゃったら
actually. It'd be a chance for me to make a fresh start with you.
まずいチ
This
ー
little
ム
masochist is
ここ
pretty
から
hung
抱
up
き合
on
っ
the
てず
idea
る
of
って
taking
し
a
てる
dive in your embrace
どう
here.
せ
This might
こ
be
れ
my
が
last
自分
chance
の
for that.
最後かもしれない
After all, I rejected her.
心中の
Having a
戦
taste of the
地
sentimentality behind a
その
couple
次やり直せ
suicide
る
and
って
actually
のは
surviving is pretty insincere, but pretty juicy, huh?
君のそう
I
い
really
う
like how
頭
your
の
mind
働か
works
せ
in these
方
situations. Really? You like it?
好きだよ
I do.
心の
Do you
底
love it
か
from
ら
the bottom of your heart?
え
Right before I was about to talk, my mouth was closed shut. Her lips cut my words short.
や
Not
るじゃ
bad.
ん
しっかり
Get
して
a
よ
grip, Haruaki-san.
どう
If
せ忘
we're
れ
gonna
る
forget this, at least spoil me a bit. There's no guarantee we'd forget it. Oh well.
愛し
I
て
love
る
you, Chiami. I love you too much. Man, that sounds like a lie.
悪かったな
Sorry, I seem like a swindler. You really do.
でも
But I love you too, Haruaki-san.
では
Then, yeah. With the hope of starting anew, forgetting all the nonsense, pain, hatred, and sadness, we innocently smiled at each other. And with shared hope, we jumped off the cliff. Number 3. Game over! Dang, I didn't loop. Alright, number 3. $20. 3, 8, 19, and 20. 3, 8, 19, and 20. 3, 8, 19, and 20. 3. Nope. Don't have 8. Don't have 19. So that's probably the end. Four I did. 5, 6, 7 we did. Here it is. Wait, why did we jump here? At that moment, my head was flooded with information. Felt like my mind was crushed by a million sheep. That is not what happened. Crap, why'd I forget? Did my memories carry over in a weird way because the method from back then was weird? Wait. Oh. Well, then again, this wouldn't be the first time my memories didn't carry over properly. Maybe I should have counted myself lucky for remembering at all. I had tons of things to think about. About the beast in the village. I already went over this. The giant monster. The dream enveloping Fujiyoshi, as well as looping the sheep had told me about. But This wasn't the time to worry about that. Does this fucking loop too? I went back to the Nosato mansion. Doorbell.
ごめんください
Doorbell.
ごめんくだ
Excuse me.
さい
Doorbell, 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 doorbell.
ティアイ空虚の
In the
草
jungle.
むらに豚ももクロがシャウトする
Why is he singing?
こっちで一本立ち
Who's
しなが
singing
ら
the Buddha's
ぶっさ
ass
りロッ
rock
ク
while
歌って
hammering
るの
my
は誰
doorbell?
だ僕でした
Me!
君か
You have you gone mad? What's wrong with you? You were a normal youth until a moment ago.
いえ
Perfectly
正気
sane.
で
And you
す
know the song? What about it? I simply remember hearing it at a store.
え
Huh?
貧者スレ
See,
イ
you
バーは
don't
ご
know
存
the
知ない
Ninja slavery.
いや
Well, I do.
ああ
I
やっ
knew
ぱり
it personally.
僕はもらいもんが好きで
えらくマイナーなヒン
What
ジ
a major hinja.
第
Like
3部なら
the
ブ
guess
ラック土下座あたりが
wait,
定
you
番なんじゃ
started
ない
with
のか
part
ね
3.
あ
Well, I really love the
ブ
part
ラッ
where
クド
five
ゲザが
black
5体
Dugazzas
集まって
gathered and
ブ
became
ラ
a
ック
black
ドゲザリアになるとこ
Sorry.
ろ野里さんは
You're an otaku, huh?
君もだ
So are you.
いや
Wait, this isn't
マ
the
イナ
time to
ー
bond
な
over
の話
minor
題で
flash
親睦を
movies.
深めている場合
You don't
か
have any other business with
もう
me,
用
do you?
はないだ
I'm
ろ
busy here.
忙しい
野里
I
さ
have
んを
something to tell you. I believe you
分かって
are
くだ
someone
さ
who
る
don't
方だと
understand. What is it?
僕は今か
I
ら
will say something
突
absurd
拍子もな
now.
いこと
You
を
might
言い
even
ます
doubt my sanity.
いや
Well, I'm not saying that you
現
can't
実と虚
differentiate
構の区
reality
別が
and
つかない
fiction.
と言っ
In
てる
fact,
わけ
you
じゃないん
probably
です
do
よ
it better than the average
むし
person.
ただ
However, I do
虚構
believe
じ
you
み
have
たこと
decent
が現
ability to
実に起きた
suspend your
時
disbelief.
待ちたまえ
Wait, what are you
何
getting
か
at?
何だか
Do you know that
劇
movie
場
where
版
someone
作
is
品をご
repeating
存
the
知です
day
か
before
同じ日
the
を
day before the school
学園
culture
祭の前
festival
日
over
を
and over again?
お
Oh,
う
that
あ
one,
れ
it's
か
a classic. Sure, I
ま
know
あ
about
傑
it.
作だからね
Sure, I know it. What about it?
僕は同じことを
Something
体験して
similar
い
is
ます
happening to me right now.
待ちたまえ
Wait,
もう数時
this
間
will
で
rise from Saranaga in just a
サラナガに
few
霧が
hours.
立つ
The feast of the Yummy Purge will
読
begin
み
and
の
many
宴
will
が
die. What are you?
そ
Wait,
れは何を
why do you know that term?
そして
You will die too.
ち
Answer my question. Stop saying
質問に答えたまえ
ridiculous things. I
そうは
understand
言っ
if
て
you
も
don't believe me.
僕
I
は何十
repeated
回
these
か
few days dozens
こ
of
の数
times
日
now.
間
With
を繰
every
り返
death,
し
I
体
loop
験し
back
てい
to
ます
square one.
そのため
That's why I know a lot
こ
about
の集落の
Yasumi's
事情はほとんど知っています
newcomer should know about.
あな
You
た
were a
が
doctor of
大
medicine,
卒の医師
graduated from
医学
University
博士で
Chikamochi Kamoshida is
鴨
your
志田
nephew.
近持ちの叔父にあたる禁煙者でしか
However,
し
I'm
それを
sure
言っ
that's
て
not
も納
enough. I
得して
could
は
have
もら
easily
え
looked
ない
it
で
up
しょ
myself.
うしかも
And what's more, I didn't come here to
僕
save
はあ
you.
なたを
It's
助け
likely
る
that
こと
you'll
が
die
目
in
的
this
で来た
time
んじゃな
too.
いしかし
But I would like to ask you
話を
some things.
今
So
回
I
で
can
はない
prevent
ん
the
です
feast
か
from happening in another
読み
timeline.
の宴を止めるために
本
Are
気
you serious?
ええ
Yes.
なぜ
Why come to me?
僕はこれまで何度も
Through the
宴に
many
参加
feasts
し
I've been in, I've come to
あなたの
understand
人
what
と
kind
な
of
りを
person
見て
you
きまし
are,
た
your nature basically.
あなたは
And I believe that you're a
話
person
せ
who
ば
can
わかる
understand
方だ
things
と
if
踏ん
they're
でいます
explained properly.
上がりたま
Come
え
in. There. So he just like left Chiemi, splattered on the floor, and then woke up at Nosato Mansion. He let me into the well-furnished reception room. The inside was as fancy as the outside. The village heads had to be a really wealthy bunch.
物
Is
珍
it that
しい
curious? He returned from the kitchen carrying a set of black tea.
すみ
Sorry
ま
for
せん
staring.
時代
I
錯
think
誤
it's
なのは
outdated
私も
too.
感じ
Don't
るとこ
worry,
ろだ
have some tea.
ああすみま
Oh
せん
no, no need to fuss over me. I'm a poor upbringing, so do
育ちが
tell
悪
me
い
if
も
I'm
の
not
で
drinking right or something.
やかましく飲まな
Don't
ければ
mind if you
結
drink
構
how you
だ
want.
承知です
Thank you. Now, was this room prepared by the head of the family from
こ
three
の部屋も
generations ago? Your
先
great
々
grandfather?
どこでそれ
Where
を
did you
聞い
hear
た
about him?
よしんば
Even you are a
君
how
が
do I
言う
put
よう
it?
にその
Looper. I
ル
do
ー
not
プ
believe
旅
in
行
the
者が
Sato would tell you
と
about
かだ
the
とし
stain
て
at the family name.
あれだ
Did another
他の
village head
長者
tell you
の
about it?
事情
I
を知
don't
る
know
者
what
が
he'd want, but he
君
must
に
be
吹き
some
込ん
sort
だ
of
のだ
swindler.
あなたですよ
It was you.
な
What?
あなた
I
自
heard
身
it
の
from
口
you
から聞き
when
ま
you
し
and
た
Chikamochi Kamoshida
鴨志田
relationship
近持ち
became
君との
worse.
関
He
係
told
性
me
がある
this.
お前
You were
は
as
先
much of a
々先
madman
代
as
に
your
そっ
great
くりの
great
狂人
grandfather.
だ
He closed his eyes and groaned and laid back on his sofa.
興味深いか
I
ら
invited
話
you
だ
out
け
to
は
the
聞い
inside
て
out
や
of
ろ
your
う
curiosity,
そこまで
but
踏
if
み
you
込
know
んだ
that
ことを
much,
知
I
っ
might
てい
even
る
believe you.
信じていただかないと困るん
No,
で
I
す
don't
が
have anything I can call
とはい
evidence.
え代わりに
Instead, I will tell you of the lips
僕
I
がこれまで
experienced.
むし
It
ろ
will
高
probably
等無
make
形
it
と
seem
思
even
われ
more
るかもしれ
absurd,
ま
but I
せん
still
が
want you to believe it.
脳書きはいい
Enough with the build-up. Get to
早
it.
くしたまえ
I drank the fragrant tea and spoke about the time Yasunaga Rime won as a wolf, by the time Chiemi tried to kill everyone and the time she failed, and even how at the end of that time Kyonosuke she had, for some reason, killed Rikako-san, and then I killed him. Finally, I told him about the time I became a wolf and sacrificed my companions to win. Though I kept quiet about the sheep and the giant monster for now, it was hard to think that he was the main culprit behind the loop, but there was no guarantee that I wouldn't leak out somehow. Thus, I only told him that I was hanged because Omiya-san found the flashlight. I'd also mentioned that Kiyonosuke she died too, and that I'd heard of the thing about his great grandfather then. After about an hour of talk, he stood up to get more tea. He poured it in, and I gladly drank it. Unlike before, it was herb tea. Tired from talking, I let the pleasant scent of the tea wash away my fatigue and eyed him. He was hanging his head, looking down at the tea leaves floating in his tea. He then took the cup in hand, drank some of it, and looked at me.
確かに
You're right,
口
that
頭
does
無
sound
形だが
absurd.
ね。しかし
However, it does seem like
この
something that
口
could
頭
happen in
無
this
形な場
absurd
所で
place.
信じていただけるんです
極めて強く
I'll
興
simply
味
say
を
that
持
I'm
っ
more
た
interested in this than
とは
ever.
言ってお
But
こ
the
う
more I listen, the more I wonder,
君は
what do you
私
want
に
of me? If you have seen
何
so
を
many
求め
feats,
てい
surely
る
you know by now.
私は
I am not a man who can
そ
do
んな
much
苦
in
境
a
に
dire
おいて
situation.
無関
I'll
係な
start
と
with
ころから
something
話すよ
seemingly
うですが
unrelated, but I don't quite
あなた
understand
の
that
その
opinion
スタン
of
ス
yours.
当初
At first, I thought you were
あな
just
た
an
はただの
arrogant and howdy
傲
person.
慢で尊大な人物にしか見えなかっ
person.
た
Then I thought you were
後に
just a village head
問
antagonistic
題は
to
長者とや
Yasumizu.
あなたは実
I
際
would
の
only
とこ
say
ろ
that you're a bit
少
uncomfortable
々
with
地
your
元との
hometown,
折り合いが悪いという
and
だ
that
け
you
の人
actually
物
have
で
good discretions and talent.
時々無茶をなさってはい
You
る
do
もの
absurd
の
things sometimes, but I
おそ
do
らく
believe
ご自
you
分
look
の
at your
評判に
decisions
つい
from a
て
third person perspective.
となると
That makes it feel like you're hiding
脳
your
あ
true
るたかが
abilities.
実際
I
のところ
honestly am nearly completely sure
長者
that
が
the
読
head
み
families
の
are
宴
involved
に
in
一
the
枚かん
feast.
となる
That's
と
why I believe you might know something, but
あ
are
なたは
hiding
な
it.
なので
That's why I want you to tell me
ま
what
ず
you
お
know
願
about
いしたいのは
Yasumizu and Fujiyoshi's secrets.
なお
Though, as I mentioned
先ほ
before,
ど
there
の
may be
話の
more
中で
delicate
も触れま
matters
した
here,
が
like the Yamato family.
ただ
Even so, I want to hear everything.
私が話し
I
下
am
手
bad
で
at talking and leading
場の
simply
仕切り
because
も
I
う
am
ま
that
くな
kind
い
of
のは
person.
知って
As
い
you
るか
know,
と
the
思
current
う
head
が
of the family is my older brother.
今の
He's
野
a
里
great
の
man of
当主は
character with immense
私の
intelligence and
実刑だ
charisma.
私は幼少の
I've
頃
been
か
in
ら
his shadow ever
彼に
since
つ
I
い
was
てば
young.
かり
Whenever I said or did whatever I wanted,
彼
he
の
would
そば
spit
で
it in
好
a
き
way
な
that
こ
was
とを
good
言
for
ったり
me.
やそれで全てがうまくいって
Because
いたも
everything
のだ
went
か
so
ら
well for him, I began
私
to
は
believe I was blessed
自
with
分が
great
才
talent.
覚に恵まれ20歳になるまでには
I realized how mediocre I
自分
was
は
by the
盆
time I
栽で
turned 20. I realized I
筋
was
道
bad
だ
at
ったもの
reasoning
の
and
考え
generally a
方をするのが
nuisance.
苦手なだからこ
That's
こを
why I
出
left
たの
this
だ
village, though I couldn't find a
かといっ
place
て
for myself outside
あ
either.
まり馴染めなかったがね唯一
The
馴
only
染めた
place
の
where I
は
felt comfortable
大
was
学
the
の
Sci-Fi
SF 研
Research
究会で
Society. It was basically
ま
a
あ
hangout for gaudy
煮
people
詰め
like
たような
myself.
それでも頭
Even
は
so, most
抜
of
群
them
に
were
良い連
smart,
中
and
ばか
even
り
the
で
president, despite his
留
many
年を
repeated
重ね
years
た
and
会長
excellent
は
leadership skills.
日は副会長
I
と
became
なっ
the
た
vice
私が
president, and whenever I said
彼
anything
の
too
横でた
apprehensive,
だ危惧や
speculative, or
憶測や
scathing, he
辛
would
辣
turn
な
it
ことを
around
言
for
ってい
me.
れば私に
I
は
know full well that I
自
can't
分
lead.
でおそらく
I imagine that
君が見て
the
きた
me you
私
knew
は
merely tried to be useful
牧
to
島
serve
王や織部
Makishima,
安永君
Yasunuge
あるいは室の
Uribe,
やつ
Yasunaga
役立とうとしたの
Uribe
だろう
Muro.
一方で
I probably couldn't abandon
私
my
はそ
pride
んな
even
状
in that
況でも
situation. A
自
village
尊
head like
心
me
を
has
捨て
to
られ
take
なかっ
charge
たの
and
だろう
whatnot.
これもまた
That's so unreasonable.
私
I
の非
truly am a
合理性
problematic
だ
person.
ここ
Please
まで
don't
言
be
っ
so
てきて
hard
な
on
んです
yourself.
が
I can see pretty
あ
clearly
まり
that
卑下
you're
な
a
さらないでく
level-headed
ださい
person.
それは君
That's
が
only
あまり
because
に
you
も
said
突拍
things
子
so
もない
absurd
こ
that
と
I
を
felt
言う
like
ものだか
opening
ら
up to you.
ついさっき
Remember how I was before I let
君
you
に応対
outside?
した私のことを思い出したまえ
Aggressive,
いかに
boring
も
man.
まあ
Well, even if
た
you're a
とえ
liar and
君の
everything
語
you
った
said
の
is
が
made up,
全
I
くの
consider
作り
this
話
worth
だ
it
った
for
と
the
しても
moment of introspection.
君が授業料
At
をよ
least
こ
as
すな
long
ど
as you
と言い
don't
出
tell
さ
me
な
to
い
pay
限
to
り
your,
は
for your tuition
だ
or
がね
something. My heart ached a bit.
そんなこ
I
と
won't
言い
say
ま
that,
せん
of
よ
course, but I was
もちろん
exposing the current him to danger.
さ
Now
て
back to topic
少
about
し
what you
話
wanted
が
to hear.
残念ながら
Unfortunately, the family isn't that
私
interested
は
in me.
それは
You mean that?
Oh.
Yes. Though I do know
長
the
者と
basics
して
of what
知
a
るべ
village
きと
head
こ
should
ろ
know.
裏の
I
計
know
画など
absolutely nothing about what they do
全
behind
く
the
聞い
scenes.
ておらんよ
Though,
かつて
do you know about the older
安光と上
hostilities
藤吉が
between
どういっ
Yasumizu
た
and
形の
Kami
対立
Fujiyoshi? No, please tell
そ
me.
れはぜひ聞きたいです
Unfortunately, barely anyone knew about the village and the feast, or rather, they all converged upon a certain old story. It was a minor bit of knowledge Kiyonosuke she knew as a village head, and he said that Yasumizu had once rebelled against Kami Fujiyoshi. They didn't know what prompted it, but apparently it had had something to do with the water used for growing crops. I feel like I remember them mentioning this. Anyway, the people of Yasumizu invaded Kami Fujiyoshi at night and stole, beat, and killed people. They were all covered in Saranaga's mud to keep from being identified. Kami Fujiyoshi's inhabitants greatly feared their appearance. Thus, after the rebellion, they decided to make things even worse for Yasumizu, and the inhabitants effectively strangled themselves. Apparently.
ちなみに
I believe the thing about Saranaga's mud is tied to Fujiyoshi's unique perspective of life
藤吉村
and
の
death,
独特な
particularly
姿勢
Yomi.
例えば
So did the butt of
そ
the
の反
rebellion
乱
make
が
Kami
きっかけで
Fujiyoshi believe that the people
泥
of
まみれの
Yasumizu
休み
could
ず
be
陣を
Yamito?
それは考
That's not
えら
really
れ
a
なくも
question,
な
but
いが
not certain either.
すでに安光
Yasumizu
と
and
上
Kami
藤吉の
Fujiyoshi
住み
had
分
already
け
been
はされており
segregated, and it wasn't unlikely
なお
that
か
there
つ
would be a
休みず
rebellion.
泥を塗ると
It
いう
was
発
likely
想
that
も
the idea to cover
そ
themselves
も
in
そ
blood
も
was
サラ
linked
ナ
to
ガ
the
が
legend
黄泉
that
につなが
Saranага
る
was
という
Yomi and
伝説
intended
があ
to
った
frighten people.
なるほど
I see Sahashi with the
じゃあ
event.
例えば
For one, it was the reason
現
why
在
She
で
Night.
も行われる
Why?
新内
It was
祭
the reason for the She
山
Night
祭りで
Festival,
行
the
われ
mountain
るそ
festival
の
that
理
is
由
still
付
held
け
today.
上藤吉か
They
ら
have a
出発し
tradition
た
to hold
狼
parade
行
of
列
wolves,
だ
and it symbolizes the
安水
subduming
の者を
and
ひ
bringing
れ
down
伏
of
さ
the
せて
people of
水をかけ
Yasumizu.
彼らが農
Have
作
you
業
seen
の
the
時に
cloth
かぶ
mask they make
綿布を見た
they
か
wear while farming?
え
Yes,
安
it's
水
so
の
that the
者
people
が
of Yasumizu
読み
don't
人
look
と
at the
目を合
eyes
わ
of
せ
the
ないよう
Yomibito.
逆だよ
It's the other way around. It's so the people of Kamifuji
Kamifuji
Yoshi
Yoshi
look
no
over the eyes of the people of
読み人
Yasumizu.
かもし
May
れ
or
ない
may
安
not be
水の者と
Yomibito.
目を合わさずに済ますこのように
These old unreasonable
古代じみた
superstitions
迷
are
信
still
に基
alive
づい
because
た
they
不
cross
条
the
理が
line
それ
once.
が
That's what the
聴者
villagers
側の言い
believe.
分なわ
Saying
け
it
だ
out loud, I realize how truly awful it is.
そんな
Why
祭
is
りや
such a
風習
festival
が
or tradition
ど
still
うして
alive
未
to
だ
this
に
day?
あれはむしろ
And tradition.
安水にとっ
That
て
festival
重
might
要な
actually be
祭りと
important
言え
to
るかもしれ
Yasumizu.
ん
Do you know why?
え
I don't.
狼
The
行
wolf
列
parade passes all the Yokiba and
安水中の
Yasumizu,
置き場を巡
splashes
り
water on the residents, and
住
meets the
人に
village
水をぶっ
representative
かけ
in
る
the
な
hall.
どした後
Tason,
や
huh?
そ
The
こで
wolves would offer
狼
some
役は
things to the representative,
いくつか
and
の
after
品を
thanking them
奉
for the
納するとと
festival's
もに
success,
少なからぬ
give them
金
a lot
品
of
や
money and other
嗜
goods.
好品の類を
普
So
段
they isolate
経
Yasumizu
済的に孤立させて
economically
締め上げておいて
and only pamper the place during
祭りの
its
時
festivals.
その通り
Exactly, you might say that this
これ
is
も
just
また
another way Kamifuji Yoshi
上藤
controls
吉による
Yasumizu.
この時の
The
金
money and
品
goods are split among the
住人の
inhabitants,
間で
and
分
here
け
it
られ
really helps them get by.
それもこれも
This is only done out of
彼ら
fear
に
that
反乱を
Yasumizu
再
could
び
rebel
起こさ
again. Just so you
一
know
応
that
言って
Nosato
おく
don't approve of this.
野
Only
里
the
は
bigger
この
group
方
are
式にあ
fixated
ま
on
り
it,
賛
and
成
the
しておらん
Tapafuji
よ
Yoshi.
それと
Though the Higuchi are in on it too, they believe that trampling all over
彼らは彼ら
Yasumizu is the logical thing to
安
do.
水を踏み
But
つけ
an
るのが
incomprehensible
合理的な
bunch.
あなたが
So
知
as
る
far as
限り
you
の
know, the
野
Nosato
里家
don't
は
approve of this
この
tyranny.
支配体制
ああ
Yes, I can't deny that as far as I know.
すみません
I'm
は
sorry, I need to make
っ
something
きりさせ
clear.
ないといけない
It
ので
confuses me.
あなたは先ほど
You said that the
反乱は
rebellion
迷信の
wasn't
き
the
っか
result
けで
of
はないだろう
superstition,
とおっ
but
しゃいま
that
した
means... But that means that it's not certain that
山
the
祭り
mountain
も
festival
反
is
乱が
caused
契
by
機
the
だったと
rebellion
は限り
either.
そして
Also, the festival and
山
the feasts
祭
are
りと
closely
読み
linked.
の
You
手には
can even see it in the methods and rules.
おみきが宴で
Well, you
飲まれ
mentioned
た
that
と
the
いう
divine
話か
sake was drinking the feast as
それは
well. Are you sure it's not a
たまたまなのか？
coincidence?
筆記具や縄や
If they
縄を
donate
切る
paper,
鎌まで
writing tools, and
人
rope, it
揃
would
え
mean that
奉
at
納
least
さ
the
れる
bigger
とな
group
れ
would
ば
know about what happened
少
to
な
the
くとも
feast.
というか
Hell, at this point, I'm
ここ
willing
ま
to
で来
say
れば
with absolute
僕
certainty
読み
the
意味の
Feast of
宴
the
は
Yomi Purge is a severe
安
crime
水の
committed
圧
by
迫
the
によ
head
る権
families
力
to
維持を目
intimidate
的と
and
し
control
て
さ
Yasumizu.
すがに
I have an
反
argument.
論君
You
自
said
身
that
が
the
語
feast
った
involves
読み意味の
monsters,
歌で
doors that
は
unlock themselves, and
化け物が現
supernatural
れ
punishments. It's a
鍵が
paranormal
勝手に
event.
それを
If
長
you
者
are
のもの
certain
と
that the
断
head
ずる
families are responsible, I would like a
全ての
scientific
謎に対して
explanation for all the strange
鍵
events.
そんなもの
That's easy.
なんだと
What?
ただ
Before I get to that,
そ
though,
れ
I
を
would like
説
to
明
ask
する前
something.
このお屋敷
Can
の
you show
情
me
書
the
や
documents
資
and
料
writings
類を
collected in this
当たらせ
mansion?
てもらえませんか
I ended up being disappointed once. This house had a storage building and there were archives there. There had been a lot of documents left by Kiyonosuke-shi's great-grandfather, but they'd been sorted after he died. Thus, there were barely anything left, and the record storage were just general storage. Even so, I insisted on taking a look, and now I was here. It really was just a place stuffed with various things.
この建物は
I
そも
guess
そ
there
も
was no lie that this
現状
whole
はただ
mansion
の
really
物
is
置
just
と
a
して
place to
使う
stash
あ
things.
あ
Yes, so we do have people living here sometimes.
例えば
Like who?
先々
The
代
previous two heads of the
先代
family
の
lived
当
here
主は
after they retired.
つまり
So your father
あな
too?
ああ
Yes, he quickly grew senile and
25
died of poisoning. Is that
そ
true?
れは本当
When
です
did
か
that happen?
8
8
年
years
前
ago,
だ
of course.
前回の宴がなされたとし
What?
No,
Oh, yes, it happened after the mist.
確かに霧が出た後のことではある
はい
Yes, the
あなたの
official
辞書で
report
人
that
が
people
たくさ
died
ん
in
死
the
んだの
landslide
も
at your construction site
お
must
そら
have
く
been a
は崩
cover
落
for that.
なんてことだ
What? Wait, are you saying that my father knew
What's
something and died because of it?
可能性はあり
It's
ます
possible.
加
And
え
then
て野
there's the
里屋
fact that
敷
this
が
mansion was
先
used as
々
a
先代
retirement
以降
home
の
of
野里家
previous
当主
Nosato
に
heads.
僕は
I think we might
ここ
find
に
something
ま
here.
あなたが
If
言
the
う
Nosato really are
藤
against
吉
the
村の
control
支配
structure
形
of
式に
Fujiyoshi,
反感を持
that's
ってい
even
た
more
野里
likely.
家
探
Let's
そう
look if there's still something
隠
here.
されてい いる
It
は
must
ず
be
です
hidden.
しかし
But the mansion is too
屋
large.
敷は
We
蔵
don't
も
know,
含めると広すぎる
and we don't even know what we will
ま
be
して
living
探せ
for.
いや
I'm sure it must be
ある
something
程度
big.
大
It
きな
has
も
to
の
be
です
large enough for the
探
previous
すべ
heads
き
to
は
hide, write, and
歴
research.
おそらくは
A secret room.
図面が
I have a blueprint of the place. He found opening. We went around the mansion. There was nothing strange here. There were no empty spaces, and I didn't see any discrepancies with the actual building. Same went for the storage building.
骨折り損ではない
Isn't
か
this a waste of time?
いいえ
No, if the blueprint isn't
図面
mistaken
に
anyway.
ここに嘘を
Must
書か
be
なくて
something
も
in
いい
a
場
place
所
that
に
doesn't cover.
どういうこ
What
と
do
だ
you mean?
蔵の
Let's check the basement of the
地下に行
storage
きましょう
building.
なるほ
I
ど
see. If there's a secret room in the basement, it wouldn't affect the blueprints because it'd be outside their boundaries.
そうです。
Yes, the
図
blueprints
面に
don't
は
even
ただそこ
show.
を書かないだけ
Doesn't
で
have to show false
嘘はつかな
information.
い
It
で
just
す
has to avoid showing it.
しかししか
That
も
will make the search even
一
more
層探
difficult.
しづらいぞ
Well, he was right that sifting through the mess there would take forever, but we could make it a lot easier if we focus on the floor and the walls. I left my bag in the prefab, so I had no flashlight. I asked Nosato-san for something, and he prepared an aged oil lamp.
つ
You
く
have
づ
all
く
sorts of things lying around.
物持
Huh?
ちが
懐中電灯
There's
も
probably a
探せばある
flashlight
だろう
somewhere,
が
but this suits the atmosphere, right?
これも気分
I
が
knew
出てい
exactly
いだ
what
ろ
you meant. It took us less than half an hour to find it. Of course, it wasn't something that looked like what we were searching for at first glance, but it did seem a bit unnatural. There was a palm-sized crow carved on a wooden surface below the mortar wall. It was a symbol of the Nosato family.
何かの目
Is
印
it
で
a
はない。
clue?
あるいは
Or some sort of
仕
mechanism.
掛けかやはり
It's not just a
ただの
carving.
木彫りでは
Its
ない
parts are separate and movable.
ボタンですか。
Buttons, so it's like a game.
ゲームみたいだな。
So he wasn't the only Nosato with strange hobbies, huh?
おそらく
I imagine it expects you to
特定の
press them
順
in
で
order,
操作をす
but do you know any
心
hints?
当たりはありますか。
カラスの
The will of the
志
crow.
か
そう不死吉に捧ぐるがカラスの志なり
Offering those up to Fushioshi shall be as the will of the crow. That had to be it.
野里家のものな
So
らば
Nosato
開けら
can
れる
open
っ
it
てわけ
easily,
で。
あ
huh?
あ
Yes, we never repeat
他
the
言
teaching
無
to
用の
anyone
家
who
訓
wasn't
だ
family.
先々
If
先
it was
代が
made
作
by
ら
my
せた
great
仕掛けな
grandfather,
ら
then it has to be a trap
罠の
too.
本気ですか。
Seriously, but it's no problem for you, is
いや
it?
しかし
何だったか
What was it again? Claw, feather?
まずい
Oh no, I'm not sure.
自
Do you
信がな
remember
い
it? Hey!
君は覚えていないか
Oh god. Are these all fucking options? Am I about to die 1,000,000,001 ways? Solve the riddle. What did he say it was? Claw feather. There is no claw feather. Why are there 1,000,000,000 different buttons too? I feel like none of these are right. I'm
確
pretty
か
sure it's something like
羽
devour
を
the
食っ
feather,
ては
tail,
どう
and
の
eye. Oh shit.
尾を食ってはどうの。
そうかそれでやってみよう
I feel like it was said, but I don't remember what it is. Really, let's try it. He quickly pressed the buttons as I told him. A moment later, we died. A hole opened up beneath us. Before I can even scream, we fell on the metal spikes poking from below. I feel like I can hear someone saying, "Too bad." Crap. What was the right order?
そういう夢だった
Where did I wake up? I'm still here? Anyway, I looped back and came back to the exact same way as before. The answer to the mystery was really close, so I wasn't going to give up because of a crappy trap like this.
そう不死吉に捧ぐるがカラスの志なり
That had to be
野
it.
里家のものなら
The fuck? How am I supposed to know where that is? Okay, we did feather tail eye. Oh, claw eye beak.
確か爪を
そうかそれでやってみよう
A part of the wall turned 90 degrees. It opened up a space through which an adult, though probably not Hashimoto-san, could pass.
お好きだったんでし
You
ょう
like
ね。
this kind of thing, I assume.
いや
Oh, how embarrassing, but I can't help but feel excited myself. It must be in my blood.
大丈夫です
Don't。worry, I feel you.
僕もです。
We bantered nonchalantly despite the dire situation. Once we made it inside, we had to pass through some hanging dried herbs.
なんだこれ。
What's this? St.
Otogiri
John's wort?
君もいい
Aren't you
か
knowledgeable? It's just some herbs that repel bugs.
虫除けになる
Don't mind it.
なるほど
And it seems you were right. It's just
君の言うように
it's tight in here, but the length is
Shoko-
good.
めぼしいところ
Let's
か
see
ら
what we can find.
代々
I
の
hope we
当
have
主の
records
記
made
述
by
は
the previous
ありま
heads.
したよ。
I found a
日記帳
diary.
早
Oh,
速
ready?
か
Let me look.
ちょっと貸してくれたまえ
We started looking around. Like we expected, the thick diary had writings left by all the previous heads of the Nosato family. It began with his great-grandfather, and the others added more after their retirements. All of them had strange handwriting, and according to what Kiyonosuke she could make out, it was a highly detailed document and had references to other texts here. You could really tell it belonged to a family of scholars. The index on the diary referenced the documents all over the room, and the diary itself was like a description of what went on behind the scenes in Fujiyoshi. Kiyonosuke Shi's great-grandfather was a genius who gathered immense wealth, but also a madman who threw it all away. His writings were especially difficult to read, analyze, and understand. However, the feeling behind it couldn't be more obvious. It was anguish. Anguish at the fact that he'd found a rational solution and began to doubt the superstitions. The preamble went like this. Why do we submit to Great Lord Shinai? Outsiders would see our belief as pure madness. Even so, we take the passion we should direct to our parents and children and instead dedicate it to our faith. That alone would not mean much, but when you see the shadow of Great Lord Shinai over our daily lives, we become fearful and absolutely loyal to him like well-trained dogs. This slavery of the mind will still shackle us when the era of enlightenment reaches our home. That is why I've decided to take up the will of the cross that I so neglected and began my research. I hope that it bears fruit, and mankind, not God, benefits from it, breaking free from centuries of ignorance. This was written by Kiyonosuke Shi's great-grandfather shortly after his Azrola's head was passed down, when he was still in his healthy 40s. Upon reading this, Kiyonosuke Shi looked conflicted. The great-grandfather he thought to be a madman was actually both reasonable and intelligent. I also had something to think about it. He challenged God. That absurd endeavor might have been the reason why he'd gone mad. The diary had 3 sections. In the first one, the great-grandfather tried to pinpoint the origin of Fujiyoshi. He wanted to find the invisible chains binding him by looking at where they started and where they were going. However, that was difficult. Trying to find documents of Fujiyoshi would have attracted the attention of the other families, particularly the Meguruma, who would then obstruct his work. Our legends say that we were protected by Shinai-sama. By looking for proof claiming otherwise, we would be betraying his compassion. And that was the height of disrespect. It was also a time when not everyone with the schools and literacy levels were really low, thus most of the records were held by the head families. However, there was no record of one of them trying to check another family's record, and that would obviously be met with opposition. Thus, he looked at the historical documents from outside Fujiyoshi. With the settlement being such a strange place, he figured that there would be many records about it made by outsiders. He was completely right. There were lots of old writings in the nearby villages and towns. Since it was wartime and the economy was dire, the paper was about to be wasted on fixing sliding. He used his own funds to acquire these precious documents. They were now organized and placed somewhere in the room, but anyway. He was able to locate Fujiyoshi's roots. It happened 600 years ago during the Muromachi period, a bit before the Sengoku. According to the documents, the place now known as Kami Fujiyoshi began as a hunter settlement. This place was a hunting ground for centuries. Game meat had only spread among the common people during the Meiji period, but the country folk had been eating it for long before that. At first, it was just a settlement of cabins for the hunters from nearby villages to rest or shelter, and perhaps to skin and prepare meat. But once the people realized how rich the area was in game, they began colonizing the place. As a result, a part of Kami Fujiyoshi was born, and the people began living here as either farmers or hunters. The settlement had no name yet. However, these extremely old documents referred to it as Okami Village, or something similar. Not Okami as in Okami-sama though, but Okami as in wolves, the canine beast. Apparently this place really had wolves before, not mountain dogs or badgers, but actual wolves. That was no secret though, the Shinai Shrine run by the Meguruma had actual wolf bones in it. However, according to the documents during the settlement's development, this place was often attacked by wolves that caused major damage. They'd probably tried many things to deal with them, but the documents wrote down one very simple method. The people of the wolf village prepared a human sacrifice and consigned them to flame. Human sacrifice. It was a practice that had existed in Japan for a long time. During construction or whatnot, people would be killed and buried as offerings to prevent misfortune. I'd heard of human sacrifices made to prevent bridges being taken away by floods or people buried during castle fortification. It was a pretty big deal. Still, it wasn't weird to do it to prevent abuse-related problems. It did seem like a plausible story, so I wasn't surprised. Neither of us were specialists, but from what I knew, people tried to benefit from sacrifices by later on worshipping them as gods. Fuck. I'd even heard that the pillar kanji used to count gods were based on the term for human sacrifice. Anyway, following the sacrifice, the beast attacks subsided, and the settlement continued to grow. At this point, the upper settlement, once known as the Kami Village, now Kami Fujiyoshi, was surrounded by cabins and other settlements. Through irrigation, these settlements gathered water from the wolf village. One of these settlements was a dangerous place that was often covered in mist that led people to their deaths, and for some reason the locals found it really important. Kyonosuke-shi, his great-grandfather, and myself figured that it had to be Yasumizu. And if they took water from Kami Fujiyoshi, it wasn't hard to imagine that the hierarchical relationships between the settlements had already existed then. In agricultural societies, the settlements that controlled the supply of water were extremely influential. After all, if they stopped the flow, the settlements below would dry out. It was even related to the Yasumizu rebellion that Kyonosuke-shi told me about. I couldn't ignore this point, though there was no mention of Yasumizu or the local superstitions yet. All the documents said was that the wolf village was steadily progressing as a settlement. However, there was a mention of a fearsome beast, yokai or god that a fearsome beast yokai or god that ate people, though it was only mentioned in the oldest documents, then never heard from again.
神
A god, a powerless
力
god.
なき神
That's not enough. The legends don't
そ
say
れだけ
anything
じゃ
about
待てよ
Wait,
無人
Badger.
不快な呼
Do
び
you
名
hate that name?
別に
Not at all. It
正
is
し
not
い
wrong
こ
in
と
the
じゃ
least.
こうして
It is a fitting name for someone wearing the marks of Great Lord Shinai and acting as a leader of these
畜生ど
muds.
もの頭目としてどうせ
So why not try joining me?
充実
My land may be small, but I will make sure you are not bored.
退屈はさせません
It had to be God. She said she was defeated by Great Lord Shinai, but never mentioned when it happened.
神の武
So
士
the
は
left side of the
示す
kanji
ね
for God, there's a
実際に
radical for
十
show.
字は神だしつまり
And
こ
it's
れは
even more obvious in its
狼
old form. This means that the result is Ukami, great God. I was close to the truth. But for now, back to the history. Fujiyoshi had started out as a typical hunting farming settlement. Things changed after about a century when life in the settlement had stabilized. By this point, the records left by the outsiders started noting that there was a strange village in the mountains. The sources had started to become many and varied too. I was curious about how the great-grandfather got documents from Kyoto and Tohoku. But anyway, these reports were records written by travelers who stopped here. Many of them were interested in local customs. One was their hate for mountain fires. It was so bad that outsiders weren't allowed to make any flame, and they themselves had a special watering hole where they did it. One was their worship of a humanoid wolf statue. They asked it for good fortune in the hunt and peaceful life in the mountains. One was the special misty place where travelers were summoned and welcomed by sensual women. Some rumors mentioned some seemed hardly believable, but some of them were still alive, and I was surprised to know how old they were. What bothered me was the fact that there were many records of the invitations to the misty place, but nothing about getting killed there. In fact, most of them mentioned eating good meat and veggies and drinking good sake while having fun with beautiful girls. It was safe to assume that the Feast of the Yomi Perch hadn't existed back then. It was closer to the traditional treatment of guests as described by Rikako-san.
ちなみに
By the
マ
way,
ロ
you
ー
seem
ドってい
pretty
うの
hung
は
up. You seem
なん
pretty
か
hung up on
来
guests.
訪
Is
者を
there
も
some
てな
sort
す
of
文
local
化みたい
culture
なも
related
の
to that?
はい
Yes, I hear that Fujiyoshi was once full of visitors who came to the Shinai Shrine to pay for good
遠方
hunting.
の狩人
Hunters from the outside were considered honored guests and
村
treated
人は
kindly
マロー
around
ドと
here.
呼び
However, there was
手
one
厚
thing she
くも
seemed
て
to be
なし
wrong
たと
about.
言います
The strange village in the records was a completely different place than the one built around the Shinai Shrine she spoke of. In fact, there wasn't a single mention of Shinai at this point. The general area here was marked as Kachihara. Would things change if we continued further? Anyways, we kept reading. Such records continued for 2 or 3 decades, but then there was a period that wasn't recorded at all. Apparently, the travelers who'd made their way to the area started being chased out, and that was it. The settlement suddenly became isolated. Without any documents from the village itself, it was hard to know exactly what happened during this time. But according to the Nosata documents, this time period was how far they could trace their lineage back. After that, the settlement showed up in records another century later. It was in the middle of the Edo period, peaceful times, and the amount of records appeared to have exploded, along with the name Shinai. There was a hidden mountain where the people worshipped the wolf-faced god and prospered because of it. It is said that the hunters who do not pay their respects to him get lost or injured in the mountains. It is a spiritual place that a mountain ascetic should visit at. It is a spiritual place that a mountain ascetic should visit at least once. Their prayers seem to heal all. There are oracles who can predict the future with great accuracy. The non-believers who step on the mountain are in for a terrible fate. The name of the god they worship is Shinai, and the village is called Fushiyoshi.
そういうことだったのか
So that's it. I lurched forward and shouted with excitement.
確かに
True, I did hear that this
かつて
village
こ
was
の村
once
は
called
不死吉と
Fushiyoshi.
呼ぶのが
What's
正し
so
かったと聞
important
く
about that?
新内さんと同じ仕掛けですよ。
It's the same
Shinai
trick
と
with
いう
the
字を
name
ばらして組み
Shinai-san.
替え
You
ると
take apart the
狼
kanji
に
for
なる。
Shinai into those, and those. You can rearrange them into Okami, Great God, which is also phonetically identical to Wolf, Okami. Oh, you're right. Hey, wait, does this...
本当だ
Then you mean this is the same?
不死吉。
Look at the name
伏せの字は
Fushiyoshi. The first kanji contains the radical for dog.
犬は
Dog covers the
武士としては
animal
剣舞
radical
で
that's
す。
used to the left of the
これに
kanji.
はそれに
Keeping that in
量を
mind,
並
you
べる
line
んで
them
す。
up with the yoshi of Fushiyoshi to get Fushiyoshi. If you broke apart the first kanji, you'd get person, dog, and good. Then by combining the latter two kanji into one and putting the whole thing together again, you got Hito Okami, or werewolf.
人狼
Werewolf. Hito Okami.
それは
Does that refer to the Okami-sama or the Great Lord Shinai?
その2つは基
The
本
two
的
of
に
them
は
are
同じも
essentially
ので
the
す。
same. One takes the form
あ
of
る
the
神
peaceful
様の
god,
穏やかな層
Great
が
Lord
信
Shinai,
頼の
while
神
the
で
other takes the form of the
分無
resentful
層が多く
Okami-sama.
3人組
They
の
both
人
take
狼
the
と
shape
いう
of three
形があっ
werewolves,
て
but do different
やってい
things.
ることが
I
違
really
うだ
can't
け。
blame people for seeing them as
ど
the same.
そもそも
Let's not forget that we
人
have
狼
documents saying that there was a culture here that worshipped
人狼を
werewolves
信
at
仰
least
す
a
る
century
もとも
ago.
と狼による獣害があって
They
人
probably
柱
had
があっ
some
て
beast attacks, started holding
人狼
human
の原始
sacrifices
信仰
and
が起
built
こ
the
り
primitive faith around
長い
werewolves.
時を経て
And as time
新
passed,
内
that
様と
evolved
なっ
into
た
Shinai-sama.
狼様は
Kami-sama is a
このど
divinity
こかの
born
段階で
during
生ま
one
れ
of
た
the
信仰
stages
対象
and
な
the
のでしょ
people
う。
of that era, they were the same thing.
藤吉村
Villagers of Fujiyoshi, no,
藤吉村
Fushiyoshi,
の人間たち
were
は
fully aware of their
自分
religion's
たちの信仰の特異性を
peculiarities
重
and
々
even
承知
hid
して
that of their own village's
その上で
name.
な
Why
ぜ
did they hide it in the first place? I'm sure we'll find more hints up ahead.
ですね。
You're right, let's move on.
進みましょう。
Fuck! The great grandfather seemed to have noticed these hidden words too. The reports that followed generally described Fushiyoshi as it was, though their strange practices were now considered rituals and it seemed to prosper as a cult village. It was a mountain village far from the rest of civilization, yet it prospered through the money left behind by guests who made their trip regardless. There were now two types of guests here, the ones who visited the place to hunt and the ones that came for religious reasons. The writing from the later dates included lots of those left by monks who'd come here to study the culture. All of them were surprised by the strange faith and legends of Fushiyoshi, and praised the strength of their belief. Some wrote about the faith in detail. Many of them clearly named the four-head families in the legend about the five guardians. The hunters, however, didn't leave many writings, or rather, it wasn't even their writings. Besides a couple reports by local lords of someone hunting down large beasts on Mount Shinai, there were also those that simply mentioned men who went hunting in Fushiyoshi and never returned. One of them clearly stated, "Do not hunt in Fushiyoshi in the summer. The people of Fushiyoshi speak the curse of Yasumizu."
なるほど
I see. Fushiyoshi has changed a lot over the century.
ですね。
Yes, it's fair to assume that all
現
the
在
local
残る
names and
地名
stories
や
were
用語
created during this
安水
time.
の意味合いも変わってい
Yasumizu
る
seems to be having a different,
ここを
leaving a
訪れ
different
るのが
impression
良す
too.
ぎ
The
る
hunters who visit the place don't come back. That must mean that
読み意
the
味の
feast of
宴
the
が
Yomi Purge had
始まっ
begun.
たのかもしれま
The
せん。
history continued. After a while of prosperity due to its Shinai cult, Fushiyoshi began to deteriorate come Meiji. The new government centralized power, rural areas began to be developed, and the religious reforms established Shinto as the state religion. The anti-Buddhist movement of that era planned a complete separation of Shinto and Buddhism, destroying many Buddhist temples, customs, and cultural assets, dealing another blow to the village and its faith. This could easily be found in the Nosato records, but it was admitted here that the Omatsu were particularly damaging for them. Well, there was no denying that the Omatsu culture seemed Buddhist in nature, and the prostitution part must have made them targets of harsh prejudice. My water's warm. The Shinai faith, which had many strange rituals, had to either cease and discard them or turn them into something more culturally acceptable. However, they did keep a few of them. Before moving on to the next chapter, we put together the region names of Fushiyoshi, which the great-grandfather rediscovered from the archives. According to him, Fushiyoshi had several districts, each one under the jurisdiction of the village heads. The Miguruma had Fushiki, where the Shinai shrine was built. The Higuchi had Hoshizuki, where people gathered. The Nosato had Tamaguchi, the medicinal plant field right beside Kagagawa. And last, the Uematsu are given Hacho, the lodging area. According to Kiyonosuke-shi, these regions remain in Kami Fujiyoshi to this day. In fact, the names of these regions had existed from the area where the name Fujiyoshi began to spread to the outside, as was the designation Kami Fujiyoshi. On the other hand, places aside from Kami Fujiyoshi had already been clearly identified and named, such as Yasumizu.
安水でなく、安
Not
水。
Yasumizu spelled with the kanji for rest and water, but rather rest and lord.
なるほど
I。see, my great-grandfather reached the same conclusion as us then.
不
If
識
you
は
swap the kanji for,
Fushi-
for
つまり
fushiki around
髪の毛を
and combine them into one, you get comb for hair. Dude, the Japanese language is fucking weird.
星月は
With Hoshizuki, you do the same trick and then combine them to get liver, huh?
影川の旧表記
Kagekawa was originally written as put the first
Hone.
kanji on top of the ladder and you get bone.
留口は
Tomeguchi is a no-brainer. Put
わかりやすいな。
Gucci on top of Tome and you get
足
foot.
そして
And
八
with-
丁は
Hacho,
爪
you place the second kanji between the first and get claw.
上藤
So
吉
the
の地
region
名は
names of the Kami
全
Fujiyoshi
て
are
人
divided
間
up
の
based
身
on
体に
body
基づいた
parts.
分割をされて
Where
いる
have I seen this before? Oh, it's in the summer Hikaru died.
そして
And then we get the real
Yasumizu
spelling
は
of Yasumizu. Break
Hito,
the first kanji down and you're
Moku,
left with person,
主に
tree,
分
and
割し
lord.
て組み合わせれば
Combine the latter two to one kanji and then put the full word together and you get
人
human
柱
sacrifice. His great-grandfather seemed to have no clue about the purpose of the names. However, he did guess that the oldest one was either Fushioshi or Yasumizu, while the other names were new. He concluded the link between the names and the words werewolf and human sacrifice were related. There was another thing here. He guessed that Kami Fujiyoshi was named after body parts to represent a single human as a way of responding to her opposing Yasumizu. Another guess was that by burying the sentiment in the name instead of burying people on the ground, they'd avoided killing their own. Honestly, it seemed to me like we didn't have enough to understand the true intention behind this, though the fact that they hid the words human sacrifice and Yasumizu is pretty shady. You could assume that it was named that because it was a human sacrifice meant to help the area, including Kami Fujiyoshi, prosper, or perhaps it was related to the human sacrifice from the origin of the village. Regardless, there was definitely ulterior motives behind the names. As one who knew Yasumizu's future, I was certain of that. Fushioshi and Yasumizu had become Fujiyoshi and Yasumizu during the Meiji period and became part of a single area. The great-grandfather concluded that the naming was based on local conventions, and that it was meant to hide the village's past. He had nowhere to continue from here, and his writing in the diary ended. The next section was started out by Kiyonosuke-shi's great-grandfather, but after his writing grew worse and worse and finally stopped, his son took over. According to Kiyonosuke-shi, his great-grandfather had gotten a mental illness and began acting eccentric. He'd seen it with his own eyes. The final reasonable bits of writing left behind by him cursed his deteriorating mind and hoped that his descendants would take over his research. His wish was fulfilled when Kiyonosuke-shi's grandfather found this room and took over. This section was primarily made to give detailed descriptions to the outdated rites and customs in Fushioshi. Naturally, the lack of historical accounts was a hindrance. However, the documents owned by the Nosato family and the knowledge he gained as the head made it possible to do it. He was also married to someone with ties to the Miguruma, so he gained access to some Miguruma records. Having gathered info from various sources, he reached some reliable conclusions, though his effort to gather information had made him the target of the other head families. His mind had also seemed to deteriorate during his twilight years. The final bits of writing in the diary seemed to scream his fear of death. I wonder if that's why the fucking man who cried wolf, like why Nosato turned into that guy, as if they're all part of the same family. He died on May 1st, 15 years ago. The text here made it evident that he died in the Feast of the Yomi Purge. As the hand of the supernatural looms over us and takes our lives, I realize that I am losing control of my mind. Now that I have seen the might of the god I was to venerate, what duty do I have to continue the previous head's research into our homeland of Fushioshi? I will probably be hanged tomorrow, and in all honesty, it seems like a favorable outcome at this point. What if the irresistible urge to sleep faded, and I opened my eyes to see the wolf-faced god? I would be unable to bear the fear. The wolfsbane I shall use to end my life lies in my hand. And that was it. Kiyonosuke's voice was shaking. From what he said, his grandfather was an intelligent gentleman that he knew personally and respected immensely. Anyway, the text here could be summed up as thus. Fushiyoshi had several strange rites and customs. When combined with the ones unique to specific head families, the number grew exponentially. It combined all the details about these things and even had info we really didn't care about right now. The content about the Umatsu is particularly harsh, even though it was noted that not everything was here. Info about the Miguruma, however, was extremely limited. However, it was said that horrible screams could be heard from their storehouse.
あの日、
That day,
私はい
I
たずら
playfully
心
opened the
で
iron door to the basement of the third lookout. I was told never to go there, and the door had that symbol on it. And
そして
it was a morbidly interesting read, but there was only one thing that mattered to us. It was the custom of lynching in Yasumizu. It was basically describing the feast of the Yomi Purge. The Okami-sama would return from Yomi to get revenge for being killed. The story was the same. There were two notable points here. One was that it had apparently begun about 500 years ago, and that the village closed itself off from the world. And the other was that Kami Fujiyoshi was mostly uninvolved in the feast of that era. Kiyonosuke's grandfather examined the feast's origin from various angles. He investigated the stones in the Hanging Pines graveyard, looked at the record of Kami Fujiyoshi's mason, and concluded that Kami Fujiyoshi... Has it always been Kami Fushiyoshi? I thought it was Kami Fuji. Has it been changing? And concluded that Kami Fushiyoshi were making the graves. And according to the Mason records, the Okiba were placed at Yasumizu around this time too. 500 years of history was enough to make it a historic landmark, but there were no megaliths from millennia BCE. They were simply put there to help turn the village into a great Lord Shinai worship and holy ground. The words left behind by the elders of Kami Fujiyoshi and Yasumizu gave us more info. There was a legend that in a time where samurai still existed, Yamibita poured out of Yasumizu and attacked Kami Fushiyoshi. That coincided with the rebellion Kiyonosuke had mentioned, the reason why the head families oppressed Yasumizu. Looking at both the documents and word of mouth, the rebellion had happened 5 centuries ago, shortly before the village became isolated. In Yasumizu, Yamibita were said to be scary creatures completely covered in blood water. You can find the word blood water by playing with the kanji in the name Saranaga. Bloodwater Rapids, the stream was considered corrupted even half a millennium ago. Anyway, though the legend was warped by superstition, there was no denying that Kami Fujiyoshi was attacked by people covered in Saranaga mud. The grandfather concluded without a doubt that this incident was what made Kami Fujiyoshi people so afraid of Yasumizu. The rebellion was the very cause of the decades of isolation, the creation of the Shinai faith, and the start of the feast of the Yomi Purge. As for what that meant, it was all planned for the purpose of holding the already discriminated Yasumizu down and preventing further rebellion. The grandfather thought that Yasumizu was purposely created to be discriminated against. It was a bad, dangerous place to live in. The reason why it wasn't abandoned wasn't mentioned here, but anyway, people continued calling it home. In governing, intentionally creating a lower class and treating them poorly satisfied the upper class and thus made the governance easier. It was something you saw all over the world. Even in Japan, there was a complicated historical discrimination that left its mark even on the current era. Thus, the presence of a settlement meant to be looked down upon was good for the leaders of that era. However, they didn't want any more rebellions, so how could they stop it? One way was to make them fight amongst themselves. Another was to make them so superstitious they wouldn't even think of rebelling. Basically, they had to make them believe the lie that there were wolves among them who were killing people, causing them to kill each other. By doing that, they would sap any strength Yasumizu needed to rebel. They also prepared a background story to make them believe that the anomaly was actually real. The grandfather guessed that this was the true purpose of the 5-century-old religion. His sources for that were the documents gathered by his predecessor, which claimed that people from the local temples and shrines were called into the village. What up, Goldor? Welcome in. Ripped for your pleasure, huh? I prefer ribbed. I don't know about ripped. I don't like being ripped. He assumed that the incomplete or intentionally destroyed records were those regarding the scholars they summoned to help create the religion. It's a dual emote? I only see ripped. I mean, I see things lighting up and disappearing. A wrestling is in a condom-like outfit. Is that your new wrestler? Well, yeah, I know the rip for your pleasure one, but I figured it was like, because I know you have the new guy. Fuck, I can't remember his name. Oh, the cannibal. Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that's what you were going for. Oh, then ripped for bongs. I was thinking ripped apart because you like eating people. Get ripped. Ripped also means jacked. Like you're fucking muscular. That seemed absurd at first, but after thinking about it, it was entirely reasonable. So it could also mean like you're just jacked as fuck for her pleasure. Got them washboard abs. The settlement that looked down upon had bared their fangs at them, so what did they do? Call the smart people for help. That was natural. And so the scholars teamed up, created a new religion, and made the settlement fight itself. Ripped as in jacked for the fighter, and ripped as in being stoned. I feel like I've very rarely heard people say they're ripped when they're stoned. Like, I've definitely heard it, but like once or twice maybe. And if they'd given the head families rules in their legends to ensure proper control, man, it sounded messed up, but it didn't seem impossible.
逆だよ。
It's the other way around. It's so that the people of Kami Fujiyoshi wouldn't have to look into the eyes of the
読み人か
people
も
of
しれない安
Yasamizu
水
who
の
may
も
or
の
may
と
not
目
be
を合わさずに
Yomibito.
済ませるために
It's
つけ
common
させ
here.
た
Where
も
you
の
live? Yeah, where? Oh, you're in Canada, aren't you? I think you're Canadian. They wanted to avoid eye contact not only because they thought they were corrupted, but also they were afraid. Kami Fujiyoshi was afraid of Yasamizu. Fucking Canadians. So you get ripped, eh? Duke says A all the time and it makes me laugh. It was a possibility I wouldn't have considered before, but it also seemed likely. It'd be pretty scary if the people they looked down upon finally let their grudge take over and become fearful marauders ready to enact their revenge. And because they were aware of how badly they treated the settlement, the guilt grew even larger and they started controlling and discriminating against them even further. When they looked at it that way, they made a whole religion just to protect themselves. And boy, was that insane. But then how the fuck do they do all this shit? Like, they literally, like, they make the mist and then, like, everybody in Kami Fujiyoshi comes over and, like, starts fucking painting blood on people and giving them rolls and shit. Now, with the feast's origin revealed, what was that about the head families not being involved in it so much? Apparently, the first feasts were a lot simpler than the current one. There was the purification, sheltering, dreaming, and the limit of one per day, but there was no actual punishment for breaking these laws. They'd probably set it up to prevent indiscriminate massacres. And there was no wolf selection, there were no guardians. The heads, or Fujiyoshi leaders at that time, only circulated the Yasamizu legend that the wolves came back. By spreading the local legend along with the lie, they motivated the people to kill each other whenever the mist appeared. It was successful, and the people started killing suspected wolves every time the mist showed up. In response to that, those who spread the suspicions were brutalized that night. This weakened Yasamizu, left the place a breeding ground for future problems, and too weak to rebel.
待て
Wait, that doesn't make sense. Why would they kill each other just because of that?
実
How
際の
could they be
脅威が
murderers
ないの
without
に
any real threat?
昔は今とは
Past
違い
is
ま
the
す。
present. There were times
迷
when
信が殺し合い
superstition
に
could
発
make
展して
people
も
murder
おか
one
しく。
another.
先々代
Your
さんは
grandfather uses the word
初めから
slave
死
trade
刑
from
と
the
いう
start.
言
I
葉を
think
使って
that's
ます。
important.
おそらく
I think that the Feast of the
読み
Yomi
の宴
Bridge
は
is actually useful to
安
the
水
people
の
of
住人たち
Yasamizu
に
too.
どういうこ
What
と
do
だ
you mean?
先に
Let's
進み
keep
ましょう。
reading. Fucking goddamn it. Sure enough, the grandfather seemed to believe that to the people of Yasamizu, the feast made the killings into a just cause. According to this, the feast wasn't considered a paranormal event, not even by the Yasamizu people themselves. It was just a justification for lynching. The hand of the law didn't reach this backwards village, and Yasamizu was even more isolated, a settlement for the ostracized. Of course, there had to be conflicts and wrongings, and the social systems to solve them was limited. Thus, there were a demand for solutions beyond the law, and the feast fit the bill perfectly. When the mist came, they could easily get rid of people they didn't like. However, that came with the risk of being targeted by their friends and family. This continuous cycle of lynchings and revenge eventually destroys the minority and leaves the majority wounded. The feast ends, and law returns to Yasumizu. This is fucking wild. It seems like the ostracism they'd done in ancient Greece. Anyone who was against the law of the village had their names written on pottery and voted to be exiled, a backwards but effective way to keep order. So that... What the fuck, dude? Though while the punishment there was exile, the feast came with a death penalty. It was clearly unjust, but they found it better than nothing. By having these occasional unlawful disputes, they actually prevented the settlement as a whole from crumbling. Those who participated in the lynchings had their guilt lessened by considering the legends and myths. Superstition had real-world effects by telling people that they'd be hanged if they were bad. The renegades among them would be silenced. So yeah, the Feast of the Yomi Purge had its perks for both Kami Fushioshi and Yasumizu. Also, apparently, it was a long-running tradition for Kami Fushioshi to do certain things immediately before the mist came. They summoned the children of Yasumizu to Kami Fushioshi and called the women out to help them with food. There was no end to these records. It was much like the mountain festival, the carrot for the stick they constantly provided the settlement. But it was also a form of population control. They didn't want Yasumizu to be completely depopulated, so they protected the children. This tradition was alive to this day. Even 8 years ago, Tei-san, Kaori-san, and the children had been saved from the feast when they were called. Oh, because Tei-san's the only other woman? There's really only 2 women in this village? Tei-san and Kaori-san, and then the others are all fucking kids? Well, and then Mamiya now. So while it had its roots in superstition, the Feast of the Yomi Purge became a kind of social tool. I see, controlled lynching or perhaps capital punishment by popular vote. It's only useful to us Kami Fushioshi people that it doesn't spread outside of Yasumizu. Muro and the Use are right, the village heads of the bad guys here.
それ
I'm
は
not sure
ど
about
うで
that.
し
The
ょう。
leaders from the era might
当
have
時の
intended
統治
this
者
to
た
be
ちは
kindness meant to ensure
当時の
stability.
問題
The
は
problem is that it continues
現
to
代
this
に至
day.
そうだ。
Yes, this is something that shouldn't be
今の
happening in
安水が
Yasumizu today.
そう書
Is
い
that
てあ
what
り
it
ますか
says?
戦
It
中
says that there were
戦
3 feasts during and after the war.
宴は3度あったとされているな。
The feast was meant to manage society. The feast meant to manage society had ended with the one that began at the start of World War II. When Kyonosuke-shi's grandfather wrote this, he called it the previous feast. The ones who survived it said that an actual wolf had appeared. Also, rules like sheltering, which had been ignored until then, now came with a supernatural punishment. The legend had gone from mere story to reality. The grandfather himself had witnessed some paranormal things too. There was a pile of dog corpses that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. The thorough, violent deaths given to the rule breakers, the wolves who could come in through locked doors and brutalize the ones inside, and finally the unity between the wolves, hell-bent on killing the humans even if it meant their own death. That was the feast I knew. The next text was written by the previous head, Kyonosuke-shi's father, and he'd observed the 3rd feast of the recent times. It was the one that happened 8 years ago, and its survivors mentioned impossible paranormal events had actually happened. It was the same, the exact same. The feast had been supernatural 3 times in a row, and this was the 4th one. That meant that something had drastically changed with the feast that happened during the war. The reason for that wasn't given here.
大
You
丈夫ですか
okay? It must be shocking.
ショ
Should
ック
we
だ
take
と
a
は思い
break?
いや、
No, I'm fine. Let's keep reading. Next is the text left by my
一
father.
気に読んで
Okay,
し
so
まお
we're
う。
almost done.
次は、
Like Kyonosuke-shi said, the final section of the diary was written by the previous head of the Nosato family. He had inherited the will of his predecessors and tried solving this mystery. Though unlike them, he seemed to prioritize documents that had been released to the public. For one, there were cutouts of articles. He'd taken various clippings from newspapers and magazines to create an extremely large scrapbook. There were bits from local newspapers, national ones, and both general and specialized magazines of varied renown. Basically, he'd gathered all the info regarding Fujiyoshi, no matter how minor. Of course, we didn't have time to look through all of them, so we relied on the index in the diary. We found out that this small village had a number of unexpectedly major events happen in it. They were so big that they actually made it in the national newspapers. Some of the oldest and more notable ones were the articles about the serial murders here that happened here over 60 years ago. There were a number of articles with titles like 20 Deadly Break-ins in Fushioshi and Murders in 20 Houses in Mountain Village, and I found that number to be significant. Though the number of places that had been attacked was 20, the number of casualties was 17. 8 more were injured. Regardless, it was definitely big enough to make a mark on Japanese history. This event was well covered for something that happened on the eve of World War II, and it ended with the culprit being sent to Tokyo and quickly executed. The incident was reported for 2 years when it came to light right up to the capital punishment. It could be summed up like this. On December 27, 1940, in Fujiyoshi Village, Kami Fujiyoshi, Hochizuki, a man covered in mud invaded a private dwelling. He quickly used the kitchen knife he had to attack 2 of the people inside, destroy property, then escape. One of the victims went on to die. The culprit went on to continue invading houses in Hochizuki, murder and destroy property. After 30 minutes of this, he escaped Fujimura by foot. The crime was so sudden that the inhabitants and the local police couldn't do anything about it before it was over. The incident came to light when the local police reported it to Metropolitan Police. Since cars weren't widespread in the area yet, the doctors from the surrounding villages hurried over with their horse-drawn carriages. That was how much of a big deal it was. The police had gathered a number of officers and established a perimeter to surround the culprit, but in the end they failed to arrest him. The witnesses, bloodstains, and the lost items made them conclude that the culprit had changed his clothes somewhere up on the mountain and escaped by going down the river. They followed after him, but since it was the end of the year and it was hard to get around, it took them time to find proper footprints. On January 3rd of the following year, the prefecture police noted that the perimeter was broken, but this wasn't reported. The investigations that followed bore no fruit, and the newspapers and magazines wrote a lot about the escaped or hidden murderer. But then, at one afternoon at the end of January, a man showed up in a police station in Mangetsubaishi, Tokyo, and said that he was the murderer who escaped Fujiyoshi. There had been much speculation about where the culprit was from, but it turned out that he was actually a local, which raised a few questions. One of them was, why couldn't the locals figure out who it was? This question was left unanswered, and the man who turned himself in, Kihei Tochitani, 30 years old, became a subject of significant controversy. From this point on, the major newspapers simply reported how the trial was going, while the magazines just had a ton of opinion pieces. Kiyonosuke-shi's father commented that the Miguruma were actively keeping journalists from entering Yasumizu. At the same time, they didn't resist the police and in fact were highly cooperative. But in the end, Yasumizu wasn't really mentioned in the trial reports. It could have been the weak legislative system of the time or the result of the Miguruma's efforts. Under such circumstances, they held Kihei Tochitani's trial. He insisted on several things. That he was too drunk to remember the details. However, he was certain he was the murderer. He lived in that area and was on bad terms with his neighbors to the point of holding a serious grudge. When he'd sobered up, he'd become scared and ran away, and since he knew he couldn't keep running forever, he just turned himself in. He was too afraid to return to Fujiyoshi. Some had found his statement that he'd attacked 20 households in 30 minutes questionable. Yeah, that's fucking insane. But it was a trial under significant public scrutiny, and since Kihei Tochitani admitted to the crime, he was executed based solely on that. It happened 2 years after his arrest. The capital punishment was carried out, and he departed this world without further comment of note. The news agencies were now all covering World War II, so these serial murders ended up being forgotten. Also, Kiyonosuke-shi's father noted something about him. 3 years before the incident, Kihei Tochitani had been sent to Yasumizu because of trouble with his neighbors. This is interesting. It is. Kihei Tochitani probably based this crime on the Yamabiro legends.
休み
He
ずでの
wasn't
暮
in
らしがそう
Yasumizu
長い
for
わ
long,
けで
yet
も
he
ない
went
の
and
に
did something so awful.
藤吉
All
村
of
民に
Fujiyoshi
共
is
通の
afraid of Yamabiro,
読
so
み
maybe
人
he
を恐
turned
れ
it
る気
around
持
and
ちが
tried
裏返
becoming
しと
one
な
of
り
them to seem scary.
あるいは
Or perhaps he turned
長者
into
が窒
rebellion
息す
that
る
the village has to
大
do
昔
about.
そして僕が気にしているのはこ
I'm
の時
mostly
期のこと
curious
です
about the timing.
この事
The
件が起
feast
きて
during
から
the
およそ
war,
2
the
年後
first
に
real one, happened
Leno.
about 2 years after this incident.
まるで
It's like a
同じ
repeat.
そうです
Yes, it's like the time 500
500
years
年前
ago when they created
反
the
乱を
Shinai
起こした
faith
連
to
中
keep
を抑え
rebels
込
in
むため
check.
に信頼信仰なんてものをでっち上げたあのことと
Of course, there were no mentions of the feast in the articles. The next notable thing was at the time when the war ended and the soldiers returned to Fujiyoshi. These news articles were accompanied by village PR notices and photos. One of the men in the photos had the name Shosaburo Makishima. The face and expression, I had no doubt that he was related to Kanzo Makishima. Many from Fujiyoshi had departed for the war, and naturally some of them were from Yasumizu. Also, according to the reports, they had a notably good survival rate. They'd also achieved a lot in the front lines, and the PR said it was the blessing of the Okami-sama. In a different document, it was said that they had charms that resembled the Okami symbols used in the mountain festival. Like the necklace? Oh. There was a photo that showed one of these crests wrinkled from wear. The shape was new to me. However, the 3 diamond-like symbols made me think that it was related to the one I was familiar with, which was actually pictured here. That's the, yeah. The text next to it said that some chose to wear ominous symbols instead. For reference, there was the divine crest of Great Lord Shinai. It was actually my first time seeing it, and apparently they couldn't use it as a good luck charm because it was just too important. Well then, if it was that sacred, it made sense that I hadn't seen it in Yasumizu. It was a bad place after all. What up, Turnbuck? Welcome in. I'm over here reading bedtime stories. Next, we skip the unimportant bits, such as the election results and major staff changes. We went ahead a few decades and arrived at an article from the 80s. This is pretty bad. Cholera outbreak in mountain village. 4 dead. Cholera. It was a pretty simple incident. Apparently someone who'd gone on a trip overseas had infected the village. The name of patient 0 was hidden, but it had to be one of the village heads. They were the only ones here who could travel to other countries. It was damn awful to read about, but apparently the disease spread through water contaminated by the first victim's vomit and etc. And there were victims in both Fujiyoshi as well as Yasumizu, so that was like fucking cabin fever. Ugh. Also, it was only reported after the disease had subsided, which is probably caused by the Meguruma Intelligence Network.
これ
Looking at when it
時期
happened,
的には
you should
野
have been
里さん
alive
もご
during
存
this,
知のは
right?
ず
You
の
were
事
in
件で
middle
すよ
school, I
ね
assume?
その通り
Yes, I know about it too well. I was
もちろん
infected
知って
myself
いる
after all.
え
Huh? You had
コレラ
cholera?
にです
ああそう
Yes, in fact, it had got a lot of people, especially here in
あれには
Yasumizu.
なんですって
What? Even though it's
今
still
お
here?
確か
It happened to Sir Makishiwa Yamawaki-san, and oh yes, even Uro had it. The
大
outbreak
事だっ
was
たんです
pretty
ね
big.
その通
It
りだ
was. Later on, I found out that Nosato quickly had
野里は早々にコレラだということを看破していたのに
Meguruma. Oh, what?
一体
コレラ
They
の
made the
信
absurd
内
plan
様の
that
過去
Shinai-sama's
を聞くと
protection would make short work of
わけ
the
のわからん
cholera
祈祷を
and
行
perform
って
some strange
野
ritual
里の
while
措置を
attempting to
妨
prevent
害したの
Nosato
だ
from applying proper treatment.
おかげで状況
Thanks
は
to
悪
that,
化
the
し
situation grew
遅れ
worse,
て
and
発
I,
症した
who got
私は
infected late,
身内が
had my
後回しだ
treatment
と言って
postponed
かなり
because
捨
I
て
was
お
one
かれ
of
ている
us.
医者の鏡みたいな
I
家
say
です
that
ね
Nosato are a family of model doctors,
鏡なも
as
のか
if we simply adhere to the
単に
order established by the
み
Meguruma.
もちろん
Of course, Yasumizu was
は
still on
長く
the
捨て
list,
お
and
か
that caused the deaths of 2
結果
infected.
的に
The
10
two
人2名
Uematsu who were treating the people.
なんですっ
What?
て
Two
植松
Uematsu?
が2名
あの
The
頃
Uematsu still had a few members
上松にはまだ
back then,
数
but most
人
of
が
them
残
were
っていた
infected while trying to make use
そ
of
の
their
ほと
folk
んど
medicine.
それが露見
Once
した
that
時
was
は
found out, the disease
すで
had
に手の
advanced so
施
much
し
that
よ
they
うが
were
ない
beyond
と
help
明
and
かした
died
に
soon
あれ
after.
が
It's safe
上
to
松
say
の
that
没
events
落を
sealed the
決定
fate of
づけたと
the
言っても
Uematsu
過
if
言
the
ではなかろう
Meguruma had handled things properly.
いい
No, that's not it.
違
If
う
the
な
Nosato had done what any proper family of doctors would do and simply ignored
Sushi no
them
家が
and done the right thing.
連中のことなど聞かず
ちな
By
み
the
に
way, was Ikaku
植松里香
Uematsu
子さん
infected?
は病気にはかからなかったんですか
彼女は当
She
初
was only 9 at the
9歳
time.
だ
Surely you understand that she was too young to partake in the
家業に
trade.
加わるには
Oh, I see.
なるほど
I knew what he meant, but something didn't feel right. His eyes betrayed a sense of confusion and his tone lacked confidence.
何か
Are you hiding
隠され
something?
ています
何もないいや
It's nothing
No, no, no.
anyway. Though this shows how warped Fujiyoshi
これ
is,
も
it's
我が
not
藤
directly
吉村の
related
期
to the
待を
feast.
示す少佐ではあろうが
I wonder if that's why he likes her, because he was in middle school and she cured him from cholera when she was 9, which ugh.
そう
He's in middle
ですね
school, they'd probably make him like 10 or 11. Maybe like 13. Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't push any further this time. Another major article was one about a corpse that had washed up in a local part of Saranaga, officially known as Saranagawa, apparently. It was a woman of Chiba, and she'd had a search party out for her. It said that she'd simply committed
これ
suicide.
は4人目の宴と感じ
いや
No, Now the date doesn't
これ
match
までの
any of the
宴と
feast
は
so
日
far.
付が
She
合わ
must
な
be just an unrelated
い。おそら
suicide.
く関係のない。
バカな町の
Then
やつ
there's
ら
the
が
idiots from the
山
city
の中
coming
で
here
首
just
つ
to
って
hang
獣に
themselves
食わ
and
れ
get
ること
eaten
も
by
ある。
wild beasts.
俺や
The
お
old
やっさん
man
が
always
苦労
had
して
to do
片付ける
events.
穴
I'm
が
not
に死
sure.
体が流れる
It's
こ
not
とも
rare
珍
for
しく
Saranaga
ね
to bring us corpses either.
え。釣りだか
I
なんだ
don't
か
know
知
if
らね
they're
えが
mountain fishes or something,
恐竜
but
は
it's
危ねえ
dangerous
っつうの
upstream,
よ。
damn it.
首都圏からの
A city
遠
person
征
who's
自
gone
殺
all
者
the way
です
here
か。
to die, huh?
まあ
Well, maybe one
奪
of
っ
the
てみる
village
な。
heads had killed her, but if
長
that's
者
the
の
case,
誰
he
かが
wouldn't have
関わっ
left
て
her
殺した
in
のかもしれ
Saranaga.
では
I'm not
これ
taking
はいい
that.
とこの
What's this
8
about a
年前
heavy
の
rain from 8 years ago,
大
though?
雨
It
災害
doesn't
が
seem
どうの
related
っ
to
ていうのは
Fujiyoshi.
逆に
I feel that it's important
藤
that
吉が乗ってい
Fujiyoshi's
ないこと
I
が
feel
重
that
要
it's
なのだろう
important
よ。
that Fujiyoshi's
各
not
地の土
mentioned
砂
here.
崩れは報
There's
道され
reports
て
of
いるのだ。
landslides all over the area, but
藤
none
吉のは
for
ない。
Fujiyoshi.
あ
I see. So even the ones who supposedly died in the landslide were hidden from the public.
あとは
Besides that, there's nothing
あ
of
これ
note.
は港区連続火災 放
What
火の
about
疑い
this? Serial
なんで
fires
こ
in
んな事件が
Minatoku, possibly arson? Why is it here?
手記に
It's
説
explained
明
in the
がある。
diary. It's not reported, but
報
all
道
the
には
seven
ない。
buildings set on fire belong to the same
放火
person.
というと
What does that mean?
身車家
It's
だ
the
よ。
Miguruma. They have real
連中
estate
は中
outside
だけではなく
Fujiyoshi as well.
なる
I
ほど
see, so they gain
そ
funds
ういっ
that
た
way
資産から
too.
収
Why
入を
would
得
they
てるの
do
か
this?
宗教は儲かるということな
Because
んじ
their
ゃないの
religion
か
is
ね。
profitable, no?
500
A
年
faith
もの
with
歴
half
史が
a
あれば
millennium of history
も
behind
う
it
新
could be
興宗
considered
教
a
とは
religion.
言えんだ。おそらくは我々のような骨の髄まで信頼明神にやられている連中でない。中に
I
は
imagine that some of their families
何代
have
も
been
前から
donating to
玉
the
串
shrine
料
for
とか
generations.
もしかして
Are the
身車
Miguruma
は宗
recognized
教法
religion?
さ
I don't know that much, but I
そこまで
imagine
は
that the
知らん
country
ね。
would be pretty involved with them if it
しかし
was, no?
どうだろ
I
う
don't know, I'm not well
そ
versed
っ
in
ちは
that.
詳
さて
Now this seems to be the end.
このくらいでおしまいのようだが
We'd read the entire diary. That means the mist has to be here, right? There's no way. Yeah, 3 hours. A whole 3 hours had passed since we'd started. Oh, the mist would come soon. I thought, fuck, dude. I learned a lot from this. But if you asked me, all I'd gotten here were maybes. Nothing was certain yet. Even so, I thought it was more than enough for this loop.
どうし
Oh,
よう
what
か
to do?
ね
It looks like even father went insane and drank
我が
poison
父も
without
結
reaching the
局
truth.
私が
If you're
君の
right
言
and
う
I'm
通
about to
り
die in the feast, my
これ
brother
か
would
ら
probably
宴に
follow
巻
his
き込まれ
footsteps.
いや
Or wait, if you die, will this all have
君
never
が死んで
happened?
しまえば
Oh,
全て
dear,
な
looks
かっ
like
た
there's
ことに
nothing
な
we
るん
can
だっ
do.
たか
His Raikkonen
これは
pained my
これは
heart a bit.
結
I had
局
to
どう
say
に
it.
申し訳ありま
I'm
せん
sorry, Kiyonosuke
野里清之助さん
Nosato-san.
君が謝
It's
るこ
nothing
と
you
で
have to
はなかろう
apologize for. It's Fujiyoshi's
こん
fault
な
for
バ
doing
カな
something
こと
so
をし
absurd.
しかし結
But what's
局
the cause of the madness
こ
controlling
こまで
everyone
み
here?
迷
Is it
信
really
を
just a
信
fear
じ
of
る心
superstition and rebellion?
いいえ
No, that's not
ち
it.
神
It's
様の
God's
せい
fault.
は
Huh? You too?
あなんだ
You're going to shift blame to
君
the
も結
divine
局
just
は
like my
神仏に
forefathers did?
そうだ
Also, you still haven't
君は
given
そ
an
もそも
explanation for the
君が
paranormal
体験
happenings
してき
you've
た数々
experienced.
すみません 神
Sorry,
様の
but I
件に
actually
ついて
think
も
I can give a scientific,
おおむね
or
科学
rather
的な
reasonable explanation for God.
何
What?
ただ
Nani?
これについては
Though I still need to
まだ僕
properly
の中で
process this.
その代わり
Instead, I can give
他のものに
clear
ついては
explanations for everything else.
ええ説明はつき
I'd
ます
missed my
ね
chance to properly apologize. How much time did we have, I wondered? Would they wait for long?
では
Then explain the
読み
mysteries
耳
of
の
the
宴
feast.
が必ず与えられるという汚れは
How
隠そうが
does
どう
it
しよ
find
う
to
が見
punish
つ
you
か
no
り
matter how well you
断
hide?
罪
監視カメラと盗聴
Cameras
器
and
です
listening devices? He stared blankly for a moment and laughed. Of all the answers, cameras?
そんなもの
There's no way they'd had those in the war.
戦時中
I'm
にあっ
not
たと
saying
は
that
言い
they
ませ
did.
んよ
In fact, I'm not sure if
とい
there
う
were
か
any 8 years
た
ago
た
either.
だ
Though there might have
低
been
レベル
something
なも
basic
のはあっ
back
たかも
then.
しれな
Hell,
い
it could have been two cans
ぶ
in
っ
a
ちゃけど
stream.
あるいはシン
Or
プルに
perhaps they just put a
ス
spy
パイ
in
を
here.
や
物騒だ
Now that would be excessive.
言いたいのは
What I'm saying is that all of
安水
Yasumizu
集落は
is
住
being
み
observed.
バカ
It can't be. The village
長者
has
は
been
そ
too
んなに
busy for that.
でも一
But
方
they're
で
the same people who
親
spent
鸞様の
unbelievable
信仰を
amounts
盤
of
石
effort
に
to
するため
create
に
the foundation for the
信じ
Shinai
られない
faith.
ほどの労力わかりますよ
I understand how you feel. You
あな
must
たの気持
you
ちは
find it absurdly hard to
そ
believe.
のバカなと
But
疑う
the
気持ちが
incredulity
トリックを隠蔽する最大の仕掛けです
you're feeling right now is exactly how magic tricks are kept secret.
マジシャンが芸を
When you
披
look
露
at
す
what
るとき
magicians do, you find
その
out that
種
they're
は往
using
々に
things
し
that
て
were
でそんなバカなあるいはそんな大仕掛けをまさか用意して観客全部が桜だとかね。ちなみに僕はこれも最初は疑いましたよ。安水全員が決死のドッキリ
Wait, then how do you explain the severely damaged corpses?
死体を運
They
搬し
just
て
carried them away and
重機
destroyed
が
them
何
with
かで破
machinery
壊
or
すれば
something.
おかしいだ
That
ろ
doesn't make sense. You yourself
君
said
の
you
休み
can't
ず
leave
から
your
は
house
出られない
once
と
it's covered in
君
dust.
地下の抜け穴
There
で
must
も
be a
あるん
secret
じゃないですか
underground passages or something.
待て
Wait.
待て待て
So they actually let loose some dogs, kill their
犬を
targets,
蹴
use
しか
secret
けて殺した
passages
死
to
体
bring
を
the corpses
わ
back
ざわざ
from
抜け
Fujiyoshi,
手を手間暇
then
かけて
waste time
損
to
壊
damage
して
them and bring them back to
安水まで
Yasumizu.
持ち帰ってい
That's
ると
absurd. Too absurd.
馬鹿げているか
And
ら
that's exactly why everyone
みんな
believes
死ぬ
them.
じゃあ狼が
What
触れ
about
る
the
と
doors that open
家
when
の
you touch
鍵が
them?
遠隔操
Must be
作の電子
electronic
錠
remote
でし
control
ょ
locks.
あの貧
And
相
those
な
shabby, apologize, simple looking
しかし
dwellings
実
in
際
Yasumizu,
ボロい木
even
板
the
でも
worst buildings
電
have
子錠は仕
electronic
込めま
locks.
す
It makes for a
そう
good
すれば
camouflage
じゃ
sheet.
あ
Then,
じゃあ
then,
血で記
how
さ
do you
れると
explain
い
the
う過去
guardian
の
marks shown
印
in
は
blood?
過去によ
The
る作
result
戦
of
が
Snake's
血文字で伝えられ
investigations
る
are
など
also
というの
delivered
もあ
blood
りえない
text,
だろう
right? You definitely know if it was a
Ningen-
human.
麻酔ガスなら
And a
一
set
発
of
です
gas gets the job done easily.
あなたならご
Surely you
存知
know
の
that
は
a
ずだ
mix of nitrous oxide has
亜酸化窒素とオクトゲンチラインの混合ガスは周期もほ
It
とん
also
どない
has no smell.
これはある意味
No
危険なの
smell.
で
It's dangerous because
普通
of this.
はあえて
People
匂い
often
を
add
つける
something
そう
with
で
the
すが
scent to it, but in the case,
今回はそ
but
れ
in
も
this
プラ
case,
スに
that's the
働く
benefit.
バカを言うな
Don't be stupid. Well, I'll
確かに
admit you
君
know
は
a
少
bit
し
of
ばかり
medicine, but
医
anesthesia
療知
is
識
so
があるよう
difficult
だ
that there's
麻酔は
specialists.
いるんでしょ
Well, there are
野
specialists
里
here
家以外
besides
の専門
Nosato,
い
right?
たとしても
Even if there are, and even if
その
they
上で
modified
各
the
住居に
dwellings
さ
here
らな
enough
る
to
改
create
造を無断で
isolated
ほ
spaces,
生命維持
there's
設
no
備もない
guarantee
場
that
所で
anyone can safely
本
come back
人の
from
同意
forced
な
loss
く
of
混沌させるよう
consciousness
な
and placed without any life
乱
support.
そうです
Exactly. They don't have
確
to
実
come
に
back.
蘇生
運
Even
命
if someone ended up dying, they could just destroy the evidence, toss the
Come on.
body aside, and make them look like rule breakers who didn't
死体
shelter.
を損壊してバカな
Oh, no, that is so absurd and vile.
わかりますよ
I know I have a hard time accepting this too, but if it's possible, then it's
そ
not
れ
the
が
work
可能
of a god.
トリックで実現
If
でき
something
る
mysterious
不思
could
議
be
な事象
explained
は
using mundane
全
means,
て
then it
トリ
was
ックによっ
caused
て
by
発生して
mundane
るんですよ
means, Sato-san.
あ
Okay, I understand that it's possible to make it happen, why you believe that it's how it is,
そして
and why you apologized.
君がさこの
The
部屋
fact
が
that this
放置
room was
されてい
left
る
as is means they either didn't find it or
身分
couldn't enter
し
it.
かし
But now that we've made such a show of searching and arguing so loudly, they must have noticed us, assuming they, as you said, have cameras and
君
listening
の言う通り
devices.
カメラやらそし
And
て
if they noticed us, they cannot
そ
let
の
us
こと
live.
に宴
They
の
must
開
kill us
始を
before
待
the
つ
feast starts.
これは
This is... Yes, my consciousness began to
です
fade.
ね
The irresistible drowsiness took over my body.
君
You win. See?
がだが
But didn't you have a better way to go about this? I'm sorry. Unable to stand, I fell to my knees. I hit my forehead on the desk, but the pain was minimal. It didn't kill me, huh?
どうせ
I know you have one, old man.
これ
There, this is it. He can still move. Crawling on his hands and knees, he opened a drawer and took out a small glass bottle.
君が死ね
If you die, it will all be undone, won't it?
なら
Then
ば
take this aconite. They'd trouble you if they caught and interrogated you.
拷
I
問で
appreciated that. I reached out, took it, and put it in my mouth.
厄介
We'll have some too.
たと
Even if this will all be erased, wasting all my forefathers gathered would be a sin. Just one last sentence.
えまだ
I won't waste it, I promise.
しない
Damn! Is this all fake?
絶対
I now had a duty to fulfill for this awkward man. With every loop, I gained not only memories, but one-sided responsibilities as well. That meant that I really had to save everyone, right? Death came quick. Nut talk! There's number 8. It's getting kind of cool. So we're looking for something with an 8 in it. Oh, I didn't even do this. Trust Takumi. 10, 13, 11. So yeah, this is one of the ones that I went all the way to the end in. Yeah. So it's not here. So is the poisoning. Has to be something early. 20. 3, 8, 19. I'm still missing 19. So we're almost back here. Boo this man! You missed out. We were doing some Blue Mage. Just having fun. Boo you. How are your roulettes? You didn't fucking run maps, did you? I'll fight you guys. Wait. 20 and 3. I can do this one. Wait, no, I already did this one. Right? Oh no, I haven't done this one. Wow, motherfucker! I need to do those so that I can get the... I definitely haven't done this one. I need to get the fucking horse dudes. Yeah, this one's new. The Blue Mage skills. Whatever, fuck you guys, I'll do it myself. Fuck, dude, if this is another super long one, I should probably pee first. That was right, I just remembered. Did my memories carry over in a weird way because of the method from back then was weird? Well, then again, this wouldn't be the first time my memories didn't carry over properly. This is probably how I get 19, so I'm pretty sure we're, like, basically done.
Let me call you daddy, 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 daddy. Let me call you daddy, 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 daddy. Let me call you daddy, ooh, daddy.
It's also very loud. Okay, I think you guys do something else. I use sound alerts, and I was like, why the fuck are all the, like, alerts different? Like, that wasn't the way your song and Nikolai's song worked. But, you guys use, like, Tangier or some Tangia, whatever. So I need 14, 19, 9. Fuck, dude. 1 is definitely the end. This is the main ending, probably. Or if it's not, it's what leads to the main ending. So then there's still 1, 2, 3, 4 more loops. 4 more waves. We already did all this. This wasn't the time to worry about that. The old man before me was one who'd survived the past tragedies in Fujiyoshi. With the wolf guy being a pain to talk to, I had to rely on him instead. But how was I supposed to talk to him? It looked like there was just one way. It's me. Oh yeah, okay, now that we're like buddy with Haru, we're gonna, instead of telling him that fuck, dude, why do they all have fucked up names? The one guy's cheating on him, we're gonna tell him that we're dating. I'm a wolf. Upon hearing that, you're a wolf. Oh, we're gonna tell him that Haru's a wolf too. He didn't take out his gun. His expression showed nothing but total confusion. I know from your experience, wolves never reveal themselves. Of course, the humans don't lie, so you can't even imagine why anyone would say something so suicidal. Shut it. He finally pointed his gun at me, but his lateness told me just how hesitant he was. I controlled the pace of the conversation. I revealed this because I'm someone who grew up outside the village. I'm not bound by God's curse. Not yet, anyway. You don't understand? Okay, well just keep in mind that the feast from before were isolated and didn't have any outsiders. Your experience doesn't apply to a feast with outsiders. Don't be so concerned though, I mean no harm. I sat down on the ground and swung my hurting leg forward. Shoot me if you want. Though I'm sure you're aware that a murder without the majority of the rule is against the rules. Even if it doesn't break the one-per-day law. I confirmed that during my looping with Chiemi. At some point. There's no point. I just feel bad for you. Huh? I had to apologize to the Kaori-san and Haru-chan at this timeline. It must be awful for a grandfather to have to kill his granddaughter. I won't want to be the only survivor of such an awful situation. It's too heavy a burden. That's why I came to talk to you. What'd you just say? It must be awful for a grandfather to have to kill his granddaughter. He didn't fire, but he sent a solid kick flying at my solar plexus, knocking the wind from my lungs. You're a wolf, you gotta be lying. If that's the case, I wouldn't have revealed myself at all. Well, I understand though, I'm a wolf. And all I'm saying is true. Why'd you say it?
こう言えば
You get
納
it if I
得し
say
ますか
this?
孫を
If you
殺
don't
した
want to
くな
kill
いな
your
ら
granddaughter, kill everyone
他の
else.
人を皆殺しにしてください。
Another kid came in my face and hit my head, making me see stars. I'll hang all the wolves, even my granddaughter. Yeah, I thought you'd say that. I don't mind if you choose that.
しかしそれ
Are
は
you really sure?
本気ですか？僕は
I'm
命
putting
を
my
かけ
life
て
on
こ
the
こにい
line
ま
here,
す。
and it's only because I want to
た
open
だ
up
一
to
つ、
you.
だから
So could you please
あ
respond
な
in
たも
kind?
僕はた
I
だ
just want to understand before I
納得
die.
して
That's
死
why
に
I
たい
want to
だけ
ask
だ。
you something.
これまでに参加してき
Specifically
た
about
宴
your
の経験
experience
則
in the previous feast and whether
あ
you
なたの
sacrificed
人
the
生観を
loss
支
that
えてき
supported
た
you
鉄
or
の
your
掟を取る
granddaughter.
教えてください。
Please tell me, Kanzo
牧島勘三さん
Makishima-san.
てめえは
I can't trust
信
you.
用できね
Of course he couldn't. But he couldn't ignore or kill me either.
座られた
Why
ら
not sit
ど
down?
うで
I
すか？
can't move right now. We still have
どうせ
time.
僕は今一
He
人では
silently
動け
sat
ませ
down
ん。
right before me,
時
cross-legged.
間はまだあるでしょう。
The conversation was slow and sporadic. He asked if I and Haruchan really were wolves over and over again. Well, what he was mostly conflicted about was whether or not to harm his granddaughter after all. Thus I said this.
少し
I'm relieved.
え。なんじゃ。
What?
あなたが
You're actually conflicted
ちゃん
about this.
狼にな
Haruchan
った
didn't
途端
hesitate to murder the moment she
殺
became
人
a wolf.
春が
Really?
え
Yes, Kaori-san too.
Kaori-san
I was
もね。
against it, and I almost died because of it.
狼になれ
Anyone who
ば
becomes a wolf ends up a
どん
wolf
な
to the
もん
core.
春まで
Even Haru. Why?
あなたは
You were a human in the other
これま
feast,
での
right? Can
前
you
の
tell
こ
me
とを
more about them?
教えてくれませんか？
Thus he started talking. He participated in 2 feasts in the past. This was his 3rd. Jesus Christ, dude. But as far as he knew, there was another feast before that. It happened about 60 years ago. Shortly after he was born, the mist came and many died. It coincided with World War II. Youths from both Kami Fujiyoshi and Yasumizu were drafted to the battlefield, so most of the ones who died at the feast were elderly women and children. After that, Yasumizu, which once had dozens of people, quickly deteriorated. Deaths weren't the only cause, some just fled.
その時
I
の
don't know
こと
much about
は
that time, but the
よく
elders said it
わからん。
wasn't supposed to happen.
どういう意味でしょうか？
What do you mean?
知らん。
No idea. They just said that the wolf
狼が本
should
当
have
に出
never
ると
actually
は
appeared.
誰も思って
His
おらんから。
explanation was so full of holes that I didn't really understand. Well, they did say that, like, it was, like, fake until the one time a wolf actually did show up. Well, we don't know about that yet, right? We haven't actually jumped to that timeline. However, it seemed like until the event during the war, the Feast of the Yomi Purge wasn't considered yet as a paranormal event. Most couldn't believe that the Okami had actually appeared. It shocked everyone. They began to think that they'd angered the mountain. Some of the elderly believed that the Fujiyoshi's blood spilled in the war had awakened the wolves. It happened just 60 years ago, but it greatly spread the darkness of the local superstition. Apparently, something that happened in Yasumizu at that time helped too. Kanza-san said that people were killed, and I couldn't tell whether Kanza-san didn't know the details or if he found it so detestable he didn't want to say it. Whatever the case, the main topic of conversation happened a while after that. It was the 2 other feasts, the ones he participated in. He said that there were no myths for the whole 40 years after the feast of the war. The war ended during his time, and though some tried to fix it, Yasumizu was in an awful state. People died, the workforce was lost, poverty became worse, some still living went to work away from home, causing the place to deteriorate even further. However, Kanzo-san felt that the main cause of this awful state was the darkness of superstition clouding the locals' hearts. Kanzo-san could remember how, when he was young, everyone just worked the fields with cloths over their faces, constantly afraid of something. Those cloths were an item used in the mountain Shinai festival. Their purpose was to prevent eye contact with Yomibiro, though Kanzo-san himself used it to keep the sun out of his eyes and to prevent his game from sensing his vision. But at the core, it was an unreasonable tool born from superstition. Anyway, as the village became more and more unreasonable, the mist came. It happened about 15 years ago. At that time, Tei-san and Chiemi, who was still in her first year of elementary school, were participating in an event in Kamafujiyoshi, so they ended up avoiding the incident. The 2 village heads who were in Yasumizu right now weren't here to begin with, while Takumi-san was already an adult working away from home. Haru-chan was born just a year before, and since her parents were on vacation, she'd also avoided the tragedy.
旅行ですか？
They were on a trip from
小さい子を
Yasumizu
連れ
with a
て
small child.
嫁は
My son's wife was a teacher
学校
from
の
a
先
nearby
生だっ
town.
た。
She went back to her parents.
じ
なるほ
I
ど。
see, I'm impressed he
しか
decided
し
to
よ
marry
く
someone
外の
from
も
out
の
of
を休めずに
Yasumizu.
嫁
She
入り
was
させる
pretty
決
much
心
an
がつき
outsider,
ました
huh?
ね。
もちろん
Some complained about it,
よう
especially
ワンコ
Teiba.
あなたは反対
You
し
weren't
なかったん
against
です
it?
逆よ
The opposite. I
こ
dressed
の時
easy
期
knowing
向こう
they
の
could name
里に行ける
Yasumizu
な
at
ら
this
安
time of
心で
year.
逃げられた
It
の
was the
は
only time they'd
そ
ever
の時
escaped
だけじゃ
them.
ったか
Anyway, the only ones who experienced that feast and were still alive were Kanzo-san and the old wolf guy. So he fucking survived 2 of them?
今の
It
と
was a feast like
何
this
もか
one.
みん
No
な
one wanted to hang
最初
anyone
は
the
く
first
くり
day,
た
then
が
the
ら
wolves killed someone.
加護者
Had
が
a
名
fake
乗
for
れば
every guardian
偽
receiver.
物も立つ
No one trusted anyone and then voted. Go against
し
the
ま
rules
い
and
に
get
は
the corruption.
掟に
Some
挑んだ
tried.
者
They
も
died in the
いた
mountains or because they didn't shelter.
この
The
宴で
feast killed the Higuchi heir,
樋口の跡取り
Uribe
も
is
死んだ
Yasu and Yoshi's dad.
織部の
I'd heard of that. He was killed by
Yasu
the
and
wolves on
Yoshi.
the first day.
親父
He
よ
was either wise enough for the wolves to see him as a threat or they just hated him. Both were likely, but I didn't care about that now.
どうして長
Why
者
would
で
a
あった
village
彼
head
が
come
休
to
みず
Yasumizu?
やつ
He
は
came here by himself to make a
休みずに
proper
まともな
watering
み
hole.
樋
The
口の
Higuchi
中
family
は
fought over who'd get this dirty job.
狙っ
And
た
it
ような時
coincided
期
with
に
the feast. Was it planned?
実際
Many get sent
こ
here
の
at
時
this
期
time of
に
year.
休み
Year
ぞ送
1,
り
too.
な
I
るほど
see, but wasn't it unusual to
い
invite
やしかし
outsiders at this time of year?
そいつは確か
That's
だ
true. It's also the first time a
そも
journal
そも
came
記者
here
や
to
らが休
Yasumizu.
みずに入ったの
The
か
fact that outsiders were
ねえ
invited at all was way more suspicious than the timing of it. They needed more bodies. Anyway, about 10 people died in the feast, and Yasumizu lost a third of its population. It was awful. Kanzo-san was just a human without any guardian. Half of the participants were old people who'd either experienced the last feast or were in the war. Naturally, they could make awfully cruel decisions, and some tried to go against the rules, leading to severe punishments at the hands of the corruption.
わしは
I couldn't do
何
anything.
ただ
I
恐
just
ろ
hid
しい
from
の
the
を
scary
隠
stuff
して
and didn't say a thing.
その時の
The
一番
eldest
の
there
事
told me
情
to
を
watch
言
and
った
learn because I'd be the one running Yasumizu if they died.
そいつも
He got brutalized by the
狼
wolves
道
soon
祭り
after.
狼は
Who were the wolves?
3匹
We
の
only
うち
found out one of the
Ni-
three, but the
Jaga.
last one we hanged was a girl
最後
about
に
as
く
old
くっ
as
たのは
Toru,
トールの
my son.
今思い出しても
Remember, it still gives me
ゾ
the
ッと
chills.
あの
As she got the noose on her head and fell, that well-behaved girl
鬼みてえ
cursed
な
us with the
面で
face of a demon.
わしら
I
を
knew that
呪いな
feeling
が
well
ら
due to all my looping,
縄
but I
に
couldn't
かか
really
って
say
お
it.
そ
After
の
that,
後
we finished up the feast. The
残っ
old
た
fart's
もん
been
で
like that
宴の
back
始
then
末し
too.
て
The old wolf guy.
戻ってきた
They
タ
came
イバ
back
ーと
and
せ
told
がれ
Teba,
たち
my
に
son, and everyone else that there'd
事
been
故
an
が起き
accident,
た
but there was nothing to
じゃ
worry
が
about.
小さい血は
When
ビ
she
ビっ
was scared
て
and got all quiet
し
for
ば
a
ら
while,
く
she
塩
would
ら
ask
し
me to
く
go
な
with
っ
her
た
to the
もん
bathroom
よ
at night.
じきに
Takumi
匠
came
が
back
戻
right
ってき
after,
て
and Higuchi's wife was
オ
sent
リベ
here
の神さ
with
んが安
Yasu.
連れ
She
て
had
休
Yoshi
み
in
ぞ
her.
そ
That
れ
was
が
the first feast.
ちなみに宴が
If
始
I
ま
may
る前
ask,
に
did something happen in
休みず
Yasumizu
で
before
何
the
か事
feast
件は起き
began?
る
What do you
なん
mean?
じゃ
何でもいいで
Anything
す
big enough for the
長
village
者が
heads
目
to
に
take
留めそうな大
notice.
きな事件
その
A
何
few
年
years
か
before
前
that, there'd been an illness
ここら
here.
中で
It was
病
hell.
が流行っ
Dozens
た
died, and I was
あり
one on,
ゃ
and I was
ひどかった
on the verge too. It's
何
probably
十
a
人
typo.
か
それは
Cholera. What
何の
illness
病
was
気で
it?
したか
I
知
don't
らん
know. Gave everyone
ひ
bad
でえ腹
diarrhea
下
though.
しの病だ
Was that relevant?
じゃ
What
あ
about the next feast?
その次の宴
8
8
年前
years ago, after a
大
bad
雨の
rain, the
後
mist came
霧
again.
が出た
It started after the landslide at the Nosato construction site buried some people.
何人だか埋まってから
I already
宴
knew
が
some
始
things
ま
about
った
that feast. During it, the children, Teisan and Kaori-san were in Kamifujiyoshi and had killed Haru-chan's parents. Gensan, one of the survivors, mentioned something about the badger, and Haru-chan somehow survived the mist. Kanzo-san added more information to that. Takumi-san had been working away from home again, and Kanzo-san was the crow. He was absolutely certain that his son, oh shit, Toru Makishimashi was a wolf.
せがれは
My son
Segaremo.
said he was the crow.
Yomega.
Oh, that
ト
sucks.
ミコが泣きおる前
Tomiko, his wife, cried as my
わしと
son
せがれは
cried as my
罵
son and I
り合い
shouted at each other, saying
て
that
め
Bill
え
is
が
a
多
wolf.
くそれ
In the
で
end, there was a vote. He's the
し
one who
まい
ended
に
up hanging.
最後まで
He kept saying it until the end. He said he
自分
was
が
the
本
real
物
crow
の
and that
カ
I
ラ
was
ス
the
じゃ
wolf.
と
There wasn't a bit of lies. Oh, so he's probably the badger.
親父が多くわしは
If he wasn't the
自
crow, I
分
would
が
have
カ
believed
ラス
him.
その時
If I
も
wasn't the crow, I would have
た
believed
だ
him.
じ
Back
じい
then,
と
only the
ババア
elders
があい
voted
つ
for
に入
him.
れただけで
And it was really close. I
わし
almost
も
got hanged.
それで
And
その
someone
晩に
got
一人
brutalized
ち
that
まっ
night.
あとは
And Tomiko, thinking that I was a wolf, tried to kill me at night, and I got the corruption because she didn't
物
shelter
意
me.
味を朝
The next morning, the
霧
mist
が晴れ
cleared.
た
なんですって
What? It cleared? You
火
didn't do
祭りの
anything
後
after
に
the
何もしていないのに
brutalization?
霧が晴れた。
Haruchan's parents' final moments sparked some emotions from me, but I had to comment on that. Wait. Okay, so Tomiko was the wife, and his son was the crow. Well, his son must have been the badger. He couldn't have been the badger though, like, cause I don't think the badger would out themselves by trying to claim like the wolves would have had no idea who the real crow was. But the spider, you don't fucking claim the spider. So claiming the spider would have done something.
本当に血
Was
祭
it
りで
really
し
a
たか
brutalization? Are you sure
狼
the
が何
wolves
か
didn't
間
mess
違
up
え
and suffer the
て汚れを
corruption? No, it was a clean axe kill.
その
How
時
many
までに
wolves did you kill until
確
then?
実
Out of the 3 wolves, only my son. I was the crow, so I knew. The mist cleared with 2 wolves still alive?
分かっ
That was supposed to be impossible. The feast rules didn't allow that. Wolves could only die during the day, and since one of them killed someone during the night, the wolves had to be alive. Yet the mist cleared despite that? That was supposed to be impossible. Or maybe it was unnatural to assume that the mist, a natural phenomenon, was directly linked with the feast, a man-made one. If the mist was actually somehow controlled by humans, then maybe it wasn't unlikely for it to clear due to some mistake. It would make sense if that happened this time. It would also explain the Gensan thing. If he'd been a wolf and accidentally survived, it would solve the whole contradiction of Kanzo-san, a human still being alive while a wolf was able to leave that crucial bit of info. If there was a way to control the mist, it probably wasn't linked to the control of the loop. Still, maybe it'd be useful. I'd keep this in mind.
ハルちゃんのこと
Wait, still,
は
maybe it'd be useful. I'd keep this in mind. What about Haru-chan?
た。わし
I
は
only know what I heard.
春はせ
She
が
might
れ
have
がく
entered
くられた
Yasumi
晩
the
に
evening when
休
sun
み
was
室に
hanging,
入
but
った
no
か
one
もし
saw
れ
her.
え
The mist cleared
そ
after
の
that,
次に
right? Had the mist cleared because of God?
とにかく
So the mist ended
それ
there.
で
匠も
And
呼
I
び
called
戻し
Takumi to
て
help clean up.
それで
Then Haru-chan
ハルちゃ
became
ん
weird.
わしは
I told her it was an accident, that her
お前の
parents
父ちゃん
got
と
lost in the
母ちゃ
mist
ん
and fell
は
off a cliff. I
言え
couldn't
る
say
わ
it.
け父ちゃ
I
んが
couldn't
王
tell her
だ
that her dad was a wolf and that her mom got torn
母
apart,
ちゃんが
right?
駒切れになったなんぞ
Kanzo-san was
言えるわ
unusually
けがね
talkative.
え
The strange wolf before him made the rough, silent old man reveal things he'd wanted to take to his grave.
あなたは
You were right to do so. Still, the girl lost her parents.
春は
So she got weird.
狼つ
Wolf
きですか
possession, right?
それもよ
That's one thing. She'd also been a good, cheerful girl, and
素
it
直
made
な
her
い
all
子
edgy
だ
and
った
selfish.
あんな格
She
好
started
をし
wearing
て
these clothes and still carried around
あの
that bottle
時
she'd
に
had
持っ
with
と
her all
った
that
生
time.
徒を
それは
I'm not sure about that.
狼つ
I
き
don't know
の
about
件
the
はともか
possession, but
く
I feel like the changes
彼
in
女
her
の態度
behavior
や
and
趣味
taste
が
are
変わっ
just
た
in
よ
your
うに感じ
imagination.
あるいは
Maybe it's only
あな
happened
たがハル
because
ちゃ
you
んに
built a
対
wall
して
between
壁
you
を
and
作っ
her, and
てい
she
たか
did
ら
the same.
てめえ
Don't
に
act like you know.
わかり
I
ます
do. We're both wolves.
あなた
I
が知
saw
れない
glimpses of her true personality.
彼女はび
You'd
っ
be
くりする
surprised
く
how
らい
honest
素直
she
です
is. I'd almost call it
いや
greedy.
言われたこと
She's a good, honest girl who
与えられ
takes
た
in
ものを
whatever
ど
she
んどん
hears
取
and
り込んで
matures like the teen she
した
is.
たかに成長
I'd
す
call
る
her talented just for that.
嫌味なし
I
に
can honestly call her a good
いい子
girl, a good person.
いい人間
If
で
it
す
weren't for the situation, I'd
こ
ask
ん
to
な
be
こ
in
と
a
がなければ
relationship
交
with
際を
her.
申し
She's
込み
that
たいほど
charming.
事件の後
Then there's you.
彼女に
You
真
were
相を
afraid
蹴
that
取
she
られ
might
るこ
find
と
out
を
the
恐れ
truth, so
て
you distance yourself
距離
from
を
her
取っ
and
て
refuse to give her
あ
anything.
なたじゃないん
Right,
ですか
Kanzo-san?
関蔵さん
He didn't get mad at me. He just cast his eyes down. This wasn't the energetic, strong hunter I knew, but an old man caught the throes of regret. What a shame. It was so sad that this world would become nothing but a dream. This exchange that could perhaps remove the wall between the old man and his goddaughter would be gone. Oh well. I'd have to solve it all anyway. I tried to fix their family's relations too. It wasn't necessary for Haru-chan and I to be wolves for my words to resonate with him. Out of the 3 wolves, only my son. I was the crow,
せ
so
が
I
れが
knew.
ちよあんな格
She
好
started
をし
wearing those
て
clothes and still carried around
あ
that
の
bottle
時
she
に
had
持
with
っ
her
と
all
っ
that
た
time.
水筒を
I also solved
未
a few
だ
more
に下げて
mysteries.
おる
This is a good time to end it.
さて
Now, Kanzo-san, you need to go back. Everyone's
そろそ
worried.
肩貸
Give
せ
me your shoulder, I'll take
連
you.
れ
何を
What are
寝
you
ぼけてる
ん
あなたに
Your
は
only choices are killing the
狼を
wolves or
殺すか
betraying the humans and
人
killing
を
them.
だった
That's
ら
why you can only kill me or
今
leave me
僕
here
を
and kill
殺すか
everyone else.
その
Right?
どち
Huh?
あなたが
I know full well that
ハルちゃんを大事に
Haru-chan is
思っている
important
こ
to
と
you,
は
but so are the others,
十分
right?
僕と
If you
香
kill
織さんと
Kaori-san, Haru-chan
ハ
and
ルちゃん
I,
を
you'll
殺せ
win
ば
with
最
minimal
低限の犠
casualties.
牲で勝
By
利でき
vote or
る
by bullet. I'm sure
投
you
票
can
に
do
しろ
it.
さ織部兄
The
弟や
Uribe
拓海さ
brothers,
んや
Takumi-san, the
ご老
eldest,
人
the
たちや
village heads are
長
blameless
者たち
here.
あなたは
That's why you have to
それ
decide
を
right
決めら
now.
れる
Don't
立
act
場
like
に
you
ある
care about whether the feast happens
疑
today.
まあ
Well, I know
宴
that
で
you'll
同意
suffer
を
the
経て殺
corruption
さ
if
な
you
いと
don't get the others to
汚れを
agree.
生むただ
But I'm sure that
あ
you'll
なたは
choose
き
to
っと
massacre either the humans or
汚
the
れ
wolves,
覚
even
悟
if
で
it means getting the corruption.
ハルちゃんのために
Dying
死
for
ぬなら
Haru-chan
命
is
は
an
なくなる
option,
し
and so is killing
ハル
Haru-chan,
ちゃんを
but
殺して
surviving
自分が
yourselves,
生
and
き
I know
残
you
る
won't
選
pick
択は
either option. I don't get it.
て
What are
め
you
え
after?
一体
Would
何
the
を
sheep
考
get mad
え
at
て
me
る
if I just said I wanted to die die quickly and naturally and move on to the next time. That was the absolute truth. But the thing I really wanted to say now was,
牧島勘三さん
Kanzo Makishima-san,
あな
I
たが
need you to
善
be a
人
good
でないと
person.
正しいと
Please
思
do
う
what you
選
believe
択
is
を
right.
してく
With
ださ
that
い。
done, I close my eyes. After a long period of hesitation, I heard a metallic sound come from his rifle. His breathing was already steady. He'd made his decision. It'd be bad for me if I just died here and there was no loop. However, I did find it sad that this man's resolve would become nothing but a dream. $19. That was the one I needed, right? $3, $8, $19, and $20. Now we're gonna go looking for him. At that moment, my head was flooded with information. So this is the very first time, the very first feast, or the very first time the myths come up. Instead of her shoving me in the outhouse, we're probably gonna go look for the wolf demon. And Chammy's here, so she knows. No, there's no way. Does she know we loop? She has to know we loop. I felt like my mind was crushed by a million sheep. Crap again? With this timing at such a chaotic moment, I had lots of things to think about, but that'd be a waste of this loop. Well, I would start by calming down.
ちえみちゃん、ちえみちゃん、
何
Nani? You
ま
still
だ
don't
思い
remember?
出せない。はじめ
Nice
ま
to
し
meet
て
you,、
ちえ
Chammy-chan.
みちゃん。
Oh, now she knows. Oh, yeah, right. I'm late, but nice to meet you,
そうだった
Haruaki-san.
絶対に
Don't make a sound.
や
Stop,
め
I
ろ
was being serious.
本気だったんだ
Since
か
we
ら
started sharing memories, every loop, one of us, mostly Chammy, always forgot something, leaving it to the other to remember.
今回なん
What
か
are you
試
gonna try
すの
next? I'm not great at night, you
夜
know,
は
as you know.
あ
Yeah, don't force yourself. I have
無
an
理しないで
idea.
戻っ
Will
て
you
これ
come
る
back?
多
Probably
分無
not.
理。
What are you gonna do?
さっさと
I'm
自
thinking of
殺しよ
killing
うかな
myself right here and now.
なんかそういう
Man,
の
that's not a good habit to
全
pick
部
up.
解決した
What
後
if
に
we
癖
have
に
it
な
by
って
the
そう
time
で嫌だ
everything's
な。
solved?
そうだね
Yeah, it's not a good
よくない
trend. I'll try
傾向だ。
whatever I can.
悪いね。
Sorry, what do you try?
ヤス君にモーション
Making
か
a
けて
move
み
on
るとか
Yasukun, maybe?
あ
Oh, go
あ、
on
なる
ahead.
ほど。
Are
怒
you
った
mad?
いや、
No, it'd be weird if I
怒る。
was.
だよね
Yeah,
もちろ
of
ん。
course.
嘘だよ
This was a
そんな
joke.
のし
That was
な
a
い
joke. I wouldn't do that.
そう。
I see.
じゃあまた
See you later. So it's just. Oh, well, we don't have to do anything now because now we know. Had I been attacked just now? It was no big deal. I could easily control my feelings toward other people. Man, why was I so mad? I needed to get a hold of myself. I was not by myself. What was there for me to do? I just remembered. I tried to solve that problem. Though it probably wouldn't be a solution. But if I didn't try, I felt like there'd be a trap waiting for me when I least expected it. And so I went north of Yasumizu. This thicket near the graveyard was where that person supposedly lived. Oh, the fucking guy! Naturally, it was empty. Then again, not much time had passed since the mist came. Wait, is he looking for the wolf guy? I hid in a bush not far away and watched the dwelling as the mist covered it. Just as I expected the corruption to come after me. He's here. Forget. He showed up. The old man who cried wolf. He'd done some strange things on the loose, but always ended up dying. I'd assumed that his senility was just an act, but I still didn't know the truth. Though I'd gained more reasons to suspect him recently. I feel like he's the one who's dreaming. He's the one trying to summon the demon. I'd love to expose him for who he was. I continued holding my breath and watching him. Apparently in the hut he was carrying around a lot of dirty cloth bags. I saw it from behind the shabby wall here. But I also feel like he's like the one you'd most expect. So it's gotta be someone you most medium suspect. So like Yasunaga or Ikako. The state of the place was one of the reasons I suspected him. Could this place, which had more holes in it than the outhouse, really be used for sheltering? Over the many loops, I realized that there were two primary dangers here in Yasumizu. One was the bringers of corruption, as God said, the rabid dogs, and then there was the were the werewolf-like creatures that were probably Great Lord Shinai's servants. You could beat the former, but not the latter. Normally the dogs upheld the order of the night, but if the rule breaker dealt with the dogs, that thing appeared, killed the rule breakers, that set things straight. I hadn't escaped that thing once so far. The dogs would definitely kill you if you slept in a place so damaged, and that was another thing I found suspicious about him. As it turned out, he really didn't have any intention of staying in his house. Yasumizu was deathly quiet, so it wasn't a good situation to try and tail him in. I had a feeling any rustling I made by moving around would tip him off. Still, I couldn't just watch him leave. Oh, whatever, I just trust that he couldn't hear that far. Even so, I got on all fours and followed him, careful not to step on any leaves or loose twigs. I climbed over a collapsed Okiba too, and I could only hope that wouldn't mean I was cursed or something. Well, if I was, I felt like God would have punished me by now. Weren't we outside of Yasumizu by now? I thought that was like a blood splatter or something, but it's like the opening of trees. The Yasumizu area was like a scar cut off from the land, surrounded by cliffs. Was it okay as long as we didn't cross a cliff? In that case, I really should have looked into this overgrown area a bit more. There were still many things I could try. It wasn't the time to despair. But damn, the old wolf guy seemed to know exactly where he was going. Was this hideout nearby? That sound, was that water? Is there a river here? I looked around to find the source of the sound. It felt like it was straight ahead. There was a river in Yasumizu? Wait, where did he go? It was pretty dark right about now. Had I just lost sight of him? But I should have still been able to hear him walking around. Did he suddenly vanish? Well, if he could actually do that, it'd explain a lot of things about him. I had to find him. Carefully, though, I couldn't forget that he'd killed Mochi once. What if he'd already noticed me and I was walking into an ambush? That wasn't the case. He just wasn't here. I had to find him. No way. There were two main things I found out as I walked around this area. There were no people here, and the sounds of water were coming from below. Apparently, there was an underground waterway beneath here. When I stomped on the ground, it made a hollow sound. It was probably used for the paddy fields. Water came here from the settlement above and flowed out into the Saranaga. It must have been dug a long time ago, and is still in use today. Or perhaps this place was inhabited before? Wait, even if they could get drinking water from the wells, paddy fields needed a richer source of water, didn't they? What was its source? Again, there was no river in Yasumizu, it only had little ponds. The document from the Nosada mansion mentioned that Yasumizu had its waters carried by irrigation from Kami Fujiyoshi. Was this it? In that case, it was a pretty major piece of property. How did they maintain it? Even if it was buried underground, didn't it get blocked every now and then? Wouldn't it be possible for there to be almost no people going in and out of it? About the wolf guy's disappearance. Could he have entered the waterway? If there was some sort of secret entrance here and he went through it when I wasn't looking? It was already dark out, so I took out a flashlight from my bag and pointed it at the surface. The dogs would arrive soon. I had to find it before then. Is this it? There was a patch of ground that was higher than the rest. It could easily be mistaken for just an irregularity in the terrain. But if it wasn't... I put my finger in and felt something made of stone inside. It felt like someone was messing with the ground here daily. Wouldn't this open if I turned it around? I did it. The stone plate that covered the waterway was lighter than expected. I could now hear the water clearly. This waterway was unexpectedly large. A single person could easily walk through it if they crouched a bit. Had the old wolf guy gone through here too? Even if he hadn't, surviving the night by hiding here wouldn't be a new thing for me. I could try it. Flashlight in mouth, I went inside. I returned the plate though. I didn't know if the dogs would come after me, but I could probably fool the thing. And in I went. It'd be completely dark here if I didn't have my flashlight. The water here was only about 3 centimeters deep, but the flow was pretty fast. There seemed to be lots of stones on the bottom. It was unexpectedly well designed. The hard surface made it impossible to slip, but it was pretty dangerous for me if the current got any faster. I'd be carried straight to Saranaga, and it'd be a waterside of death. That's probably how the bodies kept washing up, was they were all fucking people who died, like, wandering through these underground waterways. I had to start by searching in the opposite direction. The waterway slightly curved as I continued walking. I could breathe normally, but the puddle was extremely claustrophobic. Where was I right now? I'd walked 100 or so steps, so I had to be at least on the plaza. Suddenly, I realized something. The flow had stopped? The water that had been flowing below me was just a small trickle now. There had been a decent flow coming from up ahead. Had someone stopped it? I had a bad feeling about this. It was night. If someone was controlling the water, it couldn't have been someone in Yasumizu. I tried pushing up, but nothing happened. The stone plate from before was the only place that could move. Also, going to the surface at this time meant certain death at the hands of the wolves. I had to continue. As I pressed on, the dry tunnel began to widen. I could walk normally now. It was a large underground passage that they created by digging through bedrock. Like I'd expected, there was a major irrigation setup here. As I thought that, I saw a tunnel to the side. It started at about my waist level. Even if the water was running, it wouldn't flow in there. I felt like I could crawl inside, but for now I'd just try going forward. There was more and more tunnels at the sides. Is this where the fucking landslide happened and killed those fucking people? The main waterway became more complex, with 90-degree angles and steps and stuff. When I got in a waist-high step, I took a break. I heard a sound. It was coming from far away. It was familiar to me. The sounds of claws on heavy floor, ragged breathing, growls full of uncontainable bloodlust, that feeling that there was a pack nearby. Dogs. Crap. What could I do here? Enter a tunnel? I looked inside a tunnel and lit it with my flashlight. I couldn't see anything inside. No. There were dogs in there too. There was no safe space here. I had no choice but to run back. That was when. What's wrong? That voice. Young and lost? I directed the flashlight at the source of the voice. Haha, bright! In one of the tunnels about as high as my waist, the old wolf guy looked out at me as the light made him cover his eyes. Sorry, are you okay? It's dangerous here. It's safe here. It's safe here. Excuse me? This is the most safe place. That's why I'm here. Where was he when he said that? Really? You'll die if you stay in there, though. I knew it. Please help. Please help me. Come in. The old man turned around and crawled deeper into the tunnel. I was supposed to follow him, huh? I felt like I was getting closer to the truth. There were many beasts behind me. I gulped in, tense as all hell, crouched, and entered the hole. So he's not the bad guy. I had to crawl for about a minute while lighting up the old guy's ass like we were in some theme park attraction. There we go. With those words, he entered a larger space. I followed after him. It was a room. Neither large nor small. It was about the size of 4.5 tatami mats. It seemed to be made of wood. The humidity in here had made everything moldy. It looked like antique workmanship to me. I crawled inside. Once I stepped in, I felt something other than rock under my feet. It was really unstable. Confused, I tried to use my flashlight to see, but that was when the wolf man lit a match. A match? He used it to light up a lamp. That made the place bright. I finally realized that this place is like a literal dump. There were pieces of cloth, vinyl bags, and plastic bottles filled with liquids I didn't want to know about. The entire floor was covered in such things, and we were walking on them. This had to be the place where he slept. As I looked around, the wolfman pushed me away from the entrance. A one, a two, then he pushed the heavy-looking stone object back over the door, shutting us in with a heavy thud. We're safe now. Safe. Safe. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. He went deeper in and sat down on a pile of garbage, so I did the same. I felt myself sink into the floor. Eat here. He took something out of the cloth bag he brought and extended it to me. It was a bread roll inside a plastic bag, specifically one made by the most famous makers of this stuff. You could get this anywhere. However, it was weird to see it in Yasumizu. It was a settlement detached from the outside economy, so it didn't fit it. It didn't fit it at all. Yet this place seemed to have tons of such stuff. I'll have it then. I looked at the surface of the bag. It was made less than half a month ago. It wasn't even past its best before date. Where did you get it? Eat and drink this. He gave me a cracked teacup. In it there was a transparent liquid. What's this? Drink. What is this? Booze. I took it and smelled it. I wasn't sure about it. It did seem like alcohol, but I wasn't sure what to think of the little bug in here. I didn't mind drinking it, but I had to make my position clear. Thank you for helping me. I came here to talk to you. Drink. You act like you don't know anything, but you do, right? Huh? I came here to ask about the feast of the Yomi Purge. Huh? You survived the previous feast. I want to ask you about that. Drink. Okay. I gulped down the content of the tuck-up. It was rotten, but I was able to gulp it down without vomiting. Thank you, old wolf guy. Or should I call you
藤吉
the
20
main
世帯
culprit
殺し
behind
の
the
主
20
犯殿
murders, Fujiyoshi
と呼ぶ方が
break-ins? So you know about that, eh, youngin?
とるじゃ
I knew
ねえかわけの
According to the info in the Nosato mansion, the murder incident was concluded, and the trial and execution of the self-admitted culprit. Of the self-admitted culprit, however, the trial wasn't based on a thorough examination of the circumstances. One of the largest murder sprees in Japan's history was said to have been done in about half an hour, with only a kitchen knife. People of that time questioned this as well, but the confession took precedence above all and was considered enough evidence to deliver the punishment. I couldn't really blame them, though. It was a time of chaos with the war and all. However, if you considered the idea that there were multiple culprits, some things made sense. Due to the distance and difference in quality of life, the people of Kami Fujiyoshi didn't know much about Yasumizu and what kind of people lived there. And there was also the fact that the supposed murderer, Kihei Tojitani, wasn't mentioned in Kami Fujiyoshi at all until he turned himself in. That meant that the witnesses in Kami Fujiyoshi hadn't known about what Yasumizu's people were up to. When the police went to Yasumizu to investigate it after the confession, the people only said things that supported the idea that he'd done it. This meant that the people of Yasumizu weren't aware of these actions, and that those who weren't suspected could easily have been complicit in it. The old wolf guy had been considered not of sound mind for a long time, so he'd been ignored. That hadn't changed even now, and had gotten to the point that no one cared if he'd just vanished into thin air for no apparent reason. And that's why he killed Mochi with the fucking knife, was because he had experience with it, I guess. Considering his character alongside the timing of the incident, he'd have been in his 30s then, and that his mental state was just an act, I could easily conclude that he was the type of man who could commit murder. He was the true evil hiding in Yasumizu, a serial murderer who'd escaped divine punishment and survived.
なんじ
Did the
ゃ
Yuguruma
とう
finally
と
come
う
to
見
get me?
る
No, that'd be weird. You don't know jack about this tunnel, eh? I don't get you. You a cop or something, huh?
僕は
I'm someone who wants to stop the peace of the Yomi Purge.
よし
Stop.
よ
Stop.
し
No, ain't that brave.
見
You
る
wanna
ま
fight the
と
Meguruma, huh? Damn
読
fool.
み耳の
I
宴
know
の
that the Meguruma
直
are
接
directly
的な黒
responsible
幕
for
が
the feast,
荷
and
車
that
家
this
だっ
won't
て
be
僕
easy.
は
I'm not here to
あなた
expose
の
your
過去
past
の犯
crimes.
行
I
を
just need
暴
your
こうとし
opinion.
安水
You're
の
someone
掟
who
の
broke
み
the
なら
laws
ず
of both Yasumizu
藤
and
吉の秩
Fujiyoshi
序を破り
collectively
続
after
け
all.
てなお生き
He
続
went
けてい
quiet,
る
and
俺にゃ
that ain't fun for me at
うま
all.
みが
He made an expression that was new to me, a display of unconcealed
なん
malice.
ですって
The next moment, I heard a sound behind me and turned around. They're here.
来や
There
がっ
was a
た
sound of
か
claws scratching on the boulder covering the entrance. It was accompanied by growls,
汚れの
the bringers of corruption.
え
You know that much and you
こ
still
こま
came
で
here?
して
I don't get you. He probably wouldn't understand if I told him that I had nowhere else to go.
こうやって
You
石で
plan to
塞いで
avoid the situation
難
by
を
closing
逃れる
yourself
気で
in
すか
like this?
おう
Yeah.
お
I'm safe right now. I just eat, sleep, and don't have a care in the world. If the feast comes, I'll just play around and hide here. I ain't uncomfortable, not one bit. He intentionally twisted his laughter as his shoulders shook.
殺人事件
You'd
の
be
真相が
uncomfortable
ばら
if
さ
people
れれ
found
ば
out about the crime,
あな
wouldn't you?
それに
Also, why are you so
この場所だっ
confident
て
that it's safe here? You
安
think
全
you
だ
can
と
hide
なぜ
from the
言えるんです
Meguruma for long?
死
Hide? You don't know shit, do you? The Meguruma already know about me.
荷
You know
車
about the
の
eye of
目
the
の
Meguruma?
ことは
Why'd you ask?
な
You're
ぜ
trying to bait me, huh?
って
He was right. This guy was even sharper than I imagined. I'd already confirmed that the Meguruma had a surveillance network spanning all the
引っ掛
Yasumizu.
けようとした
There were these tunnels too. The scratching dogs behind me made it clear that they were commencing the feast. In that case, there was no way they didn't see this place. That meant that they knew all about this man who was hiding underground. Hell, the fact that he'd been given the role of the Badger made it clear that he was involved in the feast. His situation wasn't like mine the first time when the Meguruma simply didn't see me and put me in the feast. There can only be one answer to this.
荷車家
The
は
Meguruma know
あなた
about
の
you
ことを知っていて
and used you for the feast, but
宴
they
の
were
客
trying to
とし
take
て
your
もあ
life.
なたの死は
Is that because your death would be
荷車家
bad
に
for them? You can talk good, huh? When you're my age, even that makes me jealous.
答えて
Can
も
you
らえま
answer
せん
me?
か
Sure, the sleepiness ain't coming yet. Well, now,
眠
I
気
silently
が来
prepared
るに
myself.
ゃまだ時が
His story could be
早
summed
い
up like this. He was indeed the culprit, a serial killer who'd killed about 10 people in the incident back in the 1940s. However, the one who had the idea was Tochitani Shi, the one who'd get executed. Toji Tanishi was a Kami Fujiyoshi person sent to Yasumizu, and though he wasn't the violent sort, being sent to Yasumizu left a deep-seated grudge. He constantly grumbled about it and couldn't get used to life here no matter what. He was an outcast to everyone except the old wolf guy. Toji Tanishi often told him on the outskirts of Yasumizu that he'd get back at Kami Fujiyoshi eventually. So I threw fuel on the fire and told him to do whatever he wants and all that. If that had really been all he'd done, then Toji Tani would have been pretty murderous to begin with. It was bad enough that he'd actually went through with this evil-minded friend's idea. Anyway, that led to the plan, if you can call it that, to kill as many Kami Fujiyoshi people as possible. Now on the day it was time to kill, the old wolf guy had given Toji Tani lots of divine sake he'd stolen from the hall. Once they were drunk, they both covered themselves in Saranaga's mud and moved out. I asked if it had something to do with the Fujiyoshi myths, and the answer was yes. It matched with what I'd learned in the Nosato mansion, that the origin of the Yomibito legends was the Yasumizu rebels. The old wolf guy was probably the reason why an ex-Kami Fujiyoshi person found out about Yasumizu's legend so quickly. Anyway, Toji Tani is still drunk and looking like a Yomibito, began the massacre. The old wolf guy, covered in mud himself, secretly watched as he stole valuables from the places. He mentioned that the burglary was his main objective. Since he didn't want to leave any evidence and wanted to make it seem like the massacre was the goal, he only took the bills from wallets as well as various envelopes. I had a hard time deciding whether using mass murder to get rich was subtle or blunt, though at that moment something he didn't expect happened. It was damn good. Everyone who saw us was so scared they pissed themselves and fell. No one resisted one bit, so I figured I'd try to kill them. It'd be all his fault after all. That's the human thing to think, right? I had a good time there, young, and no comment. The fact that no one resisted was related to the absolute loyalty and the faith that the Nosato looked into, the god problem. Anyway, he went on to kill over a dozen people, steal lots of valuables, and escape before things escalated. As he washed off the mud, returned to his place, and looked through his spoils, he found something really noteworthy. It was a piece of paper he found inside an envelope with money. He quickly understood what it meant, and it was huge. It was a bribe. Toji Tanishi escaped, turned himself into the police in Tokyo, claiming it was all his doing, and the story ended with the execution. He was small and petty. He must have realized what he'd done after he sobered up. He did have the guts to run, though. However, while the national reports on the serial killing subsided, things had started to change in Fujiyoshi. The village heads and their associates had begun visiting Yasumizu more and more often, and for unknown reasons, more and more people were sent to Yasumizu. And a while later, a real feast of the Yomi Purge began. The old wolf guy hadn't participated in many conversations in Yasumizu, so he only found this out during the first feast. Apparently the Meguruma had been acting shady, and it was because they were searching for something. That something was stolen from one of the murder scenes. They talked that it could have been something necessary for the rituals, like a talisman or something. They'd even speculated that the Okami returned because it was lost. As the rumor mill churned, the old wolf guy was the only one who knew the truth. It was the thing he'd found, that it was something that'd be bad for the Meguruma. What was it? Eventually it was, Chiami's pendant. Oh, Jesus. A copy of a human trafficking contract. Human trafficking, but that wasn't so uncommon back then. It wasn't, but still. No one knew that the Meguruma were buying people. What do you mean? The people they bought aren't anywhere, and there's no job for them to do. What do you think happened to them, huh? They used them for their messed up rituals and experiments. Oh, you know your stuff. I don't know the details, but it wasn't something they wanted others to know about. Families like the Meguruma don't want that kind of stuff made public. That's why they started to face the farce of the feast. I knew that, so I wasn't scared one bit. That meant that the old wolf guy was the only one who knew that the phenomenon that started it all was just a Meguruma conspiracy. Damn, so it is all fake. It had been bad for them if the scandal spread throughout Fujiyoshi. It could potentially undermine both the local faith and their influence. They frantically debated how to preserve their secret and with it their authority. If you looked at it from a certain angle, it was to prevent another Yomibito rebellion, so the main cause of this was basically God again. I saw how it was now. Anyway, the old wolf guy knew the truth. Thus, he'd used his guile, got into his target's heads, and tried to figure out what they were doing. That was how he found this waterway. Everyone knows that this waterway is underground, but it belongs to Kami Fujiyoshi. They just floated it out. So no one in Yasumizu knew what kind of thing this was. Didn't even think about it. Those who did find it ended up killed, but I prepared for that. That was the core of the matter. He'd somehow established contact with the Meguruma. and told them that he had the contract and that he'd go public if he died. If they didn't want that, they had to ensure his safety. He used the info as a hostage to protect himself. It was an action movie plot, but could it work in real life? Fujiyoshi was a small village. If he'd asked someone here to reveal the truth if he died, they could just take care of that person too. I asked about that, and he said that he had a contact in Tokyo. That was when I found out that he wasn't born in Yasumizu. He was probably like me who tried to move to Yasumizu. He'd arrived here as a drifter and got sent there. He was pure evil, a scumbag who'd come here just to deceive people and commit terrible acts. Anyway, the villains and the prey villain met to create a villainous pact. Every year, he went outside the village and secretly reached out to his contact in Tokyo. If he didn't show up even once, his contact would reveal the Meguruma's secret to the public. And if they didn't want that, they had to keep him alive. Of course, I had questions. What would have happened if the wolf guy died a natural death, or if the Meguruma became unable to keep their end of the deal because the leader changed or something? In response to that, he said it was a battle of wits. The Meguruma weren't actually certain that the old wolf guy's death would mean that their secret would come out. They probably didn't think that his weapon had survived a whole 60 years and made it to the modern era. Also, it was a question whether such an old scandal would deal much damage to the modern Meguruma. They were still afraid of the worst-case scenarios, though. To allay their fears and buy more time, they left the old man alive. It was a small price to pay for the feeling of safety. If it cost anything more, though, he'd have been removed a long time ago. Old wolf guy's own words. It showed a skill at negotiating particular to villains, and he was proud of it.
わかりました。
I see, so you can enter this place
つま
because
りあなたは
you're on a secret
宴の
contract
主
with
と
the
密
masters of
約
the
を
feast.
さらには
And you can do
宴の
things
掟に
against the
反
laws
し
of
た
the
行
feast
動をと
because
って
the
も
corruption won't apply to
汚れ
you.
は
Is that
免
how
除
it
され
is?
おー
Yeah, interesting, ain't it? You're the only one I ever
お
told
め
it
だけ
to.
じゃ
He whispered that, then
こ
drank some
れ
rotten
まで
booze.
に
How is
こ
that
の
a process this?
話を
That it was
俺
possible
に
to
聞
negotiate
い
with the
てきた
Meguruma?
のは
No
よ
Like he said, his deal was only accepted because of how small the price they were paying. They'd never agree to stop the Feast of the Yummy Purge. They wouldn't tolerate my goal. I could only achieve it by making an enemy of them. In fact, stopping the feast wasn't even my ultimate goal at this point. That meant that this time, the only thing I'd gained was physical protection in the form of this underground waterway. Oh, there was another thing. I'd realized that I couldn't let my guard down around this person. That was good enough for me.
それで
So when will it start working? Huh?
どうせ
I mean, the booze you gave me
僕に
was
飲ませ
poison,
た酒
right? What are you on about?
とぼけないで
Don't
くだ
play
さいね
dumb. Keeping you safe is cheap.
あなたの
As
保
if
身が安いいつ約束を
you're an
破
insane
るかわ
villain
から
who
な
can
い
break the deal at any
イカれ
moment.
た
No
悪人を生かしておく
no
なんて
normal villain would just
ま
let
と
you
も
be.
どうせ
Such exchanges
その辺のや
normally
りとり
involve
は
a mediator
ま
of
ともな
sound
仲
mind
介者で
and
も立てて
without anyone
双
feeling
方
wrong.
そして
And there has to be
あなたが
another reason
宴
why
で
they
生か
kept
さ
you
れるには
alive, such as something that made
別
your
の理
life
由があるはず
beneficial to their
だ
projects.
例えば
For example, you
見ちゃ
could
い
have been
けない
assigned
も
to
の
take care of anyone who saw
入っちゃ
things
い
they
けない
shouldn't
場所
have or went somewhere they didn't
そういう
belong.
ものに触れたものを片付ける
Having cameras
と
wasn't
かね
enough. You also needed an on-site operator to dole out punishments. Otherwise, you'd have to send out people every time it happened. Exactly. And it was better if less people knew about these dark happenings. In that case, it was best to leave the protection of the secret to Yasumizu's traitor. Basically, he was... There's no poison. It's just something that numbing. It's just something that numbing for whoever's not used to it. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't feel my legs, and it wasn't because I'd been sitting for too long. As I tried not to let it show on my face, he started rummaging through the garbage. Oh. Well, I'll get at it later. He took out something I could never forget. It was the mask piece of the wolf outfit. After tossing it aside, he put his hand on another mountain of trash and took out something else. It was a dagger. Youngin, you're like me. That's the face of the villain. You see stuff, you know stuff. You must have pulled some shit outside. And now you escaped because you're bored. You remind me of me when I was a youngin. Oh, how I wanted him to spare me that shit. Give up though, I'm enough for this village. He was right. Anyway, time for my first kill in 8 years.
あなた
You were a wolf 8 years ago, weren't you? That was fun.
その
How
時
many
までに
wolves did you kill until then? Out of the 3 wolves, only my son. I was the crow, so I knew. It was the feast 8 years ago. The mist had cleared when only one of the wolves dead. If Gensan, the one who knew about the badger, was one, the third one had to be around too. It wasn't guaranteed that the old wolf guy, but as it turned out, the truth was always the worst possible option.
最後に
One more question. Huh?
あなたは
Have you met God?
神様と会ったか
It didn't matter that he was an outsider. Even Kaori-san, who'd come here from Tohoku, had been infected by it. He couldn't have been an exception to that. If he really was a scumbag like me, admitting that he'd submitted to a god must have been extremely humiliating for him. He didn't reply. This is God's garden. If you're that smart, you could have escaped far away from here. You have no future. I hope that my words would help me get back at him a little. I didn't want to lose completely this time, but... You guy's a ninja. He laughed. Listen, youngin', this ain't God's garden, but my fortress. Run wherever you want, but there's no safer place than your own fortress. You need a fortress for protection. Things haven't changed since samurai times. It's people that don't get that who are scared of stuff you can't see, like God. The numbness was starting to get to my lips. You were never afraid of God? God ain't scary. There was no fakery in his words. Anything made by people can be killed. He said that and swung down the blade. You said I ain't got a future, eh? I'm 95. Hearing shit about the future from a youngin' that's about to die just makes me laugh. Oh, he had a point. I really underestimated him. He was right. You needed a place for protection, and then there was his idea that you could kill God. His serpentine wisdom had let him survive for several decades all by himself. He really was pure evil. The evil I discovered many loops ago was incomparable to him. He was a true villain. Well, I really didn't mind what happened here. His fate was to die at the hands of Chiemi or Kanzo-san, one of the foolish Yasamizu people he so looked down upon. I had no reason to tell him that, but it really was humiliating to die at the hands of such a cartoonish villain. Number 1. Alright, so that's not the last one. So where the fuck do I use 1 at? Isn't it like right at the very beginning? That's 4. That gave me 1, 2, 3, 20. $16. Did I do this one already? Oh, this must be a different one. So then I'm probably just collecting the remaining. So this will be a different key. And then there's going to be one that needs like all of them at once. Which is over here maybe? Oh yeah, wasn't that the last one? One, 3, 8, 9, and 19. So yeah, all I'm missing is 9, I think. No, I don't want this. I want the key. Or 9 and 14. Yeah, 9 and 14. So is 14 needed for that one? No. So this is probably what gives me 14. And then the other one probably gives me 9. But now I have to go find it. It's like somewhere over here, I think. Fuck, what was the point? It was here somewhere. Choose route, entering village. All set. No. Decide arrangements. Right here. How to pass time. What part was this? So I'm not a wolf. This is when Chiemi and Mochi are wolves. Okay. Okay. I have to pee. It's fucking late and I'm hungry, so I'm gonna stop. We're gonna finish this shit on Thursday so we can start playing fucking Bendy.